Okay, I'm going to put it this way. I'm going to put it very kindly.
I'll be a
I'm
good
going to
boy.
put it very kindly this way. If you are interrupting and interrupting and interrupting, and then later someone interrupts you, I'm going to let them interrupt you. And when you start pleading to the moderator to get your own time, I'm going to be like, nope, like you're doing the same thing to them. And that's usually how I play it, but I don't say it out loud beforehand. So I'm saying it out loud beforehand that if you are a constant interrupter, like Soy, you cannot plead to the moderator later when you want to be able to speak without being interrupted as well. I play fair across the board in that aspect. Now, if
Can we
you're,
plead to you when Soy won't stop gish galloping and not answering arguments the
I
entire night?
I typically here's how I put it. If somebody's not answering the
I'm just on your
question,
shit, Sarah.
it's
It's fine. I'll go with the vibe.
it's good. Like I think people call people out all the time for gish galloping, not answering, filibustering, so on and so forth. Is if somebody's just rambling on, I'll tell them to land the plane, but you got to let me have that opportunity to tell them to land the plane. Now, what the great thing about debate is when you call that out after they're done gish galloping and rambling all sorts of all over the place, and then you can call that out, right? You can actually say all of these things. You said all of this nonsense and blah, 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 but you didn't actually answer the fucking question. You can say that. Just try not to be pouncing on them because sometimes people answer questions in a long, rounded way. I recognize it when people do it. I'm very familiar with that style of talking, but you got to give them at least the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm just teasing. I've been
I
doing
know.
this for years. You
I
know what I
know
mean? Like
you. I know. But some people, I just recently had this issue where people start complaining about interruptions, but then they're the ones that are just as guilty, and it cracks me up. So
I can't think of anybody that would have done that.
I can think of quite. I could. Did you watch the circus panel video?
I didn't see that one, but I can think of a few people. I was just being facetious.
Well, I'm gonna just start making funny music videos about everyone after they do dumb shit here. Anyways, but so interruptions. I think we've made it very clear how I feel about that. Mudslinging, name calling. Have fun, children. But let's not make it the entirety of the show. If it just gets to a point where that's all you're doing is just name calling all over the place and making fun of each other, it's going to get old after a while. Get back to the topic, stay on topic. Number three, personal attacks on people's family, children, personal lives, anything that is not on screen already. Please keep it off of my screen. Any personal beefs, if you have, like, I don't know, Soy, Fabian, if you guys had some personal beef prior to this, leave it off my shit. It's not the topic. I don't want to hear about it.
Nothing
Or
personal.
save it for open panel. Save it for open panel, and I'll give you a little speed date and you can have fun with it.
Wait, Sarah, are you saying that if like someone's kid does come on screen, we can absolutely insult them?
A really ugly date.
I'm just imagining like my toddler coming into the room
Yeah.
real quick and be like, "Oh no!" And then him just like,
But
just
that baby
10
doesn't
minutes
know
of,
about the
like,
non-aggression
look how
principle.
fat that fucking baby is. That fucking piece of shit baby. It's like you said on screen.
I mean, you could break that down into technicalities, yes. And then, of course, everybody gets 4 minutes. Actually, Admiral, you have the claim. You have the affirmative position here. It's your prompt. I'm assuming you want to go first.
No, I think Fabian, you want to go
I'm
first?
going first. Yeah.
Oh, yes, sir. Then Admiral next. Soy and Buckaroo. You want to go first, Buckaroo? And then
I'm fine.
or whichever one.
I'll go
You're
second.
the one that dragged.
No, I'll
Soy
go
in
second. Ladies
here.
first.
No, I have such a
Yeah, every preference she has now that I'm here and been dragged in is the opposite of what she wants. So
Yes, I concur with that because she she did drag you in.
I did. I really messaged you and him at the same time. Like, let's make sure it's Soyville. Like, I sent him all caps. Like, please.
Aw, what a man. So we'll do 4-minute opening statements. Fabian, you're going to start off. Soy, you have the final word in that. Then we'll go into the debate on the way back round for closing statements. Soy, you will be first. Fabian, you'll have the final word. If I am trying to break it up, please just listen for my voice. I try not to yell, but if you guys provoke it, I'm just going to be a total bitch about it, and you don't want me to be there. Overall, play well, play nice. Any questions?
Yeah, do we do we say who we are and everything in our 4 minutes, or do you want to do that first?
You're welcome to plug in that 4 minutes if you want. I'll do a brief intro of everybody's name. But
well,
overall,
then we're good,
yes,
yeah.
if you want to say I'm Fabian, here's where you can find me, whatever, that's fine too. Closing statements, and I'm not stringent on the timing, like about 4 minutes. If I see you're going like 4.5 and we're still going, I'll just let you know, hey, 30 seconds. Most people don't utilize more than the 4 minutes anyways. But I'm not like a hard lock asshole about it. So if you want to take that time to plug your name and whatever, that's fine too. Any other questions? Okay. Let me just step away for 2 seconds. I'll be right back, and then we'll kick off.
All right, guys. So this is a Raging Tomato debate. For those of you who are coming for the first time, you're about to experience the dumbest arguments possible. If you think WIC panels are chaotic and stupid, this is going to be 100,000 times stupider. I did this out of a favor to Big Papa. She wanted a partner. We'll do it. If you don't like this slop, you want to learn something, I don't blame you for leaving. We're going to be talking about libertarian brain rot, I'm sure. And I don't know. Enjoy if you enjoy. If you don't, I'm doing other things too. I really want to go work on my video, so have fun or don't.
Hear me out. If you're an illegal, like, why do you not have your car straight? Like, I just don't understand.
Well,
that,
so
like,
what happened was
like, I'm not pro
he was picking up
deportation.
he was picking up another car that was already like wrecked, and he put it
Right.
on a trailer, and he pulled out, and he didn't have the lights hooked up on the trailer to the back of his.
Right, I'm just saying, like, I'm not pro deportation, but if you're an illegal and you don't have your shit straight on your car, I feel like you just fucking, like, that's a Darwin Award. Like, you just, like, I don't care if you get
I'm just
deported. I'm like,
asking for
you're
it.
fucking dumb. Like, yeah, like, come on, dude.
Yeah, I mean, he just gave me plenty of ammo to use in all these deportation debates. I totaled my car because this goddamn illegal was here in America.
Just like the fucking Asians in Ohio, the car insurance rates are going up.
You guys
My
get it now?
moderation style is very loose. I'm not here to call out your logical fallacies. I might tell you like that was fucking stupid. I'm here to offer translations and referee. I try to stay out of it. It is your debate to have. But if you are constantly interrupting and just being a butthead, that's where I'll start intervening and being the turd. For the beginning, I'm going to start. I'll put you all backstage. I'm going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. Then the intro video will play. Intro is about 2 minutes long. Approximately 30 seconds before the intro video stops, I will put you back on screen. And that's just your cue to know in 30 seconds you will be on screen. Don't pick your nose at that time. Any questions?
Wait, are you
Final
seriously doing
thoughts?
the Pledge of Allegiance?
I started doing it a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Do you want to say it with me? I
No,
put
no.
an overlay up.
Of all the
I'm gonna
times
use
I
the
want to
restroom
pledge allegiance to my
since
country,
there's-
now is the least time that I would like to do it. Honestly.
That's fair. I think I actually think I'm going to
I'm
start
ready
doing
though.
it
Are we?
solo.
Yeah. When are you gonna
because
get the military to sponsor us and have the jets fly over to drive up recruitment numbers? When's that happening?
Hey,
I
that's not
like
a bad
it.
idea.
I like it. I thought about it and I was like, we don't say the Pledge of Allegiance enough, and my chat seems to be happy with it. All right, I'm going to
Jesus.
throw you
Ew,
all
don't say
backstage. What?
Spangled Banner before.
Oh, no,
like,
not
big
you.
debates.
My chat.
Oh, are you live on your end?
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
live.
yeah.
Normally people let people know. That's okay.
I got a lot of libertarians. All right, so you bring up the Pledge of Allegiance, I immediately get a chat of just, wildness.
Are they angry?
Fuck 'em!
We got.
That's
we
what
only,
I have to
We only
say.
got 2 slurs. I don't care. Whatever. Use your
They'll
timeout.
live.
There we go.
What's the slur for a pledger? Like, what do you call someone who
Flag
does a flag?
Flag it.
Oh my god. All right.
Also, what we use for people that have a lot of flags in their bio on Twitter.
Oh
you
my
can have that
god.
one.
All right, that's fair. All right, I'm throwing everybody backstage. Let's kick this off. Have a good time tonight, and I expect at least a fair fight between all of you. Okay, here we go.
All right, and I'll do the thing I do, which is take my headphones off and mute the very long intro. Wait, is this a new one? Do you guys want to hear it? Let's see. Oh wait, hold on. Is she pledging allegiance? All right,
To
you
the
can
flag
you can hear this,
of the
guys.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one
Oh
nation,
my god.
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This is embarrassing. Okay, here we go. Here, the muting this. All right, I don't want you guys to have to hear that. Soy, what is this debate about? Thank you for the $5 international spying. This debate is about 4 hours too long, I'm gonna guess, but this is about whether or not political violence is inherent to progressivism, communism, and socialism, which is just like the most absurd prompt ever. And I think we're just gonna have a big libertarian brain rot stream. But you know, this is what happens when your friend pulls in a favor. An AI saying I think that was her real voice, Black Libertarian. That was real. So yeah, you know, hop in. Haha. I love the days when you live and learn and then hop on a panel like this a couple hours later. The whiplash is unbelievable. True, Silomirus. It is like, wow, a bunch of people talking about like the things that affect our country, and then like, it's the stupidest fucking debates ever. Oh God. There's no comma written into the under God. You're not supposed to take a breath. I always do that. One nation under God. At least when I was in kindergarten, which was like the last time I actually fucking did it. Also, wait, yeah, Black Libertarian, you're a Libertarian. You might be against me in this one, but no, so Gibbs isn't a Libertarian, and I think there's actually going to be like some strife between them, funny enough. Bratty Tomato Studios, wow, she's got like the whole studio set. Isaac, you got to stop doing these. I feel like you do it to torture us. Isaac, I said no immediately when asked, and then Big Papa was like, please do this with me, and I'm like, okay, because she's my friend. I can't show my face right now, Christopher. It's coming up, don't worry. Can you imagine doing the pledge before your shitty panel show starts? I mean, look, she's got... All right, it's about to start. Hold on, I gotta unmute you. God, it's so hard.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. I am Sarah, the Raging Tomato, bringing to you live another Moderator Monday. This evening, I have with me Fabian Liberty, Admiral Gibbs, Big Papa Buckaroo, and the Soy Pill. Our statement of the evening is socialism, progressivism, and communism are all inherently politically violent. Fabian, why don't you kick us off with your opening statement, please?
Yeah, Fabian Liberty, you can find me pretty much on Twitter and YouTube predominantly. If you just Google Fabian Liberty, you'll find me. Thank you for having me, and I apologize if my voice isn't quite there. I'm still coming off of a flu. But anyways, let's get started. Tonight I have the unenviable task of explaining to liberals that water is wet, or that socialism, progressivism, and communism are inherently politically violent. So let's first establish what is political violence. Political violence is any initiation of physical force, coercion, or fraud by individuals, groups, or institutions, especially the state, against persons or their justly acquired property, aimed at achieving political ends, such as control, domination, or redistribution of resources in violation of the non-aggression principle. All forms of socialism, communism, and progressivism at their core advocate the violation of private property rights and individual liberty in the name of political violence.
It's going to be a libertarian debate, boys and girls and non-binary plurals.
One cannot claim to be against political violence simply because they denounce an assassination or an overt military coup when they are also representing a philosophy that inherently violates the liberty of the individual.
Eccentric, I did call this
all three of the ideologies
Kardashians of debates.
Refer to as leftism. While yes, there are differences between Marcusean liberals and more classical communist philosophies that focus on revolution, they share the same ethical contradictory claim that might makes right. All forms of leftism believe that their preferences, be it their utopian belief in the communist end state or the amorphous religious worship of the sacredity of democracy, justify using the power of the state to forcibly remove rights and properties from individuals. Now, the left will surely attempt to dismiss this critique by stating that my definition is overly broad, encompassing many republicans, monarchies, tribal governments, etc. Let me first say, so what? I don't fucking care. I am none of these, and your weak whataboutisms is not an argument nor justification for your support of political aggression. I have no need to entertain your cope, but I will. When the right embraces political violence in the modern context, it is often mirroring the left. But unlike leftism, it is not inherent to right-wing philosophy. So what even is right-wing? I posit that right-wing philosophies or ideologies are ones that represent the following beliefs or values. the axiom of human teleology and collective teleology, the axiom of virtue, the entropic law of human nature and of institutions, to include the iron law of oligarchy, order-based politics, and low time preference investments. Said in other words, right-wing ideologies are not concerned with violating property rights, but rather with maintaining stability, ferreting out cultural and political decay, and investing in life-affirming long-term solutions. None of these political values require political violence, but many conservatives throughout history have adopted it in order to impose these values. We've seen time and time again that when societies degrade from socialism, the right cuts free the sword of Damocles and uses socialism itself as a weapon against the enemies of the good. They become the very thing they hate because the prisoner's dilemma only works when both prisoners decide to keep their fucking mouths shut. We've seen it in Nazi Germany with classical fascism, and we're seeing it today with Charlie Kirk's death and the right's embrace of a mere fraction of the cancel culture of the left. The inherently violent left has rejected the open hand of conservatives over and over again, and they are begging for the closed fist. In short, political violence is the collective usage of force against individual rights for control and preferences. This tactic is center to leftist ideologies and seen as both correct and morally good. It is true that the right often embraces this quick solution out of fear of decaying society, but it is neither inherent nor necessary for the right. But it is often a response to the inherently violent left.
Perfect. Thank you, Fabian. Admiral, to you.
All right. Thank you so much. You can find me everywhere as Admiral Gibbs, YouTube, Twitch, everywhere. All right, let's get started. Although the modern leftist would have you believe that the political ideologies of socialism, progressivism, and communism are these lofty, morally good utilitarian ideas, the fact of the matter is that this is a perfidious deception built upon an insidious foundation of arrogance, manipulation, and overt violence. All one must do to see that this is the truth is to look at the leading historical
Guys,
figures.
don't worry,
of
I have a
these
script too.
people like Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, Dr. Joseph Goebbels, and others. These men have claimed to be angels of the light, leading men out of the darkness of capitalism, but in reality, they were little more than charlatans and false prophets, leading men and nations to their violent ends. Despite these blatant historical facts, our opponents may try to deceive you, the audience, with the lie that they are somehow more advanced and civilized. Yet modern proponents of these philosophies continue to advocate for the adoption of these evil, inherently violent ideologies from the same malicious trifecta of arrogance, manipulation, and
Guys,
violence
I already have a
that
headache.
duplicitous forefathers proposed. The only difference
I
being
think he got
slightly
AI
different
to write this
branding
for him
and
because he can't
having
even
more
pronounce a
modern
couple of
media
these words.
training. Let's examine this further, starting with arrogance. The proponents of these theories think that they know best and won't engage in honest discussion about their ideals because they know once they're examined that the jig is up. Let's start with Marx and Engels. At one point in the Communist Manifesto, Marx and Engels sputter this baby-back bullshit. But does wage labor create any property for the laborer? Not a bit. You heard it, folks, in the discussion. Not a bit. The two pseudo-intellectuals proclaim nobody anywhere knows of anybody working for wages who has purchased and owns a single thing after they get their paycheck. Nobody has ever heard or seen of a worker who saves and invests, starts a business, or improves his economic condition by accumulating property. But wait! I'm sure the intellectual giants that are Marx and Engels would have footnoted this exception. I'll look at the bottom of the page to discover the source of this absurdity. But oops, no footnotes, none. The authors of this spleen-bending screed labeled the manifesto expect you to take their word for it. And you better not disagree because they later assert in shameless arrogance that the charges against communists made from a
Guys, I have
religious,
such a headache already.
and generally from an ideological standpoint are not deserving
I'm going to
of
stop
serious
being friends with
examination.
Papa after this.
The
So
right,
she can never
this
rope
right
me
here
into
is
it
the
again.
founders of these philosophies to secure
does
their
sound like a preacher.
arrogance, basically stated there's no point arguing with their philosophy because they are smarter than you and they know better than you, so you should just take their word for it. Manipulation. Moving on to manipulation, I feel
Where
it is
are
wise to look at
mathematicians
the
buried?
father of
The
propaganda and
symmetry.
avid
Where
socialism.
are dead
Dr.
computer
Joseph
hackers
Goebbels.
buried?
Goebbels
In
was a master
Decrypt. Thanks,
wordsmith and was able to take the
Deathpoints.
most evil of ideologies and frame it into an almost laudable light.
I
He
can't
once
listen
said,
to
to
this.
be a
while I'm
socialist
trying to
means to let the
study.
ego
Oh,
serve the
no.
neighbor, to sacrifice the self for the whole. In its deepest sense, socialism equals service. He said, in those damn Nazis, why are we socialists? We're socialists because we see the social question as a matter of necessary injustice for the very existence of a state for our people, not a question of cheap pity or insulting sentimentality. The worker has a claim to a living standard that corresponds to what he produces. This was followed up by him helping to craft the socialist policies of the Nazi Party, like peace through joy and many other socialist policies policies laid out
Jesus
in the
Christ,
25-point
dude.
plan. These silken words and
It's gonna
policies
have a
are
heart
conflicting
attack.
the people, hiding the fact that this socialist redistribution of wealth was accomplished by the Holocaust and brutal persecution of their political opponents. The proponents of these ideas always use lofty goals and feel-good honeypots in order to lure in the general public while using the overt violence to provide. Don't believe me? Let's once again look to the founders of these ideologies.
He's on time limit.
It's
It's
obvious
4
from the
minutes,
manifesto
Ellie.
that Marx and his pal Engels saw violence to achieve the communist objective as a given. Marx criticizes socialists who do not understand the necessity of revolutionary violence. They naively wish to attain their ends by peaceful means that he says are necessarily doomed to failure. Quoting Dr. Goebbels now, we are not a charitable institution, but a party of revolutionary socialists. He goes on to say, in 1918, there was only one task for the German socialists: to keep the weapons and defend German socialism. Joseph Stalin, another famous communist, once said, one death is a tragedy, a million deaths is a statistic. Finally, before I conclude, I think it is prudent to include two quotes from a modern champion of progressivism. Hassan Piker, referring to the capitalist states, you need to be shanking these motherfuckers and letting the motherfucking intestines ride on stage. He says, slice them up, and fucking dice them. And another viral video talking about landlords, Piker states,
Trash.
kill them, kill those
Please don't make the
motherfuckers, murder
horses
those
come.
motherfuckers in the street, let the streets soak in their fucking red capitalist.
Please don't. Thank you
Do
for the
these
5.
statements make you think of the non-violent Mahatma Gandhi or the maniacs with violent proclivities? In conclusion, communists, socialists, and progressives everywhere support revolutionary movement against the existing social and political order of things. They openly declare from a place of arrogance that their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions using inherently violent means such as manipulation and overt violence. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Admiral. Big Papa to you.
Guys,
I
I have
asked the
such a
audience
headache
to
already.
imagine themselves discussing political violence with their family or friends, and whether they would all see violence the same. When discussing political violence online, brought to mind are images we've seen on the news over the past year, including the killing of Charlie Kirk.
Yes, this is the
and
Libertarian
CEO
alley.
Brian Thompson. But is that actually what we're discussing? If you were to ask a libertarian, the violence to which we refer could be as abstract as taxes, regulating marijuana consumption, even upholding freedom of speech itself, as they are all enacted through the state's monopoly on violence. If you were to ask the staunch Republican, perhaps violence is more adequately related to things like abortion, gun crime, or whatever it is they were doing on January 6th. We could go down the list of different political and philosophical ideologies and list out the various perspectives they have on violence, and we still would not have a singular definition of violence itself, but an amorphous glob of vibes. That's right, vibes. And that is what is being placed on socialism, communism, and progressivism. Ideologies which
I don't even want to read
themselves
my intro anymore, guys.
actively
I'm gonna be real.
advocate for better healthcare, education, and community support for every citizen. That is not to say that power in the wrong hands will never do harm, but when we look at the ideologies themselves, we do not see this inherent violence my opponents suggest. In fact, we see something much more interesting. If we were to look at the statistics of people who do and do not support political violence, you will find that in 2023, 1/3 of Republicans believed that true American patriots may have to resort to violence to save the country. MAGA Republicans were 3 times as likely to advocate
Papa, you're supposed to be
for
fast.
violence. Following more recent surveys, independents and Democrats both still measure less likely to advocate for violence than Republicans. When you get down to it, not only are we unable to come up with a singular, concrete definition of what is or isn't violence within this debate, but if you look at the numbers, the people most likely to advocate for violence aren't Democrats or independent voters, but Republicans themselves. The call is coming from within the House. Thank you.
Thank you, Big Papa. Perfect. And to you, Soy Pill.
Yeah, I'm going to start off by saying I'm here under duress. I think all governments need some sort of threat of violence to remain a state to enforce laws, but for something to be inherently violent, I expect a higher bar. Explicit calls to violence, suppressing dissent, excising undesirables, so fascism, Nazism, etc. If violence is just maintaining any form of law and order, this debate is silly and pointless. Calling any of these ideologies inherently violent is silly and pointless. You might have a strong case against communism, suppressing its peoples, but that's historically society under any of these labels could of course exist in ways that are not violent, just like capitalism could be peaceful, monarchy can be peaceful, as long as they're not doing some major human rights abuses. So we're not going to do that, though. We're debating a libertarian. He's going to constantly remind us that anything that violates the NAP is violence. So funding the military, violence. Civil Rights Act, violence. Taking a percentage of your income so that babies don't starve, violence. So I'm looking forward to the next few hours of headache where we discuss the basic structure of how society works, and then the imaginary libertarian fairyland that doesn't exist, and yeah, and then Gibbs and Fabian will be on the same fucking page and yell at each other. So let's do it.
Perfect. Thank you, Soy. And to the audience, as a kind reminder, we will get through the debate, then we will move into closing statements, read and respond to your kind super chats, and then, of course, your favorite part, we will go into open panel dumpster fire. Soy Pill, I hear, is looking forward to the horse video. All right, lady and gentlemen, I leave the floor open to you.
Mind if I start since both intros called me out?
Sure.
Yeah. Well, you both seem to take issue with what you assumed my definition of violence would be. That's fair. But also, since you guys prepared for that, neither of you gave a definition of what would be political violence. Instead, you both vibed out the things that you thought were extreme or the things that you thought were bad, which I kind of called out in my intro when I was talking about you don't get to say that you're against political violence just because you're against the extremes of it that feel emotionally visceral, right? I take issue with this because if you think that I'm being obtuse, do you have a definition of political violence that is coherent, that allows you to be able to then say that your ideologies are, or the ideologies that you're defending are not inherently violent in some meaningful way that other ideologies are inherently meaningfully violent, as opposed to communism, socialism, progressivism?
So right, the
Because it is
reason
also
we
your
pointed out the
critique that-
extreme things is
Go ahead.
because if we use your definition, which you correctly pointed out in the beginning, it will be incredibly broad, and I agree. I think it is broad. If you're saying that every single ideology except for the fictional libertarian one that currently doesn't exist and never has existed is violent because it enacts some sort of state law enforcement, taxes, or something, yeah, sure, if you use that definition, but it's just so pointless. Like, why even bother calling political violence such a? I don't even think Gibbs agrees with you there. So it's like, why even fight against your own partner and say everything's politically violent in a debate specifically about these three ideologies?
Well,
I'd like
I'll
to
respond
know-
very quickly. Well, I'll just
I
respond
mentioned-
very quickly. You said you immediately began with a straw man, didn't answer my question like the coward you always are in these debates, and then called libertarianism fictional libertarianism. But I'm the only one actually giving definitions so far.
Okay,
So do
right. So
wanna
you
try
don't like my
again?
definition. I could say physical harm
You
upon
give one.
another individual, for furthering political goals, probably involving some sort of human rights abuse or something of the sort. But I would not include the state enforcing the laws as political violence. But I think you would.
I wanted to
Okay.
let Big Papa chime in because she was trying to
So
get something.
Hitler
in
never
there.
engaged in political
Yeah, I'd like to
violence?
clarify. I didn't call Fabian out. I just mentioned libertarianism because lo and behold, there are more libertarians than just Fabian. Actually, much more educated, much more well-rounded libertarians, I would argue. But hey, we can get to that later. I mentioned marijuana consumption. I did not think that was going to be seen as the most violent idea of libertarianism. I mentioned marijuana consumption, taxes, and upholding the freedom of speech, which, if you are considering the non-aggression principle, I would say if you're talking about political violence that can be enacted by a state, then upholding laws of the state would then be considered political violence, no?
Yeah,
Maybe that's
obviously.
you.
Oh, okay. So the
So-
things that I
so do
listed
you have a
absolutely
definition?
did fall into your definition of political violence. So I don't know why you complained for so long
this
about what
is-
I said.
So she's granting you your
So
definition.
this is right. So both people are granting my
well,
definition.
it's
Well,
it can
no,
come
up
up
with
I'm
their
not.
own
no, to be
definition.
Hold on, hold on.
clear, I
They're just
already
accepting.
listed.
I'll take the dub for
Did
the
you
night.
hear-
Who needs
did
to
you
allow
hear
it?
my
It's
Hold
worse
on,
than that. It's
hold on. I'm
Did nobody hear
thankful
my
everybody agrees on a definition. This is probably the first for the show.
Well, it's worse than that, Sarah.
No,
Let me
it's
tell
funny
you. Let me
because
tell
my
you.
whole argument was literally that nobody here agrees on a definition. I'm not sure if he
Well,
wasn't listening for my
You just
opening.
agreed to it.
But,
So I
but
asked for your
the
competing
majority
one.
of my opening was quite literally saying that the two people who are affirmative on this don't agree on what political violence
That's not
is.
true.
So
Hold
the
on.
idea that so you really
hold on.
because
Well,
everything
well,
that you listed didn't seem to be with regards to the non-aggression.
Well, hold on. Well, let's hold on.
I didn't
First
even
of all,
hear you mention it. I didn't hear
well,
you
that's
mention
cool.
state
That's
backed
cool
violence
because
or a monopoly on violence. I didn't hear you talk about the different kinds of violence that are listed by Rothbard himself in the initial paper where he introduces the non-aggression principle. So I would absolutely love for you to explain in depth how your concept of violence is exactly the same as Fabian Liberty's.
well, one,
Just for the record, she still hasn't given a definition.
yeah, she's agreed already. First, she granted yours.
Again,
Well,
nobody listened to me.
Hold on. We listened. It's my turn now. Okay. He just went and put a definition for you, agreed to it. And then what is worse than that is Soy actually in his opening actually gave away the game even further when he listed all these forms of government. And one of them specifically was the Nazis. This is from the book, 1940 book, German Economy, 1870 through 1940 by Gustav Stoppler, an Austrian-German economist in German. He explained National Socialism was anti-capitalist from the beginning. It was also in direct competition with Marxism following World War I. All right, and so this is his direct quote. The first angle was with moral principle. The second, the financial system. The third, the issue of ownership. The moral principle was the commonwealth before self-interest. The financial promise was breaking the bondage of interest slavery. The industrial program was nationalization of all big incorporated business, trust, by accepting the principle, the commonwealth before self-interest. National Socialism simply emphasizes antagonism to the
Can save him so
of
much
a
time.
competitive
Like, even if
society
this
as
was
represented
left-wing
supposedly by democratic
socialism,
capitalism.
it doesn't
But to
matter.
the Nazis, this
It would have to
principle
all
means
be
also
this
the
for your
complete
argument to hold true.
subordination of the
It's so
individual
silly.
to the exigencies of the state. And in this sense, National Socialism is unquestionably a socialist system. They're the only socialist system that's worked on a large scale to the degree that we can say was somewhat successful, and they're inherently violent, and they only exist because they pursued political violence, which I think we can even restrict further as, like, I don't know, inflicting law, like they through military force, which is basically what Fabian has put forth. So yeah, I would say I'm in agreement with what
Thanks,
he's
you,
saying. If you're having
Vishay.
an
Hold
overhead
on, no,
of government,
Gibbs, you just said
actually-
restrict his definition,
would
so you're
love
not
to
in
say-
agreement with him. Second of
Oh,
all,
well, sure
first,
sounds
I
like
could
it.
have said, I wish I would have interrupted earlier, because if you're going to spend this whole time saying Nazis are inherently politically violent, I'd probably agree with you based on their ideology, but that
Sure.
is not
You agree
all
communism,
socialism.
too.
That is not all socialism, and you would have to apply this definition to all socialism. We can focus as much as you want on specifically Nazis, ignoring
we
the
also
fact
note-
that the Nazis specifically put socialism in their name to deceive people into thinking they were the same as the SPD, and then killed all of them on the night of the long knives, but whatever.
And can we
That's not true.
also note in April
question.
1919, socialists literally held a strike specifically demanding the full and rapid demobilization of the army? Can we talk about the fact
quick
that
question.
actually in the fascist movement, they pushed to remove all of the socialists from their
Wait, is
movement
Dr.
because
Goebbels the
they
third
were
strongest person in
explicitly-
the Nazi party?
because they were
You just are not speaking
explicitly-
historical fact at all.
because they were explicitly anti-socialist. I'm reading this from War, Socialism, and the Rise of Fascism, an empirical exploration from MIT. If you would like to argue with it, go ahead. Now, to quote,
Yeah.
Mussolini
Sure, I would love to.
refashioned the party as a robust
that's
anti-socialist force. You think Mussolini didn't have an influence on Hitler, considering Hitler looked up to
sure.
Mussolini for a
Well, he was a
considerable
socialist.
portion
But yeah,
of
he's a
his-
socialist as well.
of his experience? Yes, and I just read to you about how Mussolini
Do you think
got
think
rid
fascism is a left
of
or right leaning movement?
socialists from within the party. Mussolini specifically fashioned his party to be anti-socialist. That's why it was
Buckaroo,
Just
is
quick
North
question.
Korea
Seriously,
is
just
just real
quick
quick,
question.
real quick,
Stop,
Buckaroo.
stop.
Just
I
quick
wanna-
question.
let me
Is
hand it
North
to
Korea
Fabian.
is North
Hold on.
Korea
Can I just finish my
I
sentence?
just
Hold on,
yeah, but
hold
I just
on,
want Buckaroo to
hold
answer
on.
if North
That's why
Korea
it
is a
became-
fascist or a socialist country.
That's
or not.
why it became broadly supported by conservatives, because they got rid of the socialists from within the fascist party in the early
Not true.
20s.
Okay,
This
Fabian.
is
to you.
Just-
Is North
literally
Korea
history.
fascist
Just
or
quick
socialist
yeah.
or what is
So
that?
hold on, real quick. This is to you, Big Papa Buckaroo, or to you, Soy Pill, or to the audience. Is there anyone that is able to name
Oh, to the audience.
a single communist country that hasn't gotten rid of competing socialist parties? Just one.
Yeah, that's a good question.
I can't think of a single ideology or government in all of history that didn't invoke some sort of political violence, actually.
So
Yeah,
you would concede the point.
But then
that
you would
it's not
concede that
evidence-
it is
Hold on,
inherently
you would concede the point that it's not evidence that Nazi Germany isn't socialist because they got rid of competing socialist parties when this occurred in the
They
USSR.
got rid of
it
all
occurred
of the
in China,
socialists from
it
within their
occurred in
own
Cuba.
party.
Hold on, let him
From
finish.
with, although I
Yeah,
didn't
what do you
just
think?
finish
What do
my
you
sentence.
think the doctor's plot was? What do you think getting rid of the Trotskyites was? What do you like? every single communist country has gotten rid of
The
competing
socialist-
and internal political
The
socialists within their own party.
Socialist
That's not
Party
evidence.
held strikes specifically requesting the demobilization of the army.
Oh, you're just
They
going to
were
repeat yourself?
specifically
Okay.
antagonistic to the army, to
Do
the
you know who
military.
Strauser
force.
or Goebbels are? Big Papa Buckaroo?
Yes.
Okay, so then they didn't get rid of all the socialists in the party because Goebbels was one of the most powerful people. Stauser was as well. So yeah, wrong. You're just wrong. I could keep going through other people that are sitting here that were socialists. Hitler believed he was a socialist. Hess, the modern neo-Nazis based on Hess, he was an avid socialist. And furthermore, you argue about Mussolini. Fascism at the time was even following left-leaning ideology in regards to economics at the time as well. So once again, that's violent. And Soy Pillar just gave away the game.
For 4 years, they did put in one guy that was right-wing,
well,
and then they
hold
immediately
on.
kicked him out after
Well,
he
Soy
fixed
Pill
their
just gave
economy.
away the game anyway. If he wants to say all governments are politically violent, well, then you just admitted Fabian's correct. And
No,
libertarianism
well,
is the only
you're
way to go.
misinterpreting
So
me.
you
All
agree- well,
governments
that's
have
your direct quote.
participated in
Hold on.
political
Literally,
violence.
hold
The
on, hold
argument
on.
is if it's inherently politically violent. So even if
Well,
I
all
had,
governments
if you,
participated in.
well, here, let's be clear. If I had 100 men and each of them had committed a murder, and I can't point to a single one who didn't, and then you say, are men inherently murderers? The answer is no, still. So, but I just wanted to clarify that. Second of all, I mean, you're naming all these people. I mean, I'm literally reading Mein Kampf right now, and Hitler lays out the plan of how he's going to deceive people into joining his fucking movement by calling it socialism. But you're naming Strasser, who's like the fucking guy that they killed for being like socialist because they wanted to excise all these
That's
people.
why they killed
Like, I don't really want to get into the argument of like whether or not fascism and Nazism is right or left wing, because it's so fucking obvious that having the debate is kind of frustrating when it's like, okay, you just have to ignore
Well,
literally
policy they
everything
put
the Nazis said. But we're talking about whether these things are inherently politically violent. And you have like the only, but to be clear, Fabian has an actual argument for this because he uses a definition of violence of if you enforce any amount of laws or taxation, you're violent, which I think is fucking stupid and obtuse.
That's not true.
But no, okay, excuse me. What is your how are these things inherently violent, and also how are Republican ideologies or right wing ones that you said not inherently, even though they tread into them? Just because you kind of gave this kind of vagity
Yeah, I
of,
gave it
well,
in
right
I gave it
wings
in
are
the
about
opening
like
statement, but you were really busy.
well,
talking
no, it
during
was
my
more
opening
about the fact that I
statement
was
to
listening. I
your
was listening to you, but the
Um,
problem is like
Remember, it was
it's
the
very.
initiation
You were listening and talking,
force
got
by
it.
Yeah,
anyone against
it's
the
called
person
multitasking. I
or
know you're
their
not great at
justly
it.
acquired property to achieve any political means. So in that regards, I would argue that all laws are initiating or threatening physical force against people and their justly
No.
acquired property.
No.
And then you inherently violate the liberty of the individual. They all argue might makes right, and then you went on to start complaining about leftists. So my question is, if breaking the law is what justifies violating your rights, then can't I just make any fucking law, and then suddenly, if you're breaking it, I can violate your rights?
Yeah, so let's get into
Yes.
this, right? So let's get into this. So first and foremost, it is not a violation of the non-aggression principle. It's not aggressive to engage in any form of imprisonment, kidnapping, or violence.
Okay, so if I
however
held
you
a
put
gun to
hold
you and I
hold
said,
on,
"Get in my
hold on,
fucking
hold
car,"
on,
would that
hold
not
on,
be violent?
hold on,
Let him
hold on,
finish. Let him finish.
hold on. I mean, I find the term violence already to be somewhat coded towards statist beliefs anyways. It really should be aggression, right? Because like self-defense is a form of violence. But nevertheless, I'll use the internal critique of the concept of political violence as being, negative connotation. But it is not a violation of the non-aggression principle to kill a murderer. It is not a violation of the non-aggression principle to put someone in jail for committing a crime that is aggressive against other people.
Is taxes a
It is
violation?
not taxes, involuntary taxes, presumably, would
Why?
absolutely be political
What would
violence.
happen if you didn't? What would happen if you didn't pay? Would you be
Well, if you
imprisoned?
didn't pay,
Perhaps.
you potentially could be imprisoned. Yes.
So that's
So
not violent,
taxes
though.
would be political. What
Oh,
are you
so now
talking
it
about?
is political violence. You just said
Do
kidnapping.
you think you
Didn't
got me in a
just say
gotcha
kidnapping
just by
wasn't
you
violence?
being retarded?
Didn't you just
No.
say kidnapping wasn't violence?
I'm just going to talk to Soy Pill because you don't seem to
So
be.
No,
kidnapping
I
somebody,
would say the
putting them in
same thing. You
jail
said it wouldn't
isn't
be violent
violence,
to lock
but
someone up for violating a law, not inherently, but taxation is. That doesn't make any sense.
It makes sense if you have just like a basic understanding of philosophy, right? Like if you lock up a murderer,
true. I've never read a
right?
book.
They don't have like they are the aggressor, right? So they have already aggressed upon someone. They've already murdered someone.
What about the
To be
taxes
more
that are being
specific,
aggressed
to be
upon me
more
and my
specific,
property?
to
I
be
see
more
what he's-
specific, to be more specific, they are stopped from arguing that they have the right towards their body because their actions have proved louder than their words that they are engaged in aggression towards
Right,
other
and someone
people.
who doesn't pay their taxes is thieving from the state by not contributing to the things that they're benefiting from. So I would say it's not really aggressive to lock them up for stealing,
How are they stealing from the state?
because they've made an agreement
What
as
does
part of the
stealing
social
mean?
agreement of living in this country that you
thought-
got to pay your taxes, buddy.
Wait,
When
can
did
we
they make that
ask? So
agreement?
I'm
I
sorry.
didn't make that
Why do you
agreement.
think?
I mean, you
why
could
do you
leave if you
think
want to.
Taxes is any form of violence, or that it could ever be considered a form of violence if locking somebody up against their right, like against their will, isn't violence, and that is how the state
This
reinforces
is like, when
their
did you stop
taxes.
beating your
Yeah,
wife?
so I pulled
No,
up the
Like, that's not-
non-aggression. Hold on,
No,
let
that
me
was
let me
not. I'm
clarify
asking
this.
him a question about what
I
he just
hear-
defined.
I hear what you're saying. I pulled up the non-aggressive or non-aggression principle, and it does say self-defense is permitted. So by locking away somebody who has murdered or done harm, that's part of the self-defense
is-
principle. So
this is
therefore,
why
it is
we-
justifiable.
This is why we asked about taxes specifically and not just self-defense, which is why I find it a little shady that Fabian kept going back to the to this like murder argument, because he did
How's it
agree
shady?
that taxes, because he did agree that taxes
I gave you a definition.
be
You've yet
wrong,
to give one.
and
I'm not the
yet-
shady one here.
you are making the affirmative case. I do not have to make definitions for you to make your affirmative case about your claims. Okay, if you can't make an
Well,
affirmative
I give
case,
a definition,
that's your
and then
problem.
you
If
either
you
accept
don't
the
like-
definition
if
or you don't. You don't
like
accept the
that I'm-
definition,
Yeah, I mean,
you
this
don't
and then
like-
you
All right,
was the
if
base
you
one
don't
of one.
like-
let's
contradict.
reset. Let's reset.
Oh.
Reset. Go.
Oh, boy.
Gibbs, did you have something you wanted to add in there?
I do want to add in there. I mean, debate 101 is if you don't bring your own definition, then you have to accept the only definition that's been given, right? And Fabian's won't put forth the only definition. Thus, that
I
stands.
actually gave a definition a while ago. Maybe you weren't
Okay,
paying
well,
I
what
attention.
was
also
yours?
explained
Well, listen,
that
we
we
can go
were
into yours
lacking
in
a
1 second.
definition in my
We-
opening.
we-
In fact,
hold
my
on.
whole
We could go
opening
into
was
yours in
about
a
that.
second, Soy Pill. But
No.
in addition to that, like, you're sitting here arguing about the self-defense, and then you're arguing about how, like Soy Pill wanted to argue, whether they're left, right, or whatever, But the argument here, and Fabian's going to frame this in a way, I'm sure at some point, he's going to argue that all these forms of government, Nazis, fascist, authoritarian, right-leaning, like MAGA, I would even argue that some MAGA actually might fall in this in some cases. He's a populist and not a true Republican. They actually are authoritarian in some manners, and they occupy political violence even. So when I'm sitting here hearing the arguments that you're making on your side, you're sitting here saying, I don't have to prove anything as the neg. No, what you have to do, and since this is the prompt and the topic, are these inherently violent? And then when you have Soy Pill saying, every government in history has used violence, which is not actually entirely true, to enforce their,
So you
power.
don't agree. So you don't agree
No.
with Fabian's concept of
I
violence.
agree with
after
Fabian.
all.
I disagree with everything you said because you haven't outlawed a line of definition. Your partners
Do you
agreed with me
remember my
multiple times
opening?
now. And
Being about how nobody
remember
here
your
can
opening. There
actually
was a
agree
lot
upon
of,
the same
nonsensical
definition, and
gibberish.
that is actually a part of the
we
problem
already
of
agreed
the
on it.
statement
We
in the
already
first
agreed on the
place.
definition. I mean, the problem is you can say we didn't agree on
Wait,
it.
wait,
but
wait,
we've
Gibbs,
already
do you
put- hold on,
agree
we
with
put forth
Fabian?
one. Yeah, I mean,
They
he put
just
forth
be-
the definition.
Okay, so you
just
think
have
every
to tell you
ideology
something.
other than
Hold up.
libertarian where you don't violate the NAP is inherently violent?
I mean, it would
That's
depend.
not my argument.
What's
well,
your...
it's
Oh, my
not-
God.
I gave a whole situation where I said that you guys were going to
I don't
have
agree with
this
your
code,
framing.
that it was an overly broad definition, and then I explained how that this is not necessarily inherent to right-wing philosophy.
Can you
Then I
name
gave
one
what a
right-wing...
definition of right-wing is.
I didn't,
then
I couldn't follow. It
and
was
then I
so good and complicated. That was too stupid. Can you
You were
give me
talking,
one
yeah.
right-wing ideology that doesn't tax people?
Anarcho-capitalism is a right-wing ideology. Objectivism is a right-wing ideology.
Corporatism.
Anarcho-pacifism is a
Sorry, that
right-wing
exists in
ideology.
reality?
Well,
Corporatism.
Prospera exists in reality as
Sorry,
did
that has
the
a
Republic
state
of Cospire.
that can
Yep.
enact taxes should they so choose.
There's a corporate.
It's a
state. There's
voluntary
there's
society.
several islands in Micronesia. that
Prospera
have-
is a
So no.
voluntarist society.
So no.
You pay $3,000 to enter,
So no.
and then
You
you,
can just say
agree
no. This is
voluntarily.
Okay, wait, wait. Okay, no, hold on, no, wait, no,
keep
no.
interrupting
Papa,
me.
stop,
You're
Papa,
going to
stop,
keep
Papa, stop.
interrupting me to say no when I'm cooking
Yeah.
your ass.
Yeah,
I've been
go ahead.
stop.
interrupted so many
Prospera
times at this
exists.
point.
Hold on,
By both of you.
Fabian, finish. Everybody, give him
Yeah,
the floor, please.
and
Make it
let me
finish.
talk, Papa.
Prospera exists, right? Unfortunately, there has been violence by the Honduras Supreme Court that has reneged on contracts that they've had. So we're, whether or not Prospera will continue into the long term, is kind of up for debate. We have to wait for the Supreme Court to see if they'll overturn their latest case against Prospera. But as it exists right now, you can pay $3,000. You can voluntarily live in Prospera, and it is a fully commiserate with anarcho-capitalist society. Yes, do they have a 5.3% tax? Absolutely, but that tax is voluntary. And again, when you asked me about taxes earlier, I said specifically, assuming we're talking about involuntary taxation. So no, this isn't a fantasy. It exists. You can go move there right now.
What
Okay, so
defines
one, if
voluntary?
how is it? Well, no, I don't want to get into that. My second point is, so that, would you then admit that at any point, if any of these independent communes where everyone voluntarily goes there and lives under a communism and doesn't have any sort of violence because everyone can choose to be in it and choose to leave, therefore communism would not be inherently violent?
Well, that would be against the communist philosophy itself.
In what
could
way?
have the same.
Wait, so all of these
Well,
people that
I
call
mean-
themselves communists and these communist communes are against communism?
That's not what I said.
You just said what I just described would be against communism.
No, what you described is not the same thing as people living on a commune, right? Like people could live under a commune and accept anarcho-capitalist or libertarian philosophy.
They
and
couldn't
allow
accept
other
communism?
people to live. They could choose. No, they couldn't.
Why not?
Communism is inherently revolutionary, number one. Communism describes the entire history of the world as a movement of peoples through dialectics in which
Okay,
it describes.
wait. Would you disagree that communism?
you can keep,
Well,
hold
no,
on,
because you're
no,
going
you-
off on
I'm
a
gonna-
tangent
I'm gonna
right now.
answer
Would
your
you
que-
agree
I'm not going off on a
communism?
tangent.
Would
What
you
I'm
say that
doing is I'm giving
communism is
evidence
not?
to source
No,
why
because
you're
you're
so
using
fucking
historical
stupid.
examples.
But
We're
you're
talking.
interrupting.
Hold on. Soy, let him finish at
He's
least,
gonna
and
give
then-
like
and then
11
I'm-
books, but okay, let's go.
Well, no, I won't give 11 books. How about just read one book? Socialism, Scientific and Utopic by Engels. There you go. And that will absolutely showcase why it is absurd to claim that libertarians that agree with the non-aggression principle but choose to live under a commune where they share resources is not the same thing as being a communist.
So would you say communism, in the way that most people define it as state-owned means of production and distribution on the grounds of necessity, is not communism because it doesn't involve every single revolutionary who wants to make it happen in the current existence we're talking about now? Because we can say, oh well, look at this little group of 20 to 100 people where they all enact the ideology but don't try to overthrow a government to get there, or don't point guns at people to enforce laws. Like, this is somehow not inherently violent. But if they do it and they're all doing the state-owned means of production and they're following everything that a communist would otherwise do or be defined as, but they're not doing the Marx Engels revolutionary thing, they're not communists. Like, no true Scotsman here. Like, I don't understand how this is somehow not communist.
Yeah, so
Marx
it's
would
not
say
a,
it's
well, I'll
communist.
answer the question very quickly.
Oh, Marx
very
would say
quickly.
it's communist?
First and foremost, the definition you gave of communism is not the definition of communism.
Okay.
It's the definition that Stalin gave of socialism. Secondly, what I would
Oh, okay, well, hold on.
he would-
right
So
off the
would
bat, you're
socialism
wrong.
not be
And
inherently
so
violent then?
secondly,
Let him finish.
Secondly, what you would be describing as anarcho-communists, and while there are very, very few anarcho-communists that I've ever jumped into that are actual anarchists, if they are actual anarchists, then they would not be communists, correct? They would be anarcho-communists that are also voluntarists.
Okay, so to be clear, all three of those things are part of the thing: progressivism, communism, and socialism. So if that is what socialism is, if that's what they're doing on this commune, then this is not inherently violent, no?
Can you not follow your own argument? Like, no.
Because what? Because it's
What are
now
you
it's
talking
not
about?
socialism anymore. So basically, you're getting me to accept that the definition of communism is inherently violent because the definition implies that you must be a revolutionary and otherwise you can't be a communist. Just to be clear, that's the argument we're at.
Marx never gave an explicit definition of communism, but when he got close to it and didn't say weird amorphous shit like the movement of people through time and things like that, he simplified it by saying that it is the abolition of private property. So yes, that is inherently violent.
Okay, so it's because they would abolish private property that's inherently violent. And that
Correct.
that is baked into communism. You can't have communism without wanting to abolish private property. If you go form a commune, which you would call anarcho-capitalism, that's not communism because, it's not doing it to the already existing government. You just went and did that voluntarily, just to be clear.
If you are a believer in private property, yes, you are not a fucking communist. That's not a crazy thing to say.
It's not private if the whole commune owns it. unless you want to say, well, because
feel
it's
like you
part of
think
a
you made a
small,
point,
if
but,
you're
like, go ahead.
taking
Hold on,
the government and
You know what
saying,
he
hey,
just
give
said?
us
You know
this
what he
private
just-
land, and now we're private, and even though the entire
got this
commune
right
owns it, it's not publicly owned because it's technically, we had to buy this land from the government, so it's a private land that we all share, and we enact communism at the smaller scale. Like, do you see how we're jumping around and all these like minutia of definitions just to say how it is inherently violent?
Hold on. I gotta get in here. Hold on. So
not
what?
I mean,
inherently
I already
violent.
tried to
Hold on.
explain how they didn't have a
no.
solid definition,
What's
and they
interesting?
got mad.
Go ahead,
What's,
Gabe.
int-
Go
what- yeah,
ahead,
what's
Gabe.
interesting here is this is the same argument that Soy just made, that people on the left, when they try to differentiate, we'll blame the concussion, between modern democratic socialism and national socialism. They say exactly what Soy Pill will say. And they'll say national socialists weren't actual socialists because the state didn't own it. But then when you actually look at what the Nazis did, is say Volkswagen, for example, where they nationalized the car industry. Well, when you go look, you can't actually own part of Volkswagen or be part of Volkswagen if you're not a member of the Nazi party, which is basically, oh, we're owning it through a co-op or a community. So basically, okay, if we want to use your definition, it's a violent socialist government, which is the Nazi definition, or it's B, it's the communist, like Fabian's described. So which is Sword Hill?
So
Which
it's violent
you wanna
because they
have?
say you can't have ownership of it if you're not on our commune.
Well, yeah, if you're not part of the Nazi party, guess what? We kill you and throw you in the Holocaust
Right. That's.
camp.
I'm sorry. I
Now we
forgot.
hold your
If I call them all Nazis instead of people on a commune, it is make them Nazis. So I guess that
Well,
is
no, I
violent.
mean, are
You're
you
right.
disagreeing that
No, what you
Volkswagen
need
was
is a
owned by all
law.
private citizens that were all in the same Nazi
No,
party?
I
and they
didn't
owned
even
it through a
invoke
co-op?
this at all.
That's
I was talking
basically
about
exactly what-
if we're bringing up the idea that you can have this libertarian commune where everyone can enact libertarianism. This does exist in real life. I would say that if you can do this and do this
Well,
in a
so does the
nonviolent
Nazis.
way, that you could do the exact same thing with a commune, so much as that all of the people publicly own the same thing. They all share. There's no taxes. There's no, maybe they don't even have rules. They're all just living peacefully together. You can live in this inherently peacefully, unless you bake into the definition of communism that you must abolish private property. Like we're going to get rid of the people who don't want to join this, even though everyone voluntarily joined this. Well, then I guess if you say communism is inherently violent because in the definition of communism it's inherently violent, it's like, okay, well,
interesting if you would listen to my opening.
It's not
Listen,
communism
in
if
my
I just
opening,
change the definition of
my
communism
opening,
to be
I
something
quoted
to be
Engels and
anarcho-mutualism.
Marx,
Both talking.
Engels and Marx, the founders of communism, the writers of the Communist Manifesto, said, and I quote, you can't get rid of, you can't have communism without taking over violently private property from citizens. You have to abolish private property. And then he said, furthermore, so that people like you can't reorganize the definition, he goes, oh, guess what? This is exactly what we're doing. Our goal is to abolish public property. So no, you can't be communist without having the abolishment of public property. Or not public
So
property,
I
private
remember,
property. Excuse me.
I remember hearing earlier that violence is, it includes actions of the state, right? Things like taxes can be considered violence. I would like to also quote Marx and Engels, because they also see the development of the proletariat in nearly all civilized countries has been violently suppressed, and that in this way the opponents of communism have been working toward a revolution with all their strength. If the opposed proletariat is finally driven to revolution, then we communists will defend the interests of proletarians with deeds as we now defend them with words. Because really what they were talking about is defense against the violent suppression of the proletariat. In fact, self-defense against the violence of the state. And therefore, I'm not sure if you could even be considering this unjustified violence now if you actually looked at what Rothbard
Which
wrote.
one was
Again,
the status quo, Buckaroo?
Rothbard being, why are you asking me questions while I'm speaking? Rothbard being the
Well, you
person
didn't
who
answer the question.
introduced,
You answered.
Rothbard being, I didn't hear it, I was talking. Rothbard being the person who introduced the non-aggression policy to the modern zeitgeist. Now, I didn't say he created it. I didn't say he coined it. I said he introduced it in War, Peace, and the State. He specifically describes vertical violence, but specifically violence in defense of the individual. And he talks about its justification
communism
with
the defense of
regards
the individual?
to the non-aggression principle. And yes, when we're talking about people being violently suppressed by the state, I would say that that is an attack on the principle, on the
So
proletariat.
you think communism is an individualist or collectivist philosophy? Number one.
I didn't say that. I said that they were being violently suppressed, and that I thought
Right, but you
it was
hearkened.
defense of the individual,
Right.
the
The problem
proletarians.
is that you hearken to Rothbard, right? You
Mhm.
hearken to the concept of in defense of the individual, of in defense of the individual's rights. And obviously Rothbard is
Right.
talking about private property rights here. So you're kind of taking
Including
out
including the
right,
personal including the individual
right.
themselves and their physical body,
So
yes.
you're
And
you're
that's
trying
why
to
I was
use
talking about
Rothbard's
this
definition
communal
of the defense of individual rights and private property.
the one that you
Take out
follow?
take out the private property kind of stuff. Let's not mention that, and then just kind of sneak in that it's in defense
Well,
of the
my body is
individual.
my
You
private
fucked up.
property. My body is my private property. So I didn't actually think it was necessary
no,
to
This is
but
a
I
describe.
mean,
more
that's-
libertarian
I thought
brainwriter than
somebody
I
who
possibly could have
subscribed
predicted. I'm
to
sorry,
the
everybody.
non-aggression principle would agree that your body is your
Like,
private property,
like
and
if the
therefore you
Soiko was a
can defend
Marxist
yourself
You've
as an
only
individual.
just figured out in the last
But-
10 seconds that it's the non-aggression principle and not the non-aggression policy.
No, I
So
still
maybe
call it the
defer to me on
non-aggression
this one.
policy. That's a lie. I still call it the policy because I don't know why, actually. I just keep calling it a policy. I'm working really hard, like consciously, to say principle.
Communism is
I don't
not
know why.
self-defense.
No matter how
Is
many
not
times I read it,
self-defense of the
it's a policy.
individual, especially the individual's private
Well, the
property rights, as
proletarians,
Rothbard is
as
discussing.
described, the proletarians as described in the
insane.
manifesto are all individuals. Last I checked, a community is actually made of singular people who are in a group.
Yeah, yes, it is true that a
So
collective
you can actually
is made of
defend
individuals,
yourself
but
as
that's
a
not an argument
collective,
against what I'm
and
saying.
that could actually be an attack on the individual because it is an attack on the collective.
I can literally
hearkening
feel
a
like it feels like my
definition-
brain
you're
fluid is
hearkening an
leaking out of
A
my head right
definition
now.
that you
I'm
ascribe
sorry.
to
Hold on.
that I am challenging, and you are upset about it.
You're
I
hearkening
understand.
You're hearkening to an argument from a libertarian Rothbard about the rights of the individual. And yes, the individual can collectivize
Right, I
those rights,
understand.
but no, you don't. The
I
rights
do.
of
I just
the
don't care
the
about your
rights
argument
of
here.
the
I think
right.
it
I
is
know you
not
don't care
good.
because you're going to
I
talk
don't
over
think it's
me
a good
because
challenge.
you're being
Yeah,
lying
let's
and you're
stop.
being slimy by trying to use a
Sniper, that would be the
libertarian's argument
dumbest thing
about
I
the
could do right
defense
now.
of
Asking him
private
to
property
define, like
rights and
giving the
rights of
libertarian the
individual
opportunity to
from being
pontificate
coerced by the
would be so
state,
stupid.
and then
Sorry.
make that one-to-one with communist revolution against the concept of private property. These two things are obviously contradictory, and to try and use them in the same argument is batshit.
I don't think it's batshit if you're subscribing to the non-aggression principle and you are talking about how violence can be enacted by the state on individuals. And I'm assuming you would agree that communities are actually made of individuals, and therefore an attack on a community would be an attack on each individual of said community. So the community can communally defend
Hold on.
themselves against the
Hold on.
bourgeoisie,
I
which
I
at
have to
times
explain this
is also the
stupidity.
state.
No, listen, yes, an individual can have some form of aggression done to them. And then a group of individuals can have some form of aggression done to them. They
Wonderful.
can choose to
We're in agreement.
collectivize. Stop, Big Papa, please. You're not understanding. But that is not the same thing as a collective demographic having rights. It is not the same thing as a collective demographic being an entity in and of itself. That
You
is
keep
the difference
changing
between
sunglasses.
an individual collectivizing versus a collective. It's the difference between saying, yes, this black person was unfairly treated by the police versus policing is a system of white supremacy against blacks, and all blacks are victims by nature of the system of white supremacy. Like there is a difference between the
Are
individual
there not people who
rights
believe
being
both?
well,
I think there
they
are,
believe in
right?
contradictory things, and when you believe in contradictory things, then your argument falls apart.
Well,
Well-
see, this is why I challenge what you said with something that directly.
Well, let's talk
challenge
about
what
what
you
she
said.
challenged
With
you.
no
Hold on.
definitions.
I gotta get it. Hold on. Let's
No
get into
definitions.
let's
Go
get
ahead,
into
Gib.
what she challenged you with, right? So, she first of all, she talked about self-defense. First of all, I would argue that if you're living in the status quo, and the status quo is one thing, it's hard to classify anything. Status quo, that's oppressing me. That's violence. If you're just living in the status quo, that doesn't mean it's inherently violent. What is inherently violent is something to quote from Engels and Marx once again, because, she's quoting this and she's kind of quoting it out of order. This is interesting. He says, the proletariat will use its political supremacy right rest by degrees all capital from the bourgeoisie to centralize all instruments of production in the hands of the state, i.e. of the proletariat, organize the ruling class and to increase the total of productive forces as rapidly as possible. Can centralizing all instruments of production in the hands of the state be achieved peacefully? Some may think so, guys, but Marx did not. We're going to read on further. Of course, in the beginning, this cannot be effected except by means of despotic inroads on the rights of property and on the conditions of bourgeois production by the means of measures, therefore, which appear economically insufficient and untenable, but which in the course of the moment outstrip themselves, necessitate further inroads upon the old social order, and are unavoidable as a means of entirely revolutionizing the mode of production. That word salad basically means we'll kick the shit out of a ton of people in order to get the job done. That's what it says. That's the creator of communism. He's saying this. So he's saying that you're full of shit, buckaroo. And then that's why when I examined what Soy Pill said earlier, he's like, oh, we're going to try to paint what Fabian has as some socialist version. No, that's not the same. What Soy Pill actually described was national socialism, where you all have to be a member of a party, and then you have create a co-op or you create a business, and that's what he described. That's not what Fabian is describing. That's not against
Wait, just to be clear, again,
in his
Gibbs.
I have
Wait, wait.
response before this.
There's only
In
one
his-
party, the Socialist Party.
Guys,
There's only
forming
one
a
party,
commune
the
is
Communist Party.
Nazism.
That's why you're wrong, because
I
it's
hate this so
inherently
much,
violent.
guys.
And if
This
you
is-
are non-communist
why
in a
did they
communist
let
country, you have no
Papa
rights.
take
They
me into
kill
this?
you. That's
Go
how
ahead,
it works.
Buckaroo.
In his 1872 speech in Amsterdam, Marx explicitly states,
Mark.
we know
Mark.
that one has to take into consideration the institutions, customs, and traditions of different countries. And we do not deny that there are countries like America, England, where the workers may attain their goal by peaceful means. This was actually in one of his speeches. So while I understand you're quoting one thing, I mean, Marx himself said otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, he was also pro-nationalism for Poland and
And
pro-nationalism
could I
for
actually get
Ireland,
a cite?
but then
Sorry.
Yeah,
explicitly anti-nationalist. Like,
Could I get a
I do
citation
agree. I
for-
do agree. I do agree
Gibbs
that
quote?
if
Yeah,
you
it's the
grab
Communist
random,
Manifesto.
if
An
you
actual
grab,
citation,
Okay.
like where and when. Thank you.
Sure.
like,
I don't know
do-
if the
I do agree
ChatGPT
that-
has that. It depends on
I-
the book.
Well, I don't. First of all, here's the cool thing about ChatGPT. You would have to use it for it to work for you.
Sure.
I've never used ChatGPT. I'm too old school. I'm too dumb. The only thing I've ever used ChatGPT for was to make a graphic. But good try there, Soy Pill.
Sorry, it just sounded
I mean,
like you were
you might,
reading
you
off of
might want to try. No, I was reading direct quotes from the Communist Manifesto. I'll find the page number for you in a brief moment. I got to pull up my note page. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting though. You might want to start using ChatGPT because, like I said, you described Nazism and basically emphasize that, try to pass it off as
No, yeah. So like
because you're
100
confused,
people
but that's
going
good.
and forming a commune where they all own the the farm equipment and all that is Nazism by your definition. That's a very interesting one. I've never heard that before. But hey, you do you, buddy. I think what's crazy about this is you have yet to really establish why any of these are inherently violent, only insofar as, well, I've picked communism and I picked that these people who are writing these books are specifically the ones who say that if we want to implement communism on a statewide level, we have to get rid of private property, which is true. What is not taken into account, one, that you can do this on a level that is not statewide. Two, that there are two other things you would have to say are still inherently violent. So socialism and progressivism, which we haven't even covered yet. I just, we're bogging down on the, well, I read the quote from the guy who made the Communist Manifesto who said that obviously if I want to abolish the thing that already exists, I would have to use violence, which, yeah, of course. But if you're baking that into the definition of communism, like, even if we seed that, you still have to say, well, okay, now I have to differentiate socialism and the fact that I could privately own enterprise but still have private property, or if you don't even call it that, somehow that progressivism is also going to be doing these things, unless you think progressivism and socialism and communism are all the same thing. I have a headache.
Well, also, just real quick, since I was asked for a quote, a citation, it's chapter 2 of the manifesto. I don't know which paragraph. You can scroll on in there, but it's in the thing. Now, I haven't asked you for any paragraphs, but if you're going to get needing more of a citation other than chapter 2 of the manifesto, and I give you the date, that's ludicrous. They don't even require that for MLA format most of the time. But good try,
Didn't
though,
ask
for
for
being
that.
that.
Sorry, when I said when, I just meant when in the paragraph.
Yeah, so I'd like to respond to Soy Pill, right? So first and foremost, your argument is if people do it voluntarily and localize it, then it's not a problem. And I don't disagree with that, but it's just not communism, right? I think it's kind of an insane take to try and defend communism as not inherently violent by trying to redefine communism as something that is voluntary and localized amongst a small group of people, as opposed to workers of the world unite. You have nothing to lose but your chains. Right? It is like the announcement of communism is for a revolution across the entire world, regardless of the desires of other people, and paints voluntary exchanges in terms of the capitalists and the ability to use capital accumulation to create the means of productions is in and of itself, exploitative, and therefore it is justified to use violence against the capitalist class.
Right.
Like
So Fabian, I agree with you though.
Like,
so
it's
like
a
if you're
silly point,
right,
really.
well,
Come
I
on.
think it's silly that if you're saying communism must include the part where they're doing the revolution, then yeah, obviously a revolution is going to be violent. Let's talk about then, I guess, socialism and progressivism. But like, if you don't want to move off the point that communism, as I've defined it, is inherently revolutionary, and thus, like the prompt itself is silly that to even question at all. I mean, you said at the beginning, water's wet. It's funny, water's technically not wet. I mean, this is up for debate. Water makes things wet. But the point is, like, yeah, if you're baking it into your definition that communism is inherently violent, therefore, like, we don't even have to debate it because, look, they're revolutionary and you can't do the same thing but on a smaller level, then okay, then let's talk about the concept of socialism before we walk in circles because the definition is baked into the argument in itself.
If you're willing to cede that communism is inherently violent, and
I'm not willing to cede it, but I'm willing to talk about the other two things because you guys won't let it go.
Hold on. Well, you don't have to. You don't have to cede it because Buckaroo asked me for another citation. But let me just give you the second to last paragraph in chapter 2 of the Communist paragraph of Communist Manifesto. It said, hold on. Well, I'm going to give you a second one because it's the second to last and the final word on this topic in the second chapter of what the quote that you said. And it says, when in the course of development, class distinctions have disappeared and all production has been concentrated in the hands of a vast association of the whole nation, the public power will lose its political character.
Fuck you, non-fun. I knew you said no, you piece of shit. I threw you into this. I was like, non-fun would love it.
From oppressing another. If the proletariat, during its contest with the bourgeoisie, is compelled by the force of circumstances, that's peacefully, as she put it, to organize itself as a class, it by means of revolution, as I described it. Hold on. Well, it is what you're describing, though. And that's what he describes in the earlier paragraph. But hold on, let me finish. It makes itself
You're just
the
lying
rule.
about what I said.
No, I'm not lying. I'm educating you because you were wrong about the statement. And this is the final word on it because he describes this.
I gave a different statement.
By force of circumstances is describing the peaceful means in certain select countries like the United States. That's what he's referring to in this paragraph. Now, let me finish. By means of revolution, it makes itself the ruling class. And as such, sweeps away, this is after either under the peaceful or by revolution, this is the next thing he says, sweeps away by force the old conditions of production. Then it will, along with these conditions, have swept away the conditions for the existence of
Should I just ask them if everyone agrees voluntarily to be communist forever and they all take that pledge and they never change their mind? Is it violent?
And saying that, oh, you didn't know what happened, or you're just factually incorrect, because he's saying communism, either if they take over peacefully, hold on, and I quoted him too, if he takes over peacefully, then guess what? Once they're in power peacefully, which is the other circumstances described in the special select countries like the United States, they oppress them by force and abolish it. And that's what it says. So either they do it peacefully by force, or they do it later by force after they're in power, or they do it initially by force. But either way, they're inherently violent as communism. So at least we have 1/3 of these. I guess we can move on to focus on just socialism.
Hey Gibbs, if every single person in America, all voluntarily said, let's all be communists, and they all just agreed forever they're going to do it, would that still be violent?
Yeah, go ahead.
Like, let's just say everyone in America, this is a hypothetical, obviously.
Hold on,
I was talking.
No, just be quiet for a second. I was not lying when I quoted Karl Marx. I don't know why you're accusing me of lying because I quoted something different than you.
Well, you quoted something earlier in a duplicitous manner. That's why I called it a lie.
I understand that you are upset that I asked for a citation and therefore you had to read an citation that you could point to, so that you could, I don't know, make claims about me.
No, I'm actually happy. Hold on. I can respond to this.
Any of the viewers could go back and see.
I'm so happy actually that you asked for the citation.
I would appreciate if you did not explicitly lie about.
I didn't know we could just leave.
About the claims that I made. I have not made any statements about accusing you of being a liar or lying about what you're saying or accusing you of not reading. I haven't done any of that, okay? I've just made my argument and I've read quotes Okay, if you have a problem with that, I don't know, close your ears until I'm done talking.
Okay, well, listen, Big Papa Goebbels. Like, what you're doing is a duplicitous attempt at misinformation. Like, that's why it's a lie. So either you
Oh, I'm
then hold on,
duplicitous.
I
You're
let you
right.
talk. I let you talk. Listen, it's
I thought this
perfidious,
was for after
insidious
the
state.
panel.
Hold on, I'm just telling you right now what you're doing, and this is why I called you a liar because you put
You just
forth a
called me
duplicitous.
Goebbels.
Yeah, Big Papa Goebbels. That's what you're doing. You learned from the best. You're using his propaganda right now. You're literally written there, and you picked a quote earlier in there. And then what's crazy
You're
about that?
literally
your
not.
exact
I
quote was in
thought the
certain
left called
situations,
everyone
like the United
Nazis.
States
This is
and certain
insane.
European countries like the UK, it could be done peacefully. And then what I did
That
was
was not my exact quote.
yes, well, cool. I'm paraphrasing. We don't have to go into your exact
So
warfare.
you didn't
anymore.
need to use the
So,
word
hold on.
exact quote.
Yeah, cool.
You are
Cool.
lying now.
Listen,
Quite
I'm not
literally.
lying. Listen. You need
Admiral
that thing.
Goebbels
Hold
over
on.
here.
Yeah,
Am I
Admiral Goebbels.
right?
Yeah, I mean, it's weaker the second
Goebbels.
time. Yeah, but that's fine.
Manipulative,
That's fine.
duplicitous.
What we have here right now is duplicitous lying from you. It's fake. Now, what I did here was I came in here after you quoted. I was happy that you made me
Oh
quote it
my
because it was
God.
an earlier thing. And then what we did is we went to the final paragraph, the final two paragraphs in the chapter, right? And where he does an overall summary, where he references the thing you said, which was, oh, it could be peaceful in certain countries. And in that circumstance that you described, which, yes, Marx did say, he did say that thing. He says after they peacefully take over, they violently oppress and abolish the other things. So either they do it violently after they peacefully take over, or they do it violently initially. But there's no way under Marx, the inventor of communism, and Engels, the other inventor of communism and socialism, that there's a possible way that it is not inherently violent, because by all means, whether through initial violence or through peacefully taking over, they're violent. So you just gave away the game on this one. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You
Big Papa
literally
Goebbels for the win.
just referred to me as a Nazi because I quoted something different from you.
I mean,
You're a goofball.
Yeah, wait,
That's my only
Gibbs.
response.
misinformation.
Oh,
You're a
Gibbs,
goofy,
Gibbs,
goofy
this is
boy.
kind of touching
You're a
on your
goofy,
last.
silly boy.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, so
I
Gibbs,
mean,
like
I'm
on
sorry that you used the tactic.
on your last point, Gibbs, like the idea of like if we shift any political ideology, would it be inherently violent if the one that is the one shifting the new one because it's doing some sort of revolution because not everyone is agreeing on it is going to be inherently violent? Like, doesn't it have to be baked into the actual ideology and not the fact that anything that's going to supplant another thing is going to be violent because you can't get literally everyone to agree?
No, I wouldn't agree with that. Specifically, though, in this case, and this is the reason why I keep quoting this, he says if they take over, right, by force, they make the change. So that means with a gun to your head. That's one way they're making the change. That's different than say, oh, we all get in office and somehow there's a unanimous 100% we agree on a policy, yada, yada, and there's changes, or 80%. I don't think it, I mean, Fabian might classify voting as politically violent. I mean, I could see how it could be politically violent, but
It's a
in
form
this
of
case,
defensive violence.
Can
you
I
know,
just
in this
explain?
way, that's
quote
totally different.
You used is from 1848. The quote I gave is from 1872. So it actually
That's
is the more recent quote on
Is
communism in the first
the
place.
Communist Manifesto the definitive book on communism? Yes or no?
Did you hear what I said? I said that
Is
you
hold on.
made the
Is the
claim. You
Communist
made the
Manifesto?
claim.
No,
You
no.
made the
To answer the
claim.
question, as a
You
political
made the
theorist,
claim.
is the
Hold
You
on,
made
Communist
the
what does that have to
claim.
Manifesto?
do with anything?
Hold on,
Well,
hold on.
yeah, I mean, you're saying it's newer. I'm saying, or this is the question.
This
I would
quote
agree.
newer, therefore, did he reject
Because he
communism?
did
No,
make
I
the
mean,
claim that
did he
this was the
reject all
final
of his earlier
he
previous?
did
Well,
he
this
did
is
make the
interesting. Would you
claim
agree
that
that the
that was
Communist
the final
Manifesto is
word.
the definitive
Pardon
He
me,
did
book?
agree.
pardon me to all of you. We're talking over each other, and that means nobody can actually hear anything you're saying, which I'm sure it's all very important and vital information, but we can't hear you. So let's go one at a time. Admiral, finish your question, then Buckaroo, then to Fabian. Please.
Yeah, I mean, this is a ludicrous thing. Fabian was just starting to point it out. You saying, "Oh, it's newer." I mean, that means jack shit. I could say something newer based on policy of the time, whatever. However, what is interesting is I think that we can all agree on that the Communist Manifesto, he has communist in the name. It's the invention of communism, basically. The original thought, the original egg, is the definitive book and reference on communism, right, as a political ideology. So whenever what he says in this can still be upheld, even by what you're saying, if he says what you said, cool, which he says something extremely similar in here, it still falls under the headline of this chapter paragraph that I've quoted. So you haven't disproven that. You basically just say, oh, newer, better, when even that doesn't go against what he said in the original definitive document, which he wrote these things that you're saying in defense of the Communist Manifesto. So even Marx thinks that the Communist Manifesto is the definitive document on communism. Thank you for the dub again.
Marx's Marx's perspective is more adequately expressed in Das Kapital. I think everybody here has heard of it. I think everybody here knows that
Which
that's the truth.
volume?
But on top of that, I would like to
Which
know.
volume? 3, 4, like which one?
Sure. I
'Cause
would
they
like to know
contradict
that,
each other on economics really bad. Like which volume
okay.
do you mean?
I would like to note, if
Just
I
which
can finish
volume? Like,
responding first, all of them, all of them. If I can finish responding,
all right.
a part of the reason I made that point is because Gibbs actually made the claim. He read the paragraph and said, "This is his final comment on communism." Blah, blah, blah. Okay, it wasn't. It was actually decades before some of his some more comments on communism. I mean, he was talking about this for basically his whole fucking life. So that is why I pointed out the fact that my quote is actually from after what he was reading. And I just want to know, it wasn't a book, it was a pamphlet. I just weird mix up to get, but I understand if you've never read it that you wouldn't know
I
that.
have it right next. I mean, hold on. I have it right here next to me. If I need to get the
The
physical copy out
original,
for you.
it was originally
Like,
a pamphlet.
Oh wow. I mean, I'm
But
sure. Okay.
I
That's the most
can we?
ludicrous
I
thing.
really want to get
This
more
is
to the
like
point, Gibbs,
known.
because I'm really trying to like
Are
dive
you
into this.
arguing
Gibbs.
like,
Oh
like
Oh
this
my god,
is
no,
so
this is
stupid,
so
like,
minute.
you're arguing it.
This is
Soy, do
pedantic.
you want to break this down a
You're
little
A
bit?
little bit. Well,
Mr.
I'm
Oh,
still
okay.
curious on this argument,
Fuck
Gibbs.
me.
Like the idea of like baking into the idea that because it's revolutionary, it must therefore inherently be violent. Because I will refuse to accept a definition that doesn't involve that revolution. Like if every single society on Earth was a monarchy, and the only thing that people ever advocated for change was democracy, and we said we have to overthrow these monarchs violently to get a democracy, does that make democracy inherently violent, or no?
Democracy is a soft variant of communism.
I want to know from Gibbs first, then you can talk.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that something similar. I wouldn't say it's quite as a soft variant of communism. I would say it's an authoritarian government based off of the constitutional republic.
No. So I'm saying, okay, do you think the current form of American government is inherently violent?
Yeah.
Okay, what form of government would not be inherently violent?
I don't know. When you build a bunch of TPs and live in a nice little society where everybody does the best for them, like a tribalist society.
Okay, so
They don't kill
wait,
each
if
other.
this is your, maybe you do have the same definition of Fabian. If you do, then why are we talking about whether or not the Communist Manifesto specifically points out points of revolution? If you think that any form of government enacting any form of law is kind of in this space is inherently violent, unless we're all in teepees.
Hold on, I'll tell you why. Because it's been very entertaining for me to watch y'all's tactic of trying to turn me and Fabian against each other when we basically had the same definition the whole time.
You guys
And
have-
y'all
You didn't
offered
at the
nothing of
beginning, but
substance in
I'm
the
glad
last
you met
8
up.
minutes. No, I mean, I
You
put this
have
forward
literally
several times.
described different
hold on.
circumstances
It's been my
that
turn for a
do
while
not
now.
follow
Yeah.
his
Go ahead,
definition
Fabian.
of
Go
violence.
ahead.
Yeah,
Fabian.
so it's been my turn for now. So first and foremost, to dispel this myth, I sent him my intro statement. He sent me his. We worked on them together. So obviously we have
Didn't
the
read
same
them well enough?
definitions.
I mean, we
Second,
quote-
well, you still haven't been able to respond to mine. So nevertheless, let me remind everybody where we are at, right? So where we are at is the prompt is not, are Republicans more violent than communists? The prompt isn't, are monarchies more violent than these other political systems? The prompt is it true or is it false? Do you stand, resolved or not on the prompt that socialism, communism, and progressivism are inherently violent? We have argued this entire time that they are inherently violent. We have given historical records as to that. We have given a definition of why it meets that. I even preempted and said that there would be this dumb whataboutism that is completely away from the actual prompt, where you try and subvert and confuse and not actually engage. Neither of you can give a coherent definition.
I already
You
did
just
3
keep
times.
saying-
You just keep ignoring it, but
They
No,
are
what you-
literally just
no,
not
you have
listening
not.
to what
And we
we're
have asked-
saying,
I
and then
know.
they say that
Yeah.
we haven't done what we've said.
I
So
find
it's
that
kind of
interest-
goofy.
Yeah, you can keep interrupting me, but
Yeah,
until
go
you're
ahead,
willing to give a
Fabian.
definition, I
Do you want to
don't
give it a
wanna hear
5th
shit
time?
about it. Yeah, again, you gave a retelling of my definition and then made fun of it. You did not actually.
No,
give
I said physical
a
harm upon
definition.
another individual intent on furthering political goals, probably excluding anything that is enforcing laws, as long as it's not a violation of some major human right. So anything that is...
Okay, so first and foremost, what is a human right?
Oh, God. All right. Well, if we're going to get into the rights debate and saying that
This is whataboutism again.
Oh, if we're gonna debate words, how fucking dare you?
Well, I
Just
mean,
accept
we
the
don't-
No,
we don't
it's
even
just
have to
if
do
we're
that.
gonna do the
Everything.
libertarian thing, like I said, if we're gonna just say that anything that is,
What
you know,
debate? What the fuck are you
If it
talking
breaks
about?
a law,
Don't be a
it's
pussy.
no, it's
actually
not.
Give your
It's just
fucking
so
definition.
fucking
Okay.
boring.
Okay,
It's like,
but-
again, if your obtuse definition
Oh,
is
now
just
it's
every
boring.
government except us all living in teepees is
Pussy.
violent and not, why even have the prompt be communism, socialism, and progressivism if you could just say everything is politically violent except for this very specific form of living in this thing where everyone agrees and no government does anything. Like, wow, congratulations. What a fun fucking
I gave
conversation,
you
dude.
a definition of political violence. I explained why these systems are inherently politically violent. Then I defined what I believed were the values and axioms of right-wing philosophies and explained why those aren't necessarily politically violent and how they
Right.
do.
And then when I
sometimes
said,
co-opt
hey,
socialism,
here's how this fits
etc.
into your
And then
definition,
what
you said,
you-
well, that
so-
doesn't count. And then it's like, well, your definition, even though I just don't like your definition. And then we can just go in circles for that for 40 minutes.
Okay, so let's go with your definition.
Yeah.
What is human rights?
What do you think?
No, we don't even have.
What are
We don't even.
human
Hold on. We
rights?
don't.
How do we define those?
Before we go into that,
Because I would say private property is a human right. Therefore, I'll accept your definition.
Okay,
Well,
does
we can-
progressivism say that we can't have private property?
Yes, absolutely and
does.
explicitly.
What?
listen, hold on.
Progressivism?
I
You can't
quoted.
have private property.
Well, I quoted
Go
a
ahead,
progressive
Jim.
leader. First of all, in my opening, which y'all haven't disputed, I quoted a modern progressive leader, and he said to kill the landlords because guess what? They
Are you
own
talking about
private property.
Hassan Piker
That's
as
a
the modern progressive leader?
Modern progressive leader. He is a modern progressive
The
leader.
media
Okay, so
certainly
wait.
thinks
If
so.
I quote a modern progressive
So
leader
anyway-
who says don't kill the landlords,
No, hold
does
on.
it cancel out your
Hold on.
argument?
No, it doesn't. But
Okay, but
one,
yours
but hold on,
supersedes mine no
hold
matter
on,
what,
Before
yeah?
we even need to go down this rabbit hole with the rights, because I'm going to let Fabian take that one.
Mhm.
I guess that's more. It'll be more fun. I want to point out that even by Soy Pill's definition, right, they still, if they go outside the tribalist, we're going to live in loincloths and live happily with nature, whatever, and they have a government come in here and start ordering you around. Guess what? That is inherently violent by his own definition. Because no matter if
By
you
my
define
definition?
rights,
Yes.
no matter if you define
Both.
the rights by how Fabian's about to, we can sit here and go, at some level, if you force change on this tribe and put a government in there that makes them change how they've been living and forcefully, guess what? That's violent. Now, Fabian,
Yeah,
go
well,
ahead and tell
first
us
of all,
about
in my
the
intro, I disagreed with that completely, and I said that, in fact, you can do freedom of association and leave, which Fabian actually agreed. You can do that. You can go live in these communes if you want to. Therefore, enforcing the laws of society that we all agree on when we live here, and by leaving, we can then leave that pact, is not violence if you say, yeah, you're allowed to go if you want to. So that's ridiculous. And if you're
Soy
quoting
Pill,
just
if I go to
Hassan
your
Piker
house-
as like, yep, that's progressivism, sorry, any and all examples of the entire democratic progressive movement that is not trying to abolish private property, that's not progressivism. But this guy that I don't like who wants
I
to get rid of
do.
landlords, that's progressivism.
Yeah,
do
so
Like,
not
real quick,
remember
Soy Pill,
one
Soy Pill,
Go ahead,
if I go to your
Fabian.
house,
Go ahead. Hold on.
Soy
Go
Pill,
ahead,
if
Fabian.
Soy Pill, if I go to your house and I put a gun to your head and I say,
Mhm.
I'm going to blow your fucking brains out if you don't leave this apartment right now,
mhm.
is that a choice for you to leave? Yeah, you can choose to leave, right?
Yep.
So by that definition, that would be non-violent if I threaten to blow your brains out if you don't leave all of your property.
Yeah,
in your
that's the
home.
exact
Would that be
same thing as
nonviolent?
the government enforcing laws and taxes. I agree. Yeah.
Okay, well then chalk up another.
No, I'm
dub
being
for
fucking
me,
sarcastic.
since
Dude.
you're
That's
too
the
much of a coward to
stupidest
engage
fucking
in
analogy
hypothetical.
ever. Well, yeah, like, okay, I'm born in the place and I can go to any other country with any other set of rules I want, but because I didn't choose to be born here, oh man, oh mom, this is unfair to me. This is violent that there's a fucking social pact that we all pay into and agree upon. This is the stupidest libertarian brain rot ever. I knew this was gonna fucking happen, but go
hold
on.
on.
Make up another
You-
dipshit
you're not-
fucking
you're
analogy.
just-
Hold on, no, hold
or
on.
like,
Why is it that you're so scared of actually engaging in debate? Is it because you know you'll fucking lose?
It's
like you
because
have
it's
all night?
so fucking boring because you have
but
all
even
these
by his own-
hypotheticals
They're
of
so fucking
libertarian
bored, then
fairyland
leave.
where it's like, what do you
If-
need?
If
It's
you're too afraid to debate and you won't
because
engage
at
in
the very
hypotheticals,
least
you
we
won't
can talk
engage in
about
the
how
arguments.
progressivism and socialism aren't inherently violent, but if you want to talk about how like fucking libertarian brain rot, all taxation is theft, everything is a violation of the NAP, it's just fucking boring, it's going in circles, and it doesn't actually contend on anything existing in real life where this has to be borne out in a reality where this fucking works. It's the lamest fucking thing ever. We can talk about these three things, I'm happy to,
I
but
don't
if you
know,
want to
you
go
sound like
talk
you're
about
whining
fucking
and
NAP
bitching
and
about the
bullshit and like
format
get
of
into
the
like the
debate.
libertarian theory, it is the most brain rotting boring thing I ever had to talk about. I'm not scared
I
of
get
it.
it, you're
I
a
just don't want to
coward.
fucking kill myself.
oh, I got
I get it.
something.
You won't engage with the debate. That is like without a doubt.
I
Wait,
got
Fabian, do you
so
believe
much
the Earth
to
is
it.
flat? Do you believe the Earth is flat, Fabian?
No.
No, you don't believe the Earth is flat? Do you want to
No,
debate about it though? Because I
see-
believe the Earth is flat.
this is what I'm doing for you. This is the world's
I
smallest
think you
violin
should.
playing my
I
heart
think you should stick to the
right now.
topic.
So I feel like, goddamn, bro.
But
Like,
no, I don't believe in that.
I'm sorry,
I've
was
never
the
seen
topic
more-
whether or not taxation is violence?
I've never seen more crying
coke.
and caterwauling than I have heard in the last 5 minutes of Soybean. Like, this is outlandish. Like, you're sitting here arguing. You can't name one socialist country that exists today that is not violent. North Korea, violent. I mean, we can argue communist China.
Do you think
which
Europe
maybe
is
more
violent,
socialist.
Gibbs?
Yeah, I would argue that
Inherently?
Europe is like
need one of
violent.
those
Okay, like a
violence.
Demsock
Are
thing,
you
right?
serious?
Yeah, like you think they're inherently violent, yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Do you
Okay,
know
why?
European history?
No, current Europe.
Yes.
Like Sockdam, like Nords. They're inherently violent, yeah?
I would argue. Look at the UK. You
Yeah.
can't even sit here and tweet.
Oh, that's
without
not what
going
I.
to
You
the
did
That's
say
not what I
sock
said.
dem
I
Nords,
said
right?
Sockdam Nords.
I mean, I could just listen. You can point to some random country, whatever, doesn't matter.
Sock
Yeah,
dem
okay.
Nords.
I'm pointing to
Easy
Norway, all right? I'm pointing right at
easy.
Norway. It's that
It doesn't-
direction, okay? I'm
listen,
pointing
you
at Norway.
You think Norway's
Hey.
not inherently violent? They're
Yeah.
like a homogenous population. They're partially the reason why they're able to have any kind of social because guess what? They
Wait.
enforce their
Are they not?
Why
Because
are
they're
you
all
going
white?
to
Is that what you're saying?
Island
Guys,
right now
hey,
because they won't let them go into normal
Yeah, I mean, and then the Falkland
Please
Islands. You know,
allow
that's the other thing,
me
British.
to interrupt one more time. Let's reset. Listen, when you're all going, it really just nobody hears anything you're saying. So at least try to be respectful. I know we all want to kind of chime in and go crazy on each other. Are you okay?
Yeah, he'll be fine.
I'm
Oh.
recovering from the flu. Sorry, I told you.
Whew. I thought you were like puking or something, but please be mindful of
No.
that. Okay, pick it back up.
Right. So, Gibbs, I was asking if you think these things are inherently violent because you say, I can't point to a socialist or communist country that's not inherently violent. And that's why at the beginning I said, well, I can't point to a single government that's not inherently violent if you use the definition that enforcing laws and taxation is inherently violent. So, my question is, what
Well, then
makes
cool, then you gave
Norway
us the
inherently
game.
violent? Yeah, it gives up the game if I use your stupid, obtuse, broad definition that says everything is violence and not, hey,
Well,
like
even by
when
your
we talk about
definition-
Nazism and fascism, which you brought at the beginning, like, hey, yeah, they're killing dissidents. They're locking them up. They're inherently like set to expand and get Lebensraum. This seems like a politically violent ideology that is baked into the only way that we can exist and succeed is to take over other people and suppress those dissidents, which is very different from most countries that don't do that. So I would assume that if you're going to use some sort of definition, it would have to be something that distinguishes it from literally every government ever. So that's why I don't use your stupid definition.
Where's the line?
Yeah.
Where is the line in your definition? Right.
Well, I don't know
Because you
exactly
won't-
where the
you won't
line is, and we can
engage-
get
so
into
there's
the
no line.
Loki's wager, but I'll tell you this.
Soy
I
Bill,
think
stop
100
interrupting.
people
Soy
going
Bill,
onto a
stop
commune is not
Hold on.
Nazism
Soy Bill,
as Gibbs
stop
has
Let
interrupting.
defined.
Fabian finish, please.
Well, you asked me a question.
So no, you interrupted while I'm trying to explain the context of behind the question. So what I have heard from you is a definition, and then I've said I'll even accept your definition, and then you ran away because I said private property is a human right. But now I'm going to try a different avenue of attack. Maybe you'll engage because you haven't all night. Where is the line where the things that you've described become political violence, but lesser acts of force and coercion against people's will are for some reason not considered political violence when they are like when does it cross over into political violence for you?
Right. So I think when you're getting into things like suppressing free speech, when you're getting into things, let's just take the Bill of Rights, right? Okay, the Bill of Rights is, I think, a pretty good like litmus test or a template for if you're like strictly violating these things, you're stepping into some sort of like violence, right? Versus, hey, I'm saying you should pay taxes or else you go to jail is very different from the government says you're not allowed to criticize it. And while I might not be able to draw the most specific thick line of, yep, as soon as you step over this, it's politically violent, and I think that's kind of a Loki's wager fallacy of like, well, if you can't draw it, it doesn't exist. I think we can pretty clearly say that the violations of something like, I don't know, Germany today are nowhere close to the violations of Germany in 1940. And then we can kind of break out the minutia and say, okay, well, how would communism, socialism, or progressivism fit into what we would definitely all agree would be like the Nazi government versus something today which is not inherently violent unless you think that all forms of enforcing laws and taxation are, in which case it would be pointless to talk about it at all.
Okay, so it's pointless to talk about, but here's my problem. We can both agree that a million nails is different than one nail. I can obviously say that, the UK locking people up because they have bad tweets isn't the same thing as like Nazi Germany putting Jews in Dachau. Like
I think, but you could say those things are similar, Fabian.
No,
to your
Soy
point.
Bill,
To your
stop.
point.
Soy Bill, stop. Right? So we can see these are two substantively different things. But it is not a fallacy to demand that you are able to tell me what is the limiting principle or what is the thing that makes it political violence and not political violence. Because as of right now, all you were saying is, I can look at it in extreme and I can name that political violence, but I look at something that's far less extreme and it's not political violence because it doesn't make me feel a certain way. That's
Well,
not
to be clear,
acceptable.
in
I
my
don't accept
intro,
that.
I said suppression of dissidents. I said, oh, what else did I say here? Because I have it all written down here. And, you know, if whether or not you want to list this, yeah, excising undesirables, suppressing dissent to maintain order, and, like, that's why I used fascism and Nazism as these examples, because we can clearly see that's happening. Now, I might even grant you the way that the UK is doing this, although not the exact same as the way the Nazis are doing this, could be like a suppression of free speech. I'd have to look at the examples because I hear right-wing people bloviate about this all the time, and I don't actually know what people are tweeting. Could be something that I might agree is probably illegal, but that is a suppression of dissent and maybe even a violation of free speech that we could agree, hey, this is political violence versus anything else that we've talked about. So,
first of all, why does it need to reach a certain level before it is the thing, as opposed to the minutia of the thing? And secondly, when does it become, why is that political violence and other acts of coercion not violence? You still haven't answered my question. You just said, these things make me feel bad and they look real bad. That's not an argument.
Well, can I just jump in and let you respond to both of us real quick, Soypill, because you kind of addressed this originally to me with Norway. Well, okay, before you can include what he said, but I'd also like you to include this. I think you would agree. I know Buckaroo is definitely going to agree with this. That systemic racism and systemic oppression, that would be political violence, right? And I can sit here and point to reports from the UN that say that there's substantial. Yeah, I can't talk to that. I have a concussion once again. There's a substantial amount of oppression and discrimination within the system of Norway's governments. We can look at labor markets. We can look at it's specific with housing. I can look at ethnic discrimination, all through our stuff, specifically racism against Africa. And also, if we go further back into their history, the reason why they're able to be socialist now, partially is because of the oil, but also partially due to their benefits from colonialism. So once again, even in the system you described, they are inherently violent. So unless you disagree about that, then I don't know.
Hold on. So you're using the fact that they're homogenous and might discriminate against people that don't look like them, which is not part of their political ideology. This is like things about in-group preference.
Oh, well, that's what you said about the Nazis.
What? No, the Nazis explicitly make it encoded in law to discriminate, which is very different from a group of people.
So housing regulations is not encoded in law?
Are there housing regulations that say, hey, we're are they specifically discriminating against people in their housing regulations? Because if so, if this is like redlining, if they have that in Norway, I could say that, yeah, that's treading more into a politically violent ideology, but I don't think that's inherent to it. That's a bunch of people within the ideology who are saying, hey, we have this ideology, we're paying more taxes and doing these welfare programs, and then the people inside decide to be racist, does not automatically attach it to that ideology. In the same way you could have racist capitalism and you could have peaceful capitalism, which is what I said at the very beginning. You could have a peaceful monarch long as everyone is on the same fucking page.
Government policy from the Norwegians. Sure. They have the active suppression and harassment that is endorsed by the government of the Sami people in Norway. Do you know of this?
I don't. Tell me more.
Well, I mean, maybe you should look this up because you're sitting and putting them out there as a golden child.
That's not what I
said. Of a socialism that has no political oppression.
Yeah, no, I asked you if they were inherently violent, actually.
And they were very sympathetic to the Nazis back in the day, if you recall. Mm-hmm. But hey, let's just ignore history. Let's ignore the oppression that's happening currently. Let's ignore the systemic racism. I know your partner doesn't even agree with you on this.
Your partner doesn't agree with you on this. We had a whole thing about how he thinks it's okay for black people to not associate with white people and vice versa. So he doesn't even agree with the Civil Rights Act. So don't get on me about partner discohesion, buddy.
Gibbs, you've given literal descriptions of violence that do not
brought
adhere.
Up the Civil Rights Act at all tonight?
No, I was just jumping off the point that Gibbs and you don't have the same. You probably don't think these things are inherently violent or not.
Buckaroo, you were trying to say something.
I just remember Gibbs giving multiple descriptions of violence that didn't actually fall of violence and political violence that didn't actually fall into Fabian's description of political violence, which is a part of why we keep saying that actually they disagree.
Name one.
Let me see if I actually have the opening written down.
Yeah, I mean, you can look, but You're not going to find any because they all fit in Fabian's definition. So
No, I mean we already
hope you have it
both
written down.
challenged it so many times. That's why it's like kind of annoying.
and
That
well, hold
it
on,
seems
then
like we just
Soypil
have to keep
said-
saying
No,
it
you
again.
didn't. I've been
Well,
asking you to give
even-
a coherent
because even in my-
definition the
Well,
entire
then
time.
even
Soypil
in
even
my-
said, "Oh God,
Hold
you
on,
might actually
hold
have
on.
the same definition of political violence." Then, so
Yeah,
I-
once
so
you got both
because even-
meandered together and tweedledeed and tweedledummed into each other in the maze, yeah, you got to the
no,
same
it's more
point.
like we
Even
led
in
you
my
by the
opening,
nose to the promised land.
I guess it's just
What was that, a Jewish comment, bro?
it's like growing amusement on my part that they keep saying you can't even give a definition, when my whole opening was, yeah, they won't even be able to give a whole definition that they can completely agree upon, that they both actually express. And then even then, okay, just because you guys think you agreed doesn't mean you've made the same argument. I don't
We
even know what to tell you.
We
But on
agree.
top of that,
We sent each
but on
other our
top of
opening
that,
statements.
this
We
is
agreed
why
to it.
on
We've
top
said
of
on the
that-
panel we've agreed to
okay,
it. You
sending
have
each other
no
opening
counter.
statements. But on top of that, my opening statement points out explicitly that even when we're talking about political violence, the political violence that every other person on the street thinks is political violence isn't the same political violence that we're talking about here. And when we're
I'm
we're
about to
trying
lose
to
my
imply,
shit, Sarah. I'm about to lose my shit. For the love of
did you guys
fucking
not
I
God,
lost
listen
my
to my
shit when I
opening?
started.
If you think
Literally
there
just
are
like they didn't
opposing
listen.
definitions,
It is
if you
unironically
think there
like
are
they just did
opposing
not.
definitions,
I was
then
still
give
talking when you
yours.
interrupted. It is
I think
unironically
he has a
like
has
they-
a point
It is
there.
unironically like they did not listen to my opening, though. My whole
I heard it.
opening
It's
was
stupid.
about this.
Give your definition. If
Well,
you
hold on.
think
I
that
think
there
your
are
opening's
competing
stupid, so you
definitions,
have to give a better
yours.
definition. I don't like your
If you
definition.
I
refuse
agree
to
with
give any
Soypil.
definition
He
and
and I
say
have
we
worked on
all
this
just
from the
disagree, it's
beginning.
amorphous, then you're running like a baby
Yeah, but-
back bitch.
Yeah, but the only way to
borrow
make it not
Admiral Gibbs's
amorphous is to
terms.
say everything
Yeah,
is
I
politically
didn't say
violent,
that,
which is
but
the
you-
most retarded way to
Yeah.
run away from
Yeah.
it.
It can't just be nuh-uh.
Well, this
Like,
is why
fucking give an argument.
They don't want
Fabian,
me
this
to
is
answer,
this
I
is
won't.
why
It's
I
fine.
used
They
me
don't
and
want me
Fabian.
to respond.
Hold on. Well, hold on. We've been
If
responding
they
for a
did,
minute
they
here.
wouldn't interrupt me.
Hold
every
on,
time I
hold
did.
on. Listen, it's real simple. Well, the reason why you're getting interrupted is because you're just sitting here either lying or misinformed or
haven't
not
lied.
understanding.
Ha-
So listen, Big
No,
Papa
you
Girl.
guys
Admiral
Once
have not
Goebbels.
listened to
once
me.
Deceiving
again,
the
calm
public
down
again.
with the propaganda. Let's go back to what Fabian's saying. On one side, we've not disagreed. In fact, your partner's even granted that we do have the same definition. Secondly, I've also used his definition and shown, even in his
You're very bad at
beautiful
doing that.
golden city on the hill that is Norway, that even
You
then,
don't have to
guess
scream.
what?
I can still hear
yeah,
you.
cool. Listen, it's called pizzazz. It's presentation.
It's hurting my
Learn about it.
ears.
Well,
Your
cool. Well,
pizzazz
then,
is
listen,
painful.
it's okay, cool.
This
I'm
is
glad that you're
violence against
listen,
me.
Listen, that's
Through a
good.
political
It
means.
is violence. It
Why?
is
All right,
violence.
all right.
It is violence. But you know what you're
He's
doing here
breaking
is you're
the
trying.
NAP.
Listen, I think it's crazy that you're trying to distract me, but you're not. He's sitting here trying to.
Not trying to
kinda
distract
working.
you. You're
Sitting
just
here,
annoying
listen.
me.
I'm trying to finish the thought here.
I'm
He's
the
sitting here trying.
propagandist.
He's sitting. Yes, you're doing a good job. It's called interrupt and
You
not
are
let
the one
somebody.
who's
Let him do
made
his
the
plaque
endless
faster
Alright.
shit,
Once
dude.
again-
He's got
once
to be the
again-
reverend.
Alright.
Let him
The
do it.
golden
Let him
city
do
on the
it.
hill
Alright.
that soy pills described.
Land the
Even in
plane.
soy pills, golden city on a hill that is Norway.
Mhm.
Guess what? That is definitely going to be violence. In fact, let me just go one step further and use the actual golden city on the hill. That would be the city of God, the kingdom of heaven come down. Guess what? Even in a Christian philosophy, where this theory comes from, where you have the ultimate socialist utopia, you have that enforced by the Lord High God.
Are you telling me God is a
And
socialist?
yeah, and the only way it works is because he's got all powerful and he's got
God
all
is
the
a
resources.
socialist.
Well, yes, because in the only way socialism
Okay,
works.
so
Hold on,
maybe
let me-
you're
can I
the
finish?
one
Can
who's
I
wrong,
finish?
considering
Hold on,
you're
let me
the
finish.
Antichrist.
Hold on.
Let me
hold
finish.
On, hold
Let
on.
me finish,
Give-
Alex.
Land the plane.
It's I know I'm not landing the plane because I'm getting interrupted every 2 seconds. It's simple. The reason why it would be socialism in a biblical sense under the Bible is because one, God's all powerful and God has endless resources, and He
It's not
enforces it
socialism
through
'cause
his
there's no scarcity.
hold on. Well, yeah. Well, I guess that's an argument. But if there is, He sits there, it forces us through His might against all other powers, right? And then He provides, right, through this. That's socialism in a sense. So even in the most pure theological Christian sense, you can argue this is socialism, and it's enforced by violence. At no level theological or in soy pills perfect world or in the practicality of every other socialist country is it not enforced by violence, and that's by His own definition. Not to mention it falls under everything that we've said in ours.
Okay,
How
so
does
wait, no,
God
I need to respond to this, Papa.
how
Okay,
does
so just to
God
be clear, no,
enact
Papa, please,
violence in
Papa,
heaven?
please. Okay, so
I
if
was
you're
the
gonna,
one interrupted for him to go on this fucking rampage about how
called
God
a
is a
whooping.
socialist.
I mean,
Okay, so if you're the reason I pointed out Norway was not to say that, oh well, look, they're perfect and they've never done anything violent ever. The point was to show you that if you have a dem sock thing and you're saying that that is politically violent, as I said at the very beginning, you're going to then say that, oh well, based on the prompt, literally everything is political violence. Every government that's ever existed, that is a completely fruitless, pointless definition. In the same way, I could ask you, hey, did the Nazis violate human rights? And you would answer, literally every person ever has violated human rights. Every government in the entire world. What a fucking pointless statement. Are you going to point to the fact, now I actually grant you this, if you want to specifically weasel in the definition of communism to inherently mean revolution, then technically you can kind of get on how that's inherent, but I don't know why you would even bother if you believe the same thing as Fabian, which is that all governments are inherently violent. What's the fucking point? So are you going to talk about why these specific 3 things in the prompt are inherently violent, or are you going to keep jumping back to, well, no, if they've ever done anything violent ever, they're inherently violent ever? Like, what's the fucking point?
What's crazy, first of all, what's crazy...
strung together like 7 straw mans.
What's crazy
your inability to argue.
Well, Fabian, what's crazy is in this word salad he just put forth
Goebbels.
is that, we're going to weasel in the literal definition, the literal
It's revolutionary
policy prescription that Engels and Marx and then every other leader from Mao to Pol Pot to fucking Stalin has implemented communism. Then we can talk about socialism. Go look at like Juche. Every single one, the Nazis. We can even talk about democratic.
Why are you using any historical examples, Gibbs, if you think every government is inherently violent?
We can talk about Norway. Listen, I don't have to do that. Because
why? But why are you bringing them at all? You think that every government's inherently violent.
Let's talk about a government that's not inherently violent.
Okay, let's talk about why.
Sure.
Wait, I do want to hear
Everybody
this.
take
Let's talk about a
chill pill
government
and
that's not
settle
inherently violent.
Sure.
Yeah, let me answer. So I already did when I brought up Prospera. And I brought up the Republic of Kospaya from 1440 to 1826. Those are 2 examples of voluntary governments that are completely not inherently violent. But I also want to point out that when I made my opening statement, which again, neither of you are able to contend with, that I said that yes, the right has many times co-opted and used power and violence to maintain their values and their axioms. But my argument against your whataboutism, because you can't even, because I knew that you would run away from the prompt itself and instead engage in whataboutism about the right or saying that the definition was too broad, was that these are not inherent to the right wing. It is very simple. And the simple argument is this, is that leftism rejects private property rights. It does. Progressivism does. Socialism does. And obviously communism rejects private property.
How does progressivism do this?
Absolutely.
No, how? How?
Well, I mean, taxation is just one example of a rejection of private property rights.
Wait, do you think that Prospera wasn't inherently violent?
Yes.
Did you know they had
wasn't inherently violent.
taxes?
I told you. I even gave you the specific tax rate, which is 5.4%.
Yeah.
It is a voluntary community.
So as long as everyone agrees
voluntary
that taxes are okay, it's not violent.
It's if people agree to do something, then it's not violent if people voluntarily.
So it's not
agree to do it.
inherently violent because there is a possibility that everyone could agree that it's okay, right?
Well, there is a possibility.
Okay,
in
cool.
some universes.
All right. Thank you for
Hold on.
conceding the whole fucking
Hold on.
debate.
You're
Oh,
not
hold on.
gonna
Wait, let me do the other thing. I win. Also, we won the whole time. They conceded in the beginning. They're totally off the things, and I declare victory, Sarah. We won the entire thing. A WW.
That's what's
I'm
happening.
putting on both my other
semantics.
sunglasses.
You know what?
This
It's
is
the bomb.
semantics.
That's the whole point of
Let's
it. That makes
go.
sense.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me hit this bomb. Let me hit this bomb.
Gibbs, don't.
Sure,
No.
Just hit the bomb real quick, because that's the only way what they're saying makes sense. Go ahead.
Yeah, so again, the difference is that when it is non-voluntary, all it requires is for one person to have, for 2 individuals or 2 or more individuals, because it needs to be intersubjectively communicated, but that's neither here.
What does inherent mean,
For-
Fabian?
I'm not going to let you continue.
Whoa,
to
why are
delay
you
me
running
so
away
can
from the
get this-
definition of inherent,
Hold on.
Fabian?
Let
What
him-
does inherent
let him
mean?
finish. Let him finish, and then you can.
What's
Well,
the
he's trying to
definition of the
dodge,
word
Sarah.
is?
He's running away.
What is the definition of the word is?
I'm not. The idea that you're accusing me of running away from arguments when you explicitly
No, this is
stated
me
that you
making fun of
refuse to
you being
engage in
stupid.
several arguments.
Dude, I'm not actually
Um,
accusing you of it. I'm being you. That's the point.
Got it. I
Finish
don't
your
know why
thought,
you're
Fabian,
here,
and then
but-
we
but
can
anyways,
entertain the
so-
question to define.
So again, right. So again, it is true. For example, I'll do it in an example so it makes more sense, right? So Robinson and Crusoe are on an island, right? And they're deserted. Now, Robinson wants to leave the island. So he finds this big, beautiful stick and says, this will be a big, beautiful stick for my raft. Crusoe, however, doesn't think you're going to get off of the island, and he doesn't want to build a stick. So instead, he wants to take that stick and make a fishing pole so that they have food to eat. Now, what you have introduced is you have introduced conflict. You have two individuals that want scarce resources towards opposing means. So any system that is to claim itself to be ethical must be conflict avoiding. It cannot be conflict inducing. Yes, it is true that Robinson could convince Crusoe of the superiority of building a raft. Yes, it is true that both of them could just decide for whatever reason that they both want a raft. But in the event that individuals want to use scarce resources towards opposing means, it is only voluntary exchange. It is only capitalism that gives this conflict a form of resolution. Communism does not do this. Socialism does not do this. Democracy does not do this. Progressivism does not do this. All of these systems say might makes right. That is the claim that you believe, which is contradictory to ethical claims. Now, my argument from the beginning is that these are not inherent to right-wing philosophies, that right-wing philosophies are willing to give private property rights. They are willing to give, to cede that liberty so long as they do not see their values or their preferences in some way, shape, or form deteriorate. It is a prison's dilemma situation where so long as everybody is cooperating, the right says you have the liberty to do what
guys,
you
what
want
book are we
to
on
do.
now? 13, 14?
It is only when those things begin to, when the culture begins to degrade, when crime begins to occur at high rates, when people begin to demand more and more wealth redistribution, that the right comes in with its philosophy of order-based violence and then begins to impose its order, what I would say, violently against those. But it is not a necessary component to the right because the right is willing to cede private property rights. It is willing to live in a society in which people act freely. The left, progressivism, communism, socialism, claims that that liberty in and of itself is problematic. They claim that when people are dispossessed, that we need wealth redistribution in order to fix this problem. Or in the most extreme example of communism or classical Marxism, they claim that the very concept of private property itself is immoral. That is the difference between the inherent violence of the left and the fact that the right sometimes uses that violence, but that it is not inherent necessarily to the ideology. That is my argument from the beginning.
I figured out why they're confused, Fabian. I figured it out. It's real simple. They've been sitting here thinking we disagree on this. Now, I think it's because they've done panels with me before, and they know that I sit here and talk about might makes right. And in the end, my biggest philosophy
you just bite the bullet. Yeah,
I bite the bullet and say might makes right, and then I say I want my side to have the might, not the other side. However, that doesn't mean I disagree with his stance that these are violent actions. So when you're sitting here trying to obfuscate. Well, I mean, then you're just confused.
We listened to what you said, and you were saying
well, then you just didn't understand what I said.
What he
said. I didn't contradict what I said. Well, here's the crazy thing.
We've asked
you to name one. You haven't been able to do that yet. So what did I say that contradicted? Yeah, well, you've been looking, right?
Right. I didn't.
Well, instead of going with Fabian from the very beginning,
can you cite one example from my opening now, please?
So the reason it's contradictory is because instead of going with Fabian's definition and then just arguing based on the property value, violations or NEP violations, you started going into the specifics of a specific ideology and the specific things that would make it violent under more of what I would say is violent, which is killing people, subverting of dissidents, and if you're working in these things,
it's a dumbass.
So
that's a
contrary.
Cool.
I'm sorry. Wait,
even by your more narrow definition, I'm still right.
Well, anyway, I want to respond. I want to respond to what Fabian.
It's not even contrary. They're not contradictory.
Well, maybe if you read philosophy, you'd know what it was. But
go ahead. So
I guess nobody here does.
Okay.
Do you know the difference between
first thing, I think it is kind of interesting.
Do
you? No, I guess don't go ahead.
Do you know a contradictory point yet? Wait, no, you don't.
Hold up.
But I
go ahead, Zoe.
Got it.
Okay, so first, I don't know if this is like a thought experiment. This is a very pedantic thing, but Robinson Crusoe, isn't that one name? Isn't that one guy? Am I crazy?
he said.
Yeah,
the guy's name.
there's a book where the guy's name is Robinson Crusoe.
But why did you split them
Again,
up?
not-
Like one guy got, like Robinson got a
Just for
stick
the
and
thought
Crusoe got a
exercise, two
stick.
names,
Okay,
bro.
I was
Come
just
on, move
curious.
on.
I was very confused with that part. But anyway, the idea that, well,
Okay.
yeah, sure, you can, control,
damn,
you
Tom.
could say like, yeah, I could tell you to do this, and technically it's not like, a violence upon you because I'm convincing you. Well, okay, well, in your Prospera thing, if two people decide, hey, I don't like this, and they want to leave, they can, right? There wouldn't be some sort of violence that would prevent them from leaving, prevent them from maybe saying, I don't like this tax rate in Prospera. They would be able to have some associate and go somewhere else. No?
They're able to leave? What does that have to do with anything? Yes.
You're saying
people are able to
Prospera
leave
is not inherently
Prospera.
violent, right?
Correct. Prospera
Right,
is not
because
inherently
everyone
violent.
agrees on the tax rate.
They agree going in.
Right, they agree going in.
They-
So if
they
two
agree, they
people,
sign a
if
voluntary
two-
contract.
and then two people
So-
say, you know what, I don't like this anymore, it's still not inherently violent because they would leave, I'm assuming, right?
They've already agreed to a contract.
They've already voluntarily agreed to be there. What are you
Wait,
talking about?
wait, okay, so if
If
you
you work
can
at a
never
job- if
change
you
your
work at a
mind,
job-
if you
No,
ever
if you work
change
at a
your
job
mind,
and you get a job for $17
Right,
an hour,
okay,
right? And
so-
then you've been working there for a year, and then you want a raise,
Yeah.
and then your boss says, "Actually, I don't want to give you a raise."
you can quit,
That's
right?
not violence all of a sudden.
But you can quit, right? Yeah, it's not violence. I'm saying it's not violence,
Right,
right?
yeah, but
if they
in-
say,
in
I
the
don't want to live
contract-
here
What's your
anymore,
point?
that's not
Lay out
violence.
what's
So
This is
I
not
know
a
why he's
gotcha.
confused.
I'm leading
No,
into
no,
something.
I know
I'm asking
why
if
he's
you
confused.
want to
Because
leave, it's not violence, right?
Well, Soy, the reason why you're confused is because in the contract they agreed to go there. They're moving to a new location, which is Prospera. In the contract, if they choose to no longer abide by the rules, they've already previously agreed that they will leave.
Okay.
So that's the stipulations
Right.
of the contract they've agreed to. So
I'd
it's
just like
not
to point out
violent.
that
No, yeah,
Prospera
They follow
right.
isn't
the rules
socialism,
of what they've
progressivism, or
agreed to.
communism.
I'm not saying it is. You guys
So
are
I don't
getting
know
hung
what
up like I'm
this
trying to
is-
Yeah,
sneak
I
you
mean,
into
they
a
don't have any
definition.
argument
The
against
whole
the
point I'm
actual
saying
clause.
is that if you feel the
Right.
same way about any of these other societies that you say are inherently violent, like Norway,
I just
Stockholm,
disproved how
or
it's
any,
I
inherently
didn't
violent.
agree.
But
you
wait, hold
didn't
on.
agree.
You
So
said-
by
are
virtue
you
of being
saying
born, you
that-
can still leave. What do you mean? It doesn't
So-
matter if
no,
you agree
Soy,
to be
Soy,
here.
Hold
if you
on. Do you
hold
think
on,
I had
hold
a
on, Soy,
choice
if
in
you
my
agree
birth?
to a
No, but you have a choice to leave the country, right?
No, but if you agree to a
Again,
contract before
if
you
I
go
go to
in,
your house and I point a gun at your head and I say you can either leave or I can blow your brains out, you have a choice to leave. But it's
Yeah,
not
but
a
he's
They're not,
missing
but
the
that's
most
not even what the
obvious
government's
part.
doing. They're saying,
Soy,
hey, if you
you're-
live here, yeah, this is the tax rate, and if you don't like it, you can leave.
Soy, no, but you're missing the most obvious part that makes this big difference, right? His argument, Fabian's putting forth, right, and this is really the simplest part, is okay, if you're born into a country, you didn't previously agree. If you're
Mhm.
going to Prospera, you are assigning something, you're agreeing to the rules. If you decide I no longer want to live by these rules, in the contract you've already agreed to that you leave. If you don't leave, you're the one
No,
causing the violence at
I
that
understand that you signed out initially. Do you think hunger is like unfair because I didn't agree to be hungry and I have to eat, and the world is forcing me to eat food? Like, do you understand that it's like you're making this weird fallacious thing where just because I was born in a country which has freedom of association, you can leave it whenever you
Where's
want
bugs?
because
Are
I don't
bugs
like the
free?
rules. It's violent
are
that
bugs
they have
free?
a point of rules because you now
Can you eat
exist in it.
bugs?
What?
Can you eat bugs?
Of course you can eat bugs.
I love
Oh,
how
then,
you
then it doesn't
blended
matter if
the
you go hungry. 'Cause
accusation.
you don't ever have to go hungry.
Yes,
but it's
You eat
unfair.
bugs
But
if
it's
you need to.
unfair. Like I'm being forced to eat these bugs. It sucks,
This is
right?
so. This is you
What?
blended an accusation of a
It still is not
fallacy
addressing the problem.
with an argument, a communist argument, I might add, that scarcity equals violence, and it's really weird because it has nothing to do with the fucking prompt or what we're arguing.
No,
It's like you
you're
just
arguing
threw
that
out
by
two
being
random
born in a
nonsense
country,
things.
it's inherently violent because you don't agree to the rules by being born. And I'm
But
saying,
not
well, okay,
being
is
born
it
in the country is not? How are you this incapable of following? the
maybe
argument?
you're just not
Nobody
listening to me?
ever
I
said
understand
that-
it's hard and you like
He's
ignored half
probably
the shit
not.
I said,
I'm-
but you know,
I'm
like it's a
listening
pretty
to you, I
common
promise.
theme throughout
Being-
this. I mean, can you even
being
say why
born-
progressivism is somehow incompatible with capitalism
have-
when there are so many
I
progressive
have
capitalists,
so
or is
many
that also
times.
inherently violent? Because you said capitalism is the only way to freely associate in these things. If progressivism allows for some private property, if it
Progressivism
allows,
is anti-capitalist.
it's literally not. I don't know what to
It
tell
is.
you.
It is.
It's really
Okay,
not.
so wait, do you think that Norway is not capitalist? It's strictly socialist because it's Demsoc,
I
or
didn't
do you
say
think
it
that
was
Germany?
strictly socialist? It depends on. It's a mixed market economy. Now you
Okay.
can make the argument that it is capitalistic, that it has some elements of capitalism,
Like
but
private
to make
property.
the argument that it is capitalist would mean that it is pure capitalist, that it is laissez-faire capitalist.
Oh,
Would mean
okay.
that it
Capitalism
is
is only
anarcho-capitalist.
laissez-faire. Just to be clear, that's the definition we're working with.
I'm working off of the concept
That's the one
of
he's just
voluntary
presented,
exchange.
to be clear, not just the one we're working with. The one he has presented.
If you want to use capitalism as a definition in the way that communists use it, then everything that is bad is capitalism. Now, mine.
No,
has
I
some
mean we're having a
coherence to it.
communist economy where we have, freedom of association and private entities and businesses, which is like totally allowed in every progressive society on the planet. That's what I mean.
Again, this has nothing to do with whether or not these three ideologies presented are inherently
It does
violent.
because you
have
say
gone
that
into-
progressivism
you've
is
gone into-
inherently
you have
violent
gone
because
into-
it doesn't
you
allow
have
private
gone
property,
into-
which
you
is
have
just
gone
not true
into-
or borne out
you
in
have
reality
gone
whatsoever.
into- you have gone into this new argument, which is an attack against libertarianism and the way in which I am defining capitalism. But again, you are the one that is making the claim that progressivism, communism, and socialism are not inherently violent. That is what you are here to defend.
Well, first of all, you're the affirmative,
no
and you have yet
bearing
to
whether or not
prove that
other
progressivism
political-
is without your libertarian definition, which I'm attacking, which is
Well, but
why
even
I'm
by
doing
your-
it,
Okay,
which
I
is
said
perfectly
very
exactly
nice
what to
your
do with the debate
definition,
is.
and then you ran away from debating your definition.
They
Yeah,
really
it's
don't
crazy
like me
because
pointing
I've already
out
used your
they're making
definition
the
and-
argument here.
Hold on. I listen. First of all, maybe his wording right there could be construed, but he's absolutely correct. You can have to also, as the neg, have to advocate and show why they're not inherently. At every turn, Fabian and I have shown by your definition, by his definition, by Fugazi's definition, by Bob Saget's definition, it's still inherently politically violent. Like, you can keep giving me definitions, and I can keep giving you examples of why they're politically violent. You ran when
No,
I
you
gave
keep giving
your
examples,
metric.
but when I bring up the reason that
Well, I'll
inherent
give
is
a
not
specific-
tied to these, they have to be inherently this. You can't
Well,
show it
first
other
you-
than,
the
well, this
reason why
person
I-
did
the-
it once,
hold on. The
although it's
reason why
not
I
tied
am
to
doing
it.
this is because, hold on. The reason why I am able to do this is because, one, let's just go look at your example, Weasley, of saying the definition. When I quoted the philosophers who came up with the political theorists who came up with communism in general in the first place, and you're sitting there, Weasel.
And now we're
when
back
that's the
to,
standard-
changing
hold on,
a government
hold on,
is inherently
hold on.
violent.
Then,
Okay,
then
I
we're
got
gonna
it.
hold on. Then we're gonna go back. Then you described again. I'm just gonna walk through all these different things. Then you described trying to frame what Fabian proposed as
Yeah. Can I show you the
libertarianism,
contradiction?
actual
We
national
can skip all this. I can show you the
Hold on, and then we
contradiction.
can keep
I don't
going.
think he would be able to
Even by
understand
your
it if he
own
did.
definition, then when I come give you examples of specific policies in those countries where they are politically violent, you go, well, let's go back to them again. And
No,
argue,
I said
they're
that's not inherent.
capitalistic.
That's not what I said.
Oh,
but
they're not
nice
inherent.
try.
Well, you can't
Yeah.
name one country that's ever had socialist predominant leanings that
You
hasn't
can't
been
name a
inherently
single
violent.
country that's not inherently violent by your definition,
Sure,
which is
we
a
can-
pointless fucking
he's already
definition.
named-
Here,
he's
I'll
already
show you the
named several.
contradiction. Gibbs, so you said
not named
Norway
several.
is inherently violent because they had some laws against some sort of Norwegian, Scandinavian group of people, right? And they're enacting some sort of second-class citizenry, some housing policy that is inherently violent by doing this, yes?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
it's
that's your
inherently
argument. Okay,
violent.
the reason I would say it's not, and just to be clear, just my position on this is that the government of social DemSoc mixed market thing isn't doing this inherently. There are people in this are choosing through their form of government to do this. That's not inherent. Anyone can choose to do some sort of racist thing. But the contradiction being, Fabian, correct me if I'm wrong, but in your libertarian society where any race can associate anywhere and every white person can say no black people are allowed in any of our businesses, would that be political violence or would that just be freedom of association
Fabian,
under a
before
free
you answer, one
capitalism?
sentence.
No.
One
Let
sentence,
him answer
Fabian.
that because I
I'm gonna
promise
let-
you, I
I'm gonna
don't think you
answer.
guys agree on
I'm gonna
this.
I just want to say one sentence,
They
which
haven't
is
been able to
you
this
just
whole
said
time.
institutionalized racism, if they choose to do it, is not political violence. But all right,
No,
cool, go ahead.
no, actually, I didn't. I said it's not
That's what you just
inherent to the political
Oh, it's
ideology,
not
which is very
inherently
different.
politically violent.
Yeah,
Interesting, cool.
democracies.
propaganda,
Democracy. I said this in my
Admiral
intro,
Goebbels?
Gibbs. Democracies
mean,
could
I just
vote
stole my
to
line.
be
Sweet.
politically
Whatever,
violent, and
right?
democracies could vote to be peaceful, or they
Oh,
could all
no,
just
that
agree to
was
be
an
peaceful. You could have
accident.
a peaceful monarchy. You could have a politically
It's called
violent
creativity.
monarchy, and it has to be inherent to it.
That's
And that's
called
why we're
lying.
talking about inherent. That's the carrying word here. You could obviously.
Yeah,
I can point to a million examples of socialism,
I've
communism,
given you the
political
argument.
violence.
You have yet to respond to the argument.
Well, hold on. Can you answer my question? Do you think that people that freely associate and say no blacks in our stores is, politically violent or no?
Yeah, it's not politically violent to have a right
Okay,
to
so
freedom
Gibbs,
of
do you see how
association.
you guys don't even have the same fucking definition because you think it's
No,
political
because
violence here?
Once again, I
No, they
listed
can't follow logic,
specific
they can't see it.
institutionalized policies of the country versus what he's describing
What
is
logic?
is private citizens getting together and
They're
deciding
just
something.
throwing out
So
shit
it's
at
not
this point.
political
Like, this is
violence
how-
if
Soy
like
milk.
90% of the population is
Soy milk.
white
We
and
have
there's
had
no
the same
institution, but they
argument
all
the
say
whole
no
time.
blacks allowed. That's not political violence. But as soon as you say that now it's a government, now it's political violence.
Yeah, so I've given you a definition. You gave
Okay,
a
do you see how you're not
counter
addressing my
No
question?
response,
Right?
no
Yeah, okay.
response.
That's what I figured.
Pathetic.
definition. I find
You
it
said two
really funny.
words.
I really find it funny how you guys just interrupt me anytime I don't give you the exact
Yeah,
answer.
we've the
you're
only
looking
ones who've
for,
been interrupting.
because
I
all
agree.
you do is clip farm because you have no.
You're so funny. People accuse me of this. I
don't even
fucking
have
hate
clips.
clips. So no, I don't clip farm. I just
Literally
like
don't
yelling
hate
at you.
clips. What
Are you just?
talking
Oh,
about?
I'm sorry. I assumed you were clip farming, and I apologize for overestimating your intelligence and thinking
Clips
that
don't
you
make
actually
money,
do
buddy.
have the
I'm doing this
capacity
as a favor to my friend.
James, I'm
You
busy.
think
you
I would
do
endure
have
this
the-
for any other reason other than I care deeply about
What
my
are you
friend?
enduring except
Your
running
fucking
away from every
retardation
argument
is
interrupting?
giving me
You
a
guys,
fucking
what are you
headache, dude.
talking
All
about?
right,
This
this is a
conversation.
You just keep calling me a
time.
retard,
I
but you
think
won't
we're-
respond to any
hold on.
arguments.
You're not responding
I
to my
think-
point.
All right.
Look at me,
I'm-
I'm turning
may-
red.
may I
Now
please
who's the raging
respond to this
tomato? That's
argument
why it's up
quickly?
in the
I just
Here's what
corner.
I'm gonna-
responded to.
Hold on. Fabian, go ahead and
Mhm.
respond, and then
Chat, clip that.
I think it's time to move into closing statements, and then we'll do
Yeah.
open panel, and maybe some new inquiries can come to the table. Go ahead.
Yeah. So
Fabian.
to respond, would you like to restate your? Sorry, the civil rights. Why is that? Why is freedom of association not inherently violent? If people are freely capable of choosing who they associate with and who they don't associate with. The reason that is not inherently violent is that if people have the liberty to use their property as they see fit, what you have is a system of conflict reduction for scarce resources. So for example, if a black restaurant owner doesn't want white people in their restaurant, that is their property. Now, there are white people that want to use that restaurant, and there are black people that want to use that restaurant. And now we have a conflict, right? Because some white people want to go into that restaurant, and the restaurant owner doesn't want them there. And he doesn't want to be forced to make a sandwich for these white people because he's low on mayonnaise and he doesn't want to have to put extra mayonnaise on everything. I don't fucking know why he doesn't want them there. Or maybe he's racist. Doesn't fucking matter. What matters is that under capitalism, under free association, there is a means of resolving this conflict.
Really?
And the means of resolving that conflict is that the black restaurateur is the owner of the property and he has exclusive domain over his property. And the white man has exclusive domain over the property that he owns.
And what
So
if
there's a
60%
means
of the
resolving
country
conflict.
just kind of claimed all the private land and made it so the black people didn't have resources so that they could eat? Would that be political violence?
There is like, I don't know the means by which you're talking
Well,
about.
right.
You're
So
talking
they're
about
not
slave
stealing
labor?
anything. They
Like-
they said, you know what? I'm defining my private property to be all of the mayonnaise and sandwich materials, and you can't make any sandwiches anymore. Now you can't eat it all. So they're not
I don't know,
doing
this
anything. They're
sounds
not
like a
stealing any
socialist
property.
government
They're
where
freely
60%
associating to
win an
take all of
election
the things
and
that
then
you need to
force
make
the
the
other
sandwiches.
40%
He's
to
not
do
No, you're
it.
not
going to
forcing them at
answer your
all. You're just
question,
saying that I've
Soy Bill.
defined my
I
property
think you have
line
to
over
move
all
to
the
another-
resources, right?
I don't
Yeah,
think we're gonna.
we've gone over the Blockian proviso before, and I've given you this answer, but you know that you're up against the clock, and you know that
He's
you've
not
been a
willing to
coward this
answer.
entire time.
Non-answer.
Okay, I'll let you go. Go ahead.
This is not a non-answer. I've gone
It
over the
really is.
Blockian proviso with Soy Bill before.
I haven't
It
heard
is
a
not
satisfying
inherently
answer. Could you
violent.
please answer it?
It is inherently
Yes or
violent.
no? Very
It-
easy to answer.
Jesus Christ, shut the fuck up, you
Yeah, hold
cowardly
on.
bitch. You are running by interrupting me
Whoa.
constantly because you
You
I'm
know
should
not
that
run
I
running
more,
am
it
by
looks like. You and Gibbs.
actively interrupting.
you-
That's
You are
actively
actively interrupting so that I
participating.
can't answer the question.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
it
thought
is
you already
inherently-
answered it.
Yeah,
Chat clip
it
this.
is
Why are you
inherently-
Chat clip
Yeah.
this.
Lord
Again,
have
you are
mercy
interrupting,
on
you
us.
coward.
I just
So
answered this
again,
before.
I'm-
Then it,
No,
finish
I
up,
will-
Fabian, and then
again,
we're moving into closing
I
statement.
get it. Moderator, can you please mute her? She's fucking useless. So anyways, it is inherently violent to engage in encirclement if that encirclement is around an individual that is a private property. Now we can get into the concept of what is easement rights and what is what is considered common property. For that, I would suggest you do further reading on Hans Hermann Hoppe's public, common, and private property and the total rationalization of property. Sorry, the rationalization for the total privatization of property. It's been
All right.
it's been a long day.
Let's go ahead and move into closing statements, and then we can move into open panel dumpster fire, and then you guys can yell at each other for the rest.
It gets more dumpster fire than this?
Yeah, surprisingly, and with more people. You love it. It's your favorite part, Soy Pill, and then you get all the horse videos you want. Would you
No,
like to kick us
my
off?
fucking chat is already begging for horsism.
Yeah.
yeah, so
Go ahead with
again,
your.
Horses are pretty cool.
Soy Pill, go ahead with your closing statement.
Right.
Please.
So the prompt was whether or not these three ideologies, socialism, communism, progressivism, was inherently violent. I think, if anything, Gibbs made the closest thing to a good argument up for communism. I think there's actually a pretty rational thing there where you can say, hey, yeah, I don't think that just abolishing the private property and having everyone agree is necessarily communism. It is inherent on this book. If that's the case, sure, I would say that maybe in that case, then all the other things that I would define as communism, even if everyone's freely associated to it, would just be socialism. You can say communism is inherently violent just because it's the revolutionary one and everything else isn't. But then we move into why progressivism and socialism is. Getting rid of private property must inherently be violent. Progressivism, because Hassan Piker said he doesn't like landlords, is inherently violent. It's just ridiculous. I mean, you can look at any of these ideologies that have mixed market economies, that totally have the ability to freely associate. All of these things are not inherently violent. There's nothing attached to them that strictly must cause some sort of violence. It's just a silly prompt. But I guess if the debate was, did Nazis breathe air? Yeah, everyone breathes air. Like, cool, we did it. We did it, chat. Everything's getting clipped. They're all forming into my big clip farm. I'm making millions off of this. Thank you, everyone, for the giant shorts money that brings me so much.
Oh, well, I'm glad you're at least making something off of it. Big Papa Buckaroo, to you, please.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Fabian and Gibbs really well expressed exactly what I described in my opening, which was that they do not have an agreed upon concept of violence. Even if they say, we agreed, we sent each other our intros, they actually both described completely different concepts of violence throughout the debate. And they only started playing this weird, like, cat and mouse halfway through when they decided to give up the game, as Fabian might call it. I think it's just silly. I think it's silly to suggest that all leftist ideology are inherently violent. I agree with Soy Pill on his definition of violence. I also on political violence, and I also think, I think when you look at the numbers, you can see who is advocating more for violence and who actually justifies violence on a daily basis within the current political landscape in America, and it is majority Republican. Not independent, not Democrat, Republican. And in fact, again, might I remind you, MAGA Republicans are 3 times more likely to advocate for violence than even your average Republican, which is still about twice the likelihood as a Democrat or an independent. So when they're talking about what is and isn't inherently
I gotta
violent, and then they
pee. I'm
come
gonna
out
go
making
pee
all
when
of
she
these
does the little gauntlet
accusations
intro.
about all the leftists being, violent propagandists, I mean, like I said, the call is coming from within the house, okay? They advocate for violence and then they accuse us all of doing it because they aren't willing to admit that they want to use violence to uphold what they think is right, and they don't care who they step on to get there. So
Perfect.
thank you.
Thank you, Buckaroo. Admiral, to you.
Yeah, I mean, there's really 2 words that can be used to describe their entire case for both of them, and it's confusion and pussitis. That's what we can describe their cases as. One, it's either purposeful or maybe just uneducated confusion. I'm not sure. We broke down simply. First, we went through his definition. Soy Pill even agreed that we had the same definition.
He just
sit here and put forth the reason why
made
y'all
me
are
Google
confused.
pussitis.
Y'all
It's
didn't
not a
even
real
dispute this,
word.
is that
I was
anytime
like,
we've actually
maybe I'm
debated,
learning
I've
a new
argued
word
on the
today.
might makes right position, that, oh, well, yeah, I agree these things are violence. I just am okay as a Republican with a certain level of violence, right? I'm not a libertarian. However, if we're going to get down to it, I have the same definition as Fabian as to what violence in general is. It's pretty simple. We explain that in depth, multiple different ways.
It's
What's
so
also
silly because it's
crazy
like,
is then I use
Charlie
Soy Pill's
Kirk was
definition,
killed
and I
by political
explain it in
violence, and
words
it's
that they
like,
could understand.
well,
They didn't dispute
let's
that.
be clear.
And then
Every
also when
government
they
does
ever
political
asked
violence. Like,
to
that's
explain
I should
when
use
I
that
gave
instead
a
of the Nazi example.
contradictory
It's so fucking
definition or
stupid.
example,
Like, why do you think
we've
we're
asked,
talking about
it's now
this?
been an hour since we've asked. I was asked to cite something. I was easily able to pull it up. I was accused of ChatGPT. I have the website that I have, the Communist Manifesto.
You
right here.
literally,
I have the book next to me. I could pull the book out and pull the chapter up. I could go down to the paragraph, point out the paragraph number if we really want to get to it. It's really simple. And then when asked to cite my example, they couldn't even list one from earlier in the debate. So that really shows the substance of the debate.
I literally did, though.
Soy Pill gave me the game multiple times with admitting that, these things are politically violent. And this was even by his own definition. And then what they want to say is, after I accused them of being Goebbels, they got so distracted by the Goebbels comment that they actually started doing Goebbels propaganda-ish like things, which is reframe something like communism, saying it's inherently violent, or saying revolution is inherently violent, and say that we weaseled that definition in there, which is crazy because I quoted Karl Marx in the manifesto at the very end of the chapter 2. I in depth, and as well as other portions of the Communist Manifesto. I quoted once again socialist
Nate,
Dr.
I agree
Goebbels,
with
who was
this,
a
but
person in power right up until the very
you're
end.
going to
of
get
the
into
Nazi Party
libertarian brain
and
rot if you
implemented
do.
these things. I quoted Hess, who got away from the Nazis basically when he parachuted like a dumbass into the UK, and then he influenced modern Nazi ideology. They never even disputed Hess, which is that person who's influenced modern democratic socialism. But hey, they're sitting here and just gave us the game all the way through. On
I
either
literally
way,
said
you
Nazis
want
were
to
violent at the
cut it.
beginning, and
Thank
he's
you.
like, "Well, you don't think Nazis are
Perfect.
violent?"
Thank you. Fabian,
Dude,
to you, please.
come on.
Yeah, I'll keep it relatively short, relative
It's
in the
time.
sense that my
8:24.
statements are usually long, because this was just such a ballpark victory that there's not really much else.
Dude, I told you guys, the Sarah
I
debates, you have
gave
to
a
declare
definition,
victory at the end.
For the
You
first
win.
half of the debate.
I win.
They accept the definition. Then they want to give a countering definition. I accept their definition, and of course they want to run away from debating their definition. They can't give the limiting principles or the philosophical argument as to what is or isn't political violence. Instead, they just kind of run with this amorphous nonsense thing that nobody can explain what political violence really is, or it's like the Supreme Court's understanding of pornography. You just kind of know it when you see it. And again, I explained why the left's philosophy, specifically communism, socialism, and progressivism, are inherently violent, and why ethical systems need to be cannot be conflict inducing. Right? I think you could look at any philosopher worth their salt in history. I mean, even Kant would agree, as much as I'm opposed to him, that ethical systems can't be conflict inducing. That defeats the purpose of what an ethical system is. So they fall completely into contradiction. Now, Admiral Gibbs is one of the few people, and that's why I'm willing to work with him on this, that's willing to bite the bullet, that says, yes, I'm violent. I am using my preferences. But the debate is Admiral
But not
Gibbs
inherently,
more
by the
violent
way.
than socialists?
Right wing isn't inherent.
The debate isn't, are Republicans
Notice how he
more
jumped around
violent,
too. It was,
as Big Papa Buckaroo
hey,
seems
they're going to
think
try to
it is, by
whataboutism
bringing
with
up
right wing,
useless-ass
but
fucking
that doesn't
biased
matter because Gibbs,
polls about
accepts
who's
this.
more
But also the
politically
right wing isn't
violent
inherently
because
violent.
they define it by their own arbitrary characteristics, which they prove because they can't define anything. No, the debate tonight was about doing everything they could to meme about libertarianism, and doing everything they could to interrupt arguments, and doing everything they could to lie and subvert the argument, and run all night. It's actually pretty pathetic, and it's unfortunate because I need better opponents, because then we could have a genuine philosophical debate. But it seems like the two here are just not, they're not able to contend with any arguments, so we kind of win by default. But that's sad because we don't get to have a substantive back and forth where we pick these things apart. Instead, we just get memes. And I guess maybe you won the meme war, but you certainly lost the debate. I'm gonna go take a piss and be happy for the open panel. Thank you so much, Sarah. It was a great time.
Most welcome.
Thank you, Sarah. It was not
no.
actually that great of a time, but I do appreciate your hosting.
It's always a
Sarah.
bad time when you're losing. I agree.
Oh, sweetheart, I did not lose. I'm not
Sarah, I
feeling
keep
that way
forgetting
at
to
all.
declare victory at the end. I declared in
It's
the
so
middle, but you always have to say at
it's-
the end that you won and the other people lost. I always forget to do
it's
that.
it's
Yeah, it's
so
called
good to
assuming
see
the
people
sale, Soy.
contradict themselves all throughout like 2 hours, and then at the very end go,
Were you
you
looking in a
won,
mirror when
actually.
that
We're pretty
happened,
smart,
or
aren't
Oh,
we?"
goodness.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
guess
let
you
me
were looking
kick
in the mirror.
off with there's not a whole lot of super chats came in tonight. I'm actually kind of concerned about my chat and whether they really want to see open panel or not.
You need Ryan on here. You need Ryan.
Um,
He's the super chat winner.
That is a fair assessment. Wizzle says, didn't the Yahtzee party choose red and socialist as a label to mislead people? Admiral
Yes.
Atheist should probably read up on history.
Admiral Atheist. That's interesting. As a ordained minister with 2 doctorates in religion, and a undergrad in political theory. I mean,
Doctorates.
I'm just saying, yeah, religious doctorates. I'm just saying that it's interesting he would describe that, and then he would say I need to read up on history. When I went into depth, quoting exactly from economists and from the Nazi Party members themselves how their political party was running, and there was no dispute from either Buckaroo or
There
Soito when
was.
I
I literally
described the economic
quoted
principles of
MIT
how
and
to do.
MIT analysis
Mhm.
against you, and you called me Goebbels in response. Like,
Yes,
bro,
yes.
you're
But do you
As
actually have
it's
like
from
like a
MIT, it's
PhD,
always
Gibbs?
right.
Yeah, MIT is the
So
definitive
Gibbs,
standard.
do you actually have a
childhood has
PhD?
Wizzle the
No.
Spaz.
They're
I
religious
would just.
doctorates.
What's that mean?
I don't
Because
They're
I want to
not
call
It
you
means
Dr.
no,
Gibbs.
he does not have a
They're
doctorate.
not religious. They're not
Oh.
PhDs.
All right.
They are religious doctorates.
So
Baby.
Wizzle the Spaz, I would say there's a great book to read
You have to take a
by
test.
Gunter. There's a great book to read by Gunter Reimann, The Vampire Economy, written in 1939, which is by a Marxist economist that fled Nazi Germany and explains why there's really no substantive difference economically between the Nazi regime leading up to World War II
I'm gonna share on
and
Twitter
socialist
the
societies.
the
Great
MIT
book.
analysis that goes through the history of the Italian party and the German party. It also goes over multiple different economic perspectives.
It's
I will
crazy
share
if
that
they
on my
weren't
Twitter.
that different why he needed to flee. I mean, should have just stuck around, I guess.
What?
Fair enough. Wizzle says also criticizing your view through the lens of your beliefs is not a concession that your belief is correct. Is Fabian high? Are you high, Fabian?
Thank you, Wizzle.
I'm on a lot of Dayquil right now, so maybe a little bit. But
That's
that
fair.
still doesn't mean I didn't take the dub tonight. Criticizing your view
Okay.
through the lens of your beliefs is not a concession that your belief is correct. So yeah, I agree that an internal critique is not a concession, but an internal critique falls flat if you are not able to actually showcase any contradictions or showcase why the logic is
I
wrong,
gave the internal
come to a
critique. You
different-
directly
or-
responded to it by being angry, which is
or-
seemingly what you and
or-
Gibbs both did the
or-
whole
or-
time that
Let
I
him
was
finish.
presenting.
He was
or-
responding to
or-
the.
or-
he
Oh, I
was
thought this was. I
responding
thought this was
to-
open.
Well, he
mic,
was
I'm
responding.
sorry.
It is kind of open, but he was responding to the super, and we at least
Yeah.
want to let him
So
finish.
so if you're not capable of finding a
About
flaw in
me.
the logic or using the logic to reach a different conclusion, then that internal critique becomes a concession of your belief if you don't have an opposing belief and you can't point out the flaw of the logic and you can't come to a different or contrary in state. And
Yeah,
goal
just to be
of
be
that.
clear,
already
wait,
did
hold
make
on,
the
to
critique.
Papa. Just to be clear, we can
That's
say,
not
"Hey
what I
guys,
said.
Charlie
Jesus
Kirk died
Christ.
of political violence," and their answer would be, "Don't you know everyone's a victim of that in every government ever?" And it would end the conversation there. And you say, "Well, you got to use my definition because you can acknowledge that Charlie Kirk
I
dying
used
is
your
very
definition.
different from taxation." But you know what? They're pretty much the same thing.
Yeah.
I used
Yeah,
your
that's
definition
not what we
too.
would say
I mean,
at
it was
all.
just such a
Like,
pathetic response to all of the arguments that we made. That is honestly why
Yeah,
I
chat
started
clip that.
laughing so early on, is because it was
is
so
there a
so like weak, so poorly founded, so obviously nonsense.
Can you name one?
I mean, it's just
Can
so
you name
sad.
one internal critique where you were able to point out the flaws of my logic, or where you were able to reach a different
I
conclusion?
did.
based
This
off
is
of
literally
mine?
where you complained about how I was making an internal critique that you didn't agree with. This was about where I was presenting the
Well, you're just
defense.
restating the question.
I was still speaking. I'm sorry. Did you not hear? This is where I was talking about the defense of the individual because of violent suppression. And if you're talking about defensive violence with regards to Rothbard's essay, which again, where he introduced the NAP, then you would actually be considering this
So that's what
as
you're
a part of the
referring to
critique.
when
And you just
when I
went, "Eh,
showcased that you were
I don't
lying.
like that."
No, I didn't say meh. I didn't like that. What I showcased was the difference between collectivization of individual rights in the protection of private property rights.
Right, you didn't actually
versus
answer what
collective
I said,
ideologies
though. You
as
just
a
kind of
demographic group.
started arguing that I couldn't read, which isn't
You're
an
living in a
actual
fantasy world.
answer. It's just a choice to.
You're just making up
It's
shit
just a
now. Like,
choice to. Really? Because I remember you explicitly
I think you might be
mentioning
mentally ill
that
at this
nobody
point.
here
Like,
read
this is-
Oh, got him.
philosophy.
Clip it, chat.
I do remember you saying that nobody here read philosophy. So if you don't mind my pointing out, you actually were making a lot of claims about how all of us were just too uneducated to argue against you. In fact, last I checked, that was a part of your closing statement, was actually that none of us could provide a legitimate argument against you, despite the fact that you just ran away from all of them and then accused us of doing so. It was very pathetic. Again, very pathetic, very weak.
So you
and
can't
Don't
very
forget you got the dub. You got the dub, right, Papa? Did you get the dub?
did. I literally just did.
You literally
responded
did.
Papa,
to
you have
it,
to declare
and
the
then you
dub.
just forgotten.
You did not.
just
the one
responded
example
to what
that
I
you
said.
gave was when
So
you
one example that I did gave, thank you.
misappropriated Rothbard and then tried to say that collectivization of individual rights and collectivism are essentially the same thing when they're not.
That's not what I said, actually. You decided that that's what I was saying. Again, because you were accusing us of not being able to read, which is bizarre.
And I declare this
This is
one
a
a
bizarre
dub.
defense.
I don't have, did I accuse anyone of not being able to read tonight? I don't believe I've called anyone illiterate or unable to read.
Sorry,
don't
what
think
you
I've
said
made
is
that
that you
claim
don't
tonight.
do it.
I would like to show off my reading skills if you could let me. Wizzle says
Yes, ma'am.
you use roads, police, firefighters, water utilities, and benefit from infrastructure. You'd have to live completely off grid to have any standing that taxes are theft.
Well, hold on. No,
We
you wouldn't.
handled
Hold
that
on,
in the
Wizzle.
debate.
Wizzle, I want to answer this one. Hold on. No, you wouldn't. Because guess what? I'm a Republican, right? And I believe in some force being necessary, right? I'm not a libertarian like Fabian. I just agree with what his definition of political violence is. So, yeah, I would say that, yeah, taxes are theft. However, I'm okay with some theft, right? So, yeah, even by that definition, yeah, we upheld everything we said the whole time. Good try, though, Wizzle. Thanks for giving money to Sarah.
And
I like this
anybody
whistle guy.
watching on anybody else's end, if you would like to pop on and join the open panel, the link is pinned in my chat over here on Raging Tomato. Everybody's piling backstage for that. You're welcome to join as well. You don't have to sit it out. Okay.
Wait, Gibbs, are you still here?
Yeah.
Can
I
hear
think
you.
he just.
Would
Yeah,
you
just
would you
one
say
second,
a
sorry.
political assassination and taxes are both political violence? Would you say that's a useful definition?
Political assassination and taxes are both political violence?
Yeah.
They are both political violence.
Okay,
Political
cool.
assassination
All
and
right.
taxes.
Okay,
Hey,
and
real
if
quick,
anybody's curious,
would you say
about
that
the-
raping women and raping men are both evil?
Yeah, of
watch your
course.
words,
God,
watch
I
your
hate
words.
that
Oh
you're
well,
just
then
doing
evil
that.
could be just it could
Fine.
mean all kinds of things.
Did you
Would
think
say that
do you think I think
stealing
these
is
things are
evil?
not
The-
equally bad?
Well, no,
give me 1 second.
the point
The
is
analysis
that by pointing out that two things are evil doesn't mean that that there is no difference between them. Political assassination is violence. Taxation is a form of violence. Yes. That doesn't mean that it's
Yeah,
a
but
useless
I think you
category
should
just
have picked
because
two things that
two
were
things
very
that are
not the
different
exact
can
same
also
thing.
be-
If you wanted to
can-
show that the evil encompassing them.
Nobody says that political assassinations and taxes are the exact same thing.
Well, you
That's
said they're both
strong.
political violence, which means your definition's awful.
Yes,
but...
they are both political violence. They're also both evil. Does that mean that the word evil is now useless because it can encompass multiple things?
I think if you think taxes are evil, that yeah, you're making evil useless as well. Like, oh, this guy's evil. Oh my God, what did he do? Did he rape someone? No. Did he kill someone? No. Well, he said that if I live here, I have to pay
stole.
10% of my income so that I can pay for the schools and the roads. Well, he's evil, dude. Yeah,
He
that's fucking
stole.
retarded.
Stealing is wrong.
Well, you don't have to pay it. You can leave.
In case anybody's curious about the
wish.
MIT analysis that I referenced, it's from 2023. I posted it on Twitter. It's called War, Socialism, and the Rise of Fascism, an empirical exploration. And it goes into how fascism was often developed and historically rose as a response to socialism in an attempt to quash
Why are you
out
bringing up
socialism.
bullshit again?
Goodness.
I was just telling the viewers in case they wanted to read
Again,
what I was
for like the
referencing.
50th time, the only study or
No,
piece of
I
evidence you
just-
referenced all
no.
night.
I
Just say
referenced a
MIT
couple
like 10 more
things.
times and the magic
referenced a
words will
couple
make you
things.
win.
I referenced a couple
Alright.
things, but I was just trying to let the viewers know I'm sorry if you took it personally. I didn't think it would offend you, but apparently it did. So in case anybody who's not Fabian likes to
I'm not
read
offended.
Well,
It's
hold
just
on.
annoying
I
that
would
you
like
keep
to
bringing
respond.
up the
I would
same
like to,
random-ass
if you
study
don't mind,
over and over again.
this will be quick. I would actually like to
I'm just
respond
sharing so
to
people
what
can read
Buckaroo
it.
just said. I actually quoted several books as well
Correct.
throughout the debate. One of them being the 1940 book
did.
German Economy by Gustav Stolper. Another one being let's see if I have it right here. Doing Business, the Vampire Economy, Doing Business Under Fascism by Gutta Raman. Both all these people come to the same conclusion, that fascism at the time is extremely left-leaning in nature. It's a socialist in similarities. It's also but socialism in name. They go into in depth how this is an authoritarian left-leaning dictatorship that takes on some traits of a right-leaning. Yeah, like so. Yeah, listen. My head is not there. We got to catch it. But this is this. That's the book. That's the book. You know what I'm trying to say. All right. The point is though, right? Even by what she's saying, the modern definition, the one that they're trying to push, is a perfidious lie. And I mentioned this in my opening, that they are going to use the Goebbels tactic of reframing and rebranding what is essentially exactly what we're describing. And this is why Fabian and I keep coming back to what we're saying with our definition, and why I even explained it under Soy's definition. By our definition, yeah, I am agreeing that sometimes right-leaning countries have authoritarian and are politically violent. I'm just okay with some level of that. With him, he's saying he's not okay. However, I'm sitting here having the same definition. When I'm talking about under our definition, it's very easy. Then when we go to Soy's definition, and I explain how under fascist countries in the 40s and 30s and before, they were all following this left-leaning ideology, which is essentially socialism, or basically we could rebrand it as now what the modern term would be progressivism. All these fucking ideologies are inherently violent, and they never even dispute that. And then when one time they try to sit here and reframe it, they do the Goebbels thing and call it Weasley definition, even though we quoted, the originators of it. Crazy stuff.
And speed of crazy, Steve is crazy to send $10 just because it's Raging Tomato. Thank you so kindly. Call Me GL says, just take a moment to appreciate the suit. I do. I noticed this earlier. I was like, dude, this is a straight up pimp suit going on. I wanna just give full extension to this. This is lovely. Very well done, sir. Do you use your pimp hand when you smack around everyone, or?
I actually have baby powder right next to you, so if anybody acts up.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Anthony says, is it the beards versus the training brawls tonight? For what for the tomato tax? Thank you so kindly. And Ben Riley has 3 questions. Let's be concise with our answering, please, so that we can get into open panel. Fabian, when is a material implication false, and how does that demonstrate the difference between a necessary truth versus a contingent truth?
I'm too sick for this shit. I'm too sick and stupid for this right now.
Wow.
That's my answer.
All right.
I don't want to get that much into philosophy right now.
Thank you, IMS.
That's
The
fair.
Fox flying up to give my
Fabian,
money
how
to
does libertarian
give some money to
Marxism
give.
differ
I'm
from
flying by to give
Marxist
money. I'm trying to lower my blood pressure, so I'm not going to listen. Good idea.
Leninism
IMS.
regarding personal versus private property rights.
Libertarian Marxism is a contradiction in terms. I don't know if they're talking about like libertarian socialism or something, but you'd have to
Technically, they're my
what you mean
roommates,
by
cats,
libertarian
guys.
Marxism.
But I
One thing
would
I've
own a
ever heard
cat.
of
Technically, I
is,
do own a
like,
cat. I'm a
fucking
cat granddad.
Has
Dad.
trying to claim like MAGA
cat's name is
communism or
Callie.
libertarian Marxism, but I don't know what that contradictory philosophy even entails. So I couldn't answer the question because I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
All right. And then he also says, Fabian, why don't
Again? All right.
yeah, why don't respected modern political scientists, economists, and philosophers take anarcho-capitalism seriously? Why hasn't it ever worked?
The first answer would be because this is a political ideology that was created in the late 1950s on Rothbard's couch, and we already have a president that has been elected of our ideology. So as far as ideologies go, this is an extremely young one, and we're making great strides. The second of why hasn't it ever worked? I mean, it like define worked. I mean, it's certainly every time it's been tried, it certainly worked better than communism ever has. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
But yeah, how many satellites did libertarian anarchists put into the orbit, huh?
Yeah, I would say 0. I don't know. What the fuck does that matter?
Okay, hey, look, if we have more trash in orbit, that means we're a country. I'm speaking on behalf of the USSR.
Sure.
Nate's Dumb Vid says, one issue I have with your arguments is when Soy Pill pointed out a free society with the ability to restrict resources, and this is an example of economic violence against individuals, anti-freedom.
Is this to me or is this to Soy Pill?
I think it's to either Gibbs or Fabian.
is when Soypill pointed out a free society with the ability to restrict resources, and this is an example of economic violence against individuals.
I know the answer.
This is I don't. What's the what's
I
the
think
the answer is the contract, right? This is what Soy kept pushing out, right? Like the idea that once you live somewhere, they can take this away. The problem with this is like it was Prospera specifically. If I agree to live there, I'm agreeing to a contract. In the contract that I've agreed to before moving there, unlike when I'm born into a country, it says if I decide I no longer want to live like this, I have to leave, and I've already agreed to. That's a contract. That's not violence by the non-aggression principle, because it's not self-defense. You've agreed to this already. There's no aggression at all. Like that's the difference here. It's a pre-agreed upon agreement. That's the confusion I think that you're having there, Nate Stumbits.
How would we avoid that? Like, should we have all babies like kind of like exist in a kind of a limbo before they go out and choose which country they want to be in? Like, how would you even avoid that?
What?
Well, because babies are inherently born into political violence because they don't get to choose to be in the like which country they're in, right? So like, should we like have some sort of like, you know, upper level society where all babies kind of exist? You know, Boss Baby. Have you seen this movie? Like they all exist here, and then once they are old enough to choose, they can then pick which country by like contract.
Violence unless the country is involuntary. Like I understand the concept that a baby is born and therefore the baby doesn't have the capacity to enter a contract, but that's what a parent is. A parent is a guardian or custodian of their rights until they reach the age of majority. But to your point, I think the Amish do this very well, right? The Amish have a voluntary society, you know, following their religious principles. And when a child reaches the age of majority, they have Rumspringa, right? Like they say, go out, leave, experience experience the modern world out there. And if you like that better, stay. But if you don't, come back. And when you come back, that is the choice you are making to live by our society's rules and in the way that we live, right? So yeah, I don't think. Yeah, I guess that's how you would avoid it.
When it comes to Amish people, that's under threat of complete alienation from your whole family if you leave. That is like a part of Rumspringa, is that you are cutting yourself off from the rest of your family. So I would say that is quite literally coercion. No?
That's not coercion. To deny somebody something that they aren't owed is not coercion.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's meet our panel, and we'll be able to crank out some real fun in chat. You only have 1 hour to complete those donos. I wouldn't fuck around tonight.
All right, guys. I'm going to do this a little, then we're going to chat. Then I'm going to go to bed because I want to get a lot of work done tomorrow. Yeah. I also have to talk to someone I'm calling into a show tomorrow. So if you want to tune into that, it might be fun. You know what's even funnier is he used to be left-wing, like, progressive. God, it's so long. You can't hear me? I'm going to say I'm going to do this for a little bit, and then I'm going to talk a little bit, and then I'm going to go to sleep because I want to get work done. Fabian was.
All right. Most of you are very familiar with how
God, it's Ryan.
operate.
It's our
Some
favorite.
of you may
Watch how
not
fast he
be.
gets
This
kicked off.
is open
It's so
panel
sad.
dumpster fire. It's called that for a reason. You're all going to get crazy, and then I'm going to yell, and everybody goes to hell. The chat does have the rule of the roost, though. They can choose to boot anybody on the bottom half of the screen. Anybody who is an original panelist gets to stay as long as they want. You cannot boot them. However, anybody below for a measly $10 can be booted to the back. And waiting backstage in line, I still have
Pretty sure he's like a full
animated
communist.
effigy
Look at that
tied
background.
up, and Nate once he cams up for me back there.
And yeah, no Discord will ever be made.
Once you get booted, you can go wait back in line, and we'll rerun you back through the cycle. Outside of that, why don't we go ahead and kick off? I believe, Clay, you were first in line backstage if you want to prompt something. And somebody has like a loud, either a fan on or something, but I can hear.
Yeah, I hear it too.
Yeah.
I think it might be Jacob.
Jacob. Nope.
Yeah,
yep,
it is.
There it is. Yeah. Cool. Just mute up whenever you're not talking, bud. If that, I mean, I don't want to take over Sarah's panel.
No, it's fine. You're fine.
So my question, I'd like to kick it off with Gibbs. So my question is for you. Defining the term violence. It's very important. I feel like that's one of the complications.
Immediately,
here
Ryan's
on the
gone. I
panel
told you
tonight.
guys.
And you mentioned that you're kind of a Bible scholar. You've taken Bible
They're
courses.
scared of his
and that sort of
ideas.
thing.
I've dabbled once or twice.
Nice. You know Psalms pretty well. Fair enough. Good enough. So in Psalm 11,
Non-fun, are you
in verse
streaming? I'll
5
write
and then
into you when we're
7,
done.
it talks about violence. It says that the Lord examines the righteous, but the wicked, those who love violence, he hates with a passion. And then in 7, it says, for the Lord is righteous, he loves justice, the upright will see his face. What I'm gathering from that is justice and violence are diametrically opposed. And the reason I bring this up is because when we look at the concept of defense, self-defense specifically, in the justice system, we recognize that defense is justified. And the reason is because it is not violence. It is a defense. So is that a fair definition of violence?
Well, it's interesting because if we look at the Old Testament, and then we can also look at the New Testament. The Old Testament, when God talks about violence, he's very inconsistent. And, one thing he does admit is that he's a very jealous God. He doesn't always do things for just purposes unless you prescribe that, hey, only the Christian or the Jehovah of the Israelis is just, which is a Christian argument. And so therefore he could not be unjust. Okay. Now, following this logic, we can look at what he does with the plagues of in Egypt. We could follow forth about going forward on a lot of different examples where, like, we see the fall of Babylon. We see Israel being taken into captivity.
Oh
We
boy,
can see, look at
religious
the
debate.
Philistines, lots of examples. Let's go to the New Testament, because as a Christian, if you say you're a Christian, then you admit the New Testament supplements the Old Testament going forward. Now, let's look at this. All right. Let's look at the last chapter. Now, Buckaroo earlier said the last thing's the most important thing. So following this logic, we can look at Revelation.
I
Revelation.
actually just commented on it
Hold
because
on.
you said it was the last
Let me
comment
finish.
made
I'm answering his
on
question.
communism.
I'm answering his question.
Finish.
All
No,
right.
it's just a
Revelation.
joke.
Don't lie
Yeah,
about my claims.
It's what you said. Anyway, Revelations 21:8 says. Now, in Revelation 21:8, before I read it, there are some things that you would argue, yes, are unjust or evil, like murder and
Look at Dusty.
some other things. However,
Aura
he
farming.
lists things that would not be inherently evil or unjust, like, for example, the cowardly. The unbelieving, those wouldn't be necessarily unjust unless you're just a Christian. I mean, cowardly, even then, that's questionable. The vile, the
No, that
murderers,
girl's not
the
doing
sexually
ahego.
immoral,
What the
those who
fuck?
practice magic arts, the idolaters, and all liars, they will be consigned to the fiery lake of burning sulfur. This is the second death. Now, this takes place after Jesus takes power. So, I mean, it's pretty simple that even by this definition, God could already be unjust.
All right, guys, I'm
He's
calling
just
it at
using his
9:10
power
at the
to enforce
latest. I want to
his
talk to
idea
you.
of justice, and thus his might makes right. Because if you're the only one left, then your idea of justice wins.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that.
Yeah, you both are
Well,
verbose as fuck with that.
There
I mean,
is no violence.
that's the Christian theology. behind it, though.
You are describing
Jesus was a socialist.
God in the Bible as if he is a violent person, but can he hate
the
himself?
flood was the flood violent.
Can God hate himself?
Was the flood violent?
Can God hate himself?
Where's this about God?
Yeah, I mean, this isn't about God anyway. So yeah, I mean, that's
This is about violence and the definition of violence. And you being a Bible reader and a believer in God, I would assume that you would
Do
take
you think that
God's
everybody here
definition of
looks at the
violence.
Bible for the definition of violence?
Gibbs does.
Yeah, but even then, if we go
Can
into
he
it,
hate himself?
Wait, guys. God is speaking to me directly right now. He says, I
Well,
don't want to
I'm
talk
not- no,
about this
I
anymore.
wouldn't pretend
He's
to know
telling
the
me right
mind of
now that
God.
this is a boring topic. He's
Because
saying,
right
God
here
is a
it says-
socialist,
he's
just a
speaking to me right
reminder.
now.
Yeah.
He's like, guys,
Says
both of you stop
those who-
talking. They can't hear me,
those
but
who
you can hear
love
me, so I tell them to stop.
Violence. Right here.
Yeah,
in
I mean,
Psalm
I
11,
mean, I would like to move on as well.
it
But,
says-
this is
but yeah,
boring.
I mean, if you're a Christian, hold on, I
Socialism is
have one last
God.
sentence
All
on
right,
this.
all right,
Just
enough.
One last sentence, and I'll be done with this. It's easy. Yeah, if you're a Christian, then the quote, for me to know,
Guys,
say
he's
I know
hat
God
mogging me
would
so
be like
fucking
God would
hard
be a
right now.
lie,
Holy
right?
shit.
Okay? So nobody can know the mind
Holy
of God.
shit.
If you don't agree with the scripture,
That is the
say,
scripture.
I don't
That's
agree
in the
with the
scripture.
scripture.
No,
You
I
as a
agree with the
Christian don't
scripture.
agree with the scripture. It's
You're
fine.
asking if God can hate himself. I'm saying that I don't know what God does or doesn't think. Because
says
who
it
am
right
I
there in the
to
scripture. You
know
don't agree
whether or
with the
not God
scripture.
This
knows?
is
fine.
weird
Like-
Christian on Christian violence.
Wait,
right
wait.
here.
God's telling me right now he
It's
hates himself when he has a
super
whole
weird that a
pint of Ben and
Christian
Jerry's,
wouldn't
but
agree
no
with the
other scenario.
scripture,
He's
but
just told me
hey,
that.
If you don't agree
Oh my
with the
God,
scripture,
God
don't agree
is
with the
so
scripture.
light.
I mean, I agree with it. I mean, you're not. Hold on.
Eating and eating too much Ben and Jerry's.
This is why people don't like Christians who aren't Christian, because you guys weaponize your religion to try to force your own personal perspectives on things, Brick. Good job for turning people away from Jesus.
I'm just reading the scripture.
Yeah, I mean,
That's-
I am as well,
that's
and you just
exactly
don't
what
agree
people-
with the parts of the scripture that I'm quoting.
Oh, Gibbs got a hat too. I should
If
get a
you don't
bigger
wanna
hat.
agree
I
with
mean,
the
I could
scripture,
stack
read it
them.
to you.
Hey,
Just say, I
Brick,
don't agree
where's
with
your
it.
Pope hat?
I don't have
I'm gonna
I
stack
read,
them,
I
guys.
read
I'll be
three
right
I
back.
have
different.
a
I
mask.
didn't quote the exact verses. I can find the exact verses.
grab a mask.
We're gonna do the citation
Take
game,
it.
but I quoted
Take it, Bill.
famous Bible stories, and then I quoted one exact citation, which is from the New Testament. If you're a Christian, agree something. But this is dumb because who is the know the mind of God? And if you say you know the mind of God, you're a false prophet and an apostate. So I guess he's an apostate. But anyway,
Hold on. I want to get this real quick. Hold on.
Wow. Wow. Right when I had my
Are
hat.
you doing a photo op? Hold on.
next time I'll come in my full
actually-
reverend gear.
I actually also have this one, but this is for formal occasions.
Yeah, I actually have the full like.
I've got like 6 hats on right now. I don't even know how it looks.
Bless you. And I'm gonna go ahead and bless the audience, so you don't need to. I got this.
Amen.
Out here looking like a TF2
Taking over
character.
Let me hold
That
on.
was
Let me hit,
beautiful.
hold on. One more last thing. Holy
Oh.
water, guys.
Shit.
There you go.
Here, I got some
Welcome.
holy juice. There we go.
All right, we're
And
done.
the incense.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, I do
I
have
just
the
had to entertain that for a second.
Do you feel blessed?
Soy with the hats, bro.
Yeah, I was a little tired of not having the
He's
largest
actually,
hat. So.
he's actually the closest to God because he's the highest with the hats.
That's true.
Did you
That's
buy
why he
like a
speaks to me
50
directly.
Lovely.
I don't have a hat.
Girl, we cannot hear you.
Oh goodness, Kel, you
Yeah,
gotta
Kel
turn it
is-
up or something.
It sounds
I
like
don't
your
think
microphone
you're-
is actually in the bathroom somewhere.
Is it connected
Now we
to this
heard
mic?
Oh, it sure is.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, good. Jesus, sorry. So, the irreconcilable prince. Why is it echoing? Sorry, I'll shut up until I figure this out.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like you've never done this before.
That's the best argument I've heard all night.
Testing? Is
Damn.
that better?
Not smoker
You
coming in
hear me
hot.
All
Yeah,
right.
we can hear you.
Non-smoker, did you want to add something to the?
Lovely.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't realize we were debating on what the definition of violence is for 2 fucking hours. Jesus Christ, guys, come on.
Yeah.
You know,
Man.
it's well, I thought this would go into the Charlie Kirk thing. I thought that was the whole point of the debate, right?
Gonna go
Like,
there.
and you guys managed to avoid it for 2 hours.
I cannot spin all
You know,
the
I
hats,
don't know. I
actually.
just wanted
Only one
to
of them
make
can
the
spin.
statement, I guess, like let's just put all the historical stuff aside for like 1 second, focusing on present day. Can anyone seriously argue that like the radical left in America exists as some coherent thing such that it can even exercise violence effectively? And can we also all agree that this kid who shot Charlie Kirk was probably not politically motivated? He was like a lonely, angry, bitter weirdo. And yeah, that was kind of my whole
Why would
argument
it
going
matter?
into this.
Why would it matter if it's effective, non-smoker? Just because they're ineffective at producing violence on a mass scale doesn't mean that their beliefs aren't inherently causing them to be violent.
It means that we don't need to worry about them, right? You don't worry about
I mean,
chihuahuas fighting.
I also feel like the whole inherent violence thing is like just typical like Twitch poll bullshit, purity testing. Like, you have secret beliefs of violence and you won't admit to them, and I'm going to prove it by pulling out this quote from the evil Marx. It's really stupid. Like, dude, people who, first of all, politics implies a level of violence because it deals with power, and power is supported by violence or the threat of violence ultimately. So, of course, there's the implication of violence within all political movements. But Western Marxists, Western leftists as a whole, they're so ineffectual and so unserious. I could say this. I've been in 2 communist parties, so I could speak from experience. They are not able to effectively wield any sort of organizational skill or power, coherence at all, such that they could ever effectively utilize violence.
They're so
So
messy.
they're non-threat regardless.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't even get out there to vote for Kamala, right? So I think there is some merit to what you're saying, right?
Messy
Like,
violence is
Well,
effective.
Kamala Harris is a fascist.
Messy violence is
yeah, but
effective.
fucking it's a two-party
Useful
system.
idiots.
So it's like, what the fuck are we about to do? Like,
I
would you
love
rather have Trump or
commies.
Kamala? Like, at least you fucking.
Accelerationism for the win.
I can't argue with stupid. What am I
I
gonna
do-
say?
I do agree. I think
Damn.
I think a lot of leftists, especially radical leftists, are very bad at collecting, especially because, a lot of them are even, I mean, not,
What do you
there's
mean
nothing
by
wrong with
accelerationism?
decentralization, but I think the fact
I'm
that so many
trolling.
leftists are like big on
Okay. So
decentralization,
you don't actually mean it. Okay.
they are actually just bad at collectivizing at that point.
I don't mean like Nick Land accelerationism or any particular definition. What I'm trying to say is like the lazy internet
Who said that?
definition of like conditions get bad enough such that the
I don't think
system breaks
anyone
down
gave
and then it's
stipulations.
Well,
like
hold on,
No one
hold
gave
on. I actually
stipulations
let me
on
just
what we
engage that real quick. This will be fast. So, non-smoker, you said that we argue about the definition of violence. Here's the problem I have when you frame it that way.
There's a goal to fill people, by the way.
First, Fabian put forth one that I agreed on. They tried to do
These
the
people are
plan
not
against the
coming out
suicide,
swinging.
which
Not really.
I don't think worked.
Not
And
really
then
feeling it.
two,
Maybe
when
I'll
they
even
gave
dip out
one
earlier,
definition,
guys.
I said, okay, even using your framework, I agreed to his definition, and they gave examples. So no, not all of us argue about the definition of violence. Some people were duplicitous and kept trying to, make something.
Thank you, MMM, for the 10. I will put all the hats
It's
on
just
I
so
mean,
when I go to chat.
nonsense that you
And
refuse to
latest
even hear
910.
my opening. It's like you guys all
is
closed
it that
your-
hard to just have a good faith agreement on what violence is and just like move
No.
past
I
it? Like
tried.
I
tried.
I feel like you could probably like Big Papa Buckaroo. I was on a panel with you once before, and Soy Pill. You could probably just agree with Fabian's definition and just move past it and build towards a different argument or something. It wasn't even that.
How can you
limiting
agree
of
if
an
the
argument. I didn't
definition
think.
is all violence comes from every government? What's the point? It's a pointless definition. Why would we agree to that?
Well, I think couldn't you build on the fact that, okay, if that's true, then what makes socialism any more inherently? I thought you were trying to say that actually. What makes it inherently and violent any more than any other organized political movement or system or anything
Yeah, we got to that several times actually.
That is what we got to multiple times, but this is also what we presented in our openings, and they just kept lying about what we presented repeatedly over the course of the whole debate, which is a part
Wait,
of
hold
why
on,
we
Papa.
kept
I
running
don't think they were
around in
lying.
circles.
I just don't think they
Lying, dude.
understood.
Can I ask?
I don't know. I mean,
I don't know if
maybe
they
the rest of the audience heard it differently. Like, I felt like you guys were, I don't know. There's a lot of like quote cherry picking and like Googling and like, look at this study from MIT that says you're wrong, which is like, why don't we just
I'm
push
reading
past?
my own notes on it, to be clear. The whole time I've been reading my own
That's a lot
notes
of notes.
and writing notes to Soy Pill. He and I have been taking notes because we've been working on this together from the beginning. But which is, a part of
No,
why I kept
you
saying
didn't.
I agree with Soy Pill. Instead of just repeating exactly.
Wait, no,
what he
Papa,
said
I gotta
over and
admit,
over
I
again.
actually
Yeah,
worked with Gibbs and
can
Fabian
we-
before this panel, and we all agree on the same definition. We
Yeah,
all
right.
had it in
Can
the
we-
Discord.
But they
Listen,
but,
I feel
but
like we
they
beat
were
this
like
dead
throwing all
horse
these
for
random
2 fucking hours.
accusations.
Like,
They equated me to
That's
a
how
I'd
it
rather
sounds.
Nazi.
engage with
They
non-smokers.
lied about what I said.
Can I pose
like
a
there were so
question?
many bad
Like
faith.
you're bitching a
There
lot.
was
Can
so
we move
much-
past the bitching
there
and
was-
like get to?
Hold on.
substance?
I can't imagine why this
Shut
guy's
it.
divorced.
I'm
I could not
sorry.
fucking
I'm
imagine.
hosting a
Wants to
panel,
fucking
and
host
I
a
would very
question.
much like to post a question to the panel. Where's the solution in this? If socialism, progressivism, and communism are all inherently politically violent, what is the solution to make that not be that way? Like, how do we fix that? Or is there a fix? Is there a change? Is there some type of potential solution to any of this anywhere in the making?
Anglo-Civil War.
This would have to be something that they answer if they're on the affirmative of this position. They would
Yeah,
have to be the
I'll,
ones to answer this.
I'll bite
Oh
this.
boy, here we
right?
go.
So there are 2 options. The first option, none of you are going to pick except me, right? Which is anarcho-capitalism and liberty and get rid of that system. The second, I think, is, a step in the right direction, I would say, is to bite the bullet and recognize that what you are arguing for is trade-offs and preferences instead of hiding behind this belief that your system isn't violent, is admitting, no, I'm forcing people to do what I want them to do because I believe the material conditions are better, or I believe the outcomes lead to more human flourishment, or whatever it is. And like, I'm willing to accept that because at least that gets us to a place of more truth about what it is that these people are representing. And I can fight that from my perspective, and other people can fight it. But what I hate is I see this often between liberals and the actual revolutionary left, is that like the revolutionary left will admit it, and they'll be like, yes, I'm willing to engage in this force because I believe that the capitalist class or the billionaires are doing this or this is happening, etc. And then what you end up with is this liberal kind of wishy-washy bullshit that always just ends up sucking corporate dick and working for corporations as they manage the state for this like Marcusian situation. I think communists would be happier with that position, and I think ANCAPs that are arguing against that force itself would be happier with that position. So that's what I would say. Is
Violent-
option
Ironically,
two.
Can I ask
based as
through
fuck.
what process anarcho-capitalism resolves violence?
I've already talked about it in.
Can you please answer my question now? Through what process? I did not ask this question during the debate, so I don't know how you answered it.
Can you answer
I
it for me? Because
specifically
I never
talked-
actually heard it.
Okay,
didn't
so
answer.
I Big Papa, Jesus Christ, girl. Okay, so when I was explaining conflict inducing and why private property, from my perspective, is not conflict inducing, that is the means by which there is a resolution to potential conflicts. And I described conflicts as when different people, I said 3 or more because it has to be intersubjectively communicated, but we can go with 2 or more. That's fine because it's simpler. When 2 or more people want to use scarce resources towards opposing means,
You're a
you
yapper, bro.
need a means
This
of-
is not an answer so far.
I'm
if you're too
listening.
stupid to
Yeah,
follow,
let
it's
him-
an
let
answer.
him-
I don't know
I'm
what to
able
tell
to
you.
follow. Keep going.
Go ahead
Keep
and
going.
finish.
I mean, just to land the plane, like the system of anarcho-capitalism is one that allows for a conflict resolution.
What
through
resolution?
establish that the private property owner or the first user principle is the one that has exclusive domain
So it's private property
over their property to use.
So I have a question in regards
yeah.
to the private property
How?
thing. So no, hold on, because I actually have a question. So the private
Didn't
property
answer anything.
is based
don't-
upon social doctrine. That's actually where private
disagree.
property is established. Yes, actually, no, that's exactly
good.
where it's
Another
not from
quick
anarchy.
debate.
to
It's not from
private-
the
Guys,
Bible?
I'm gonna ask him about the age of
Uh,
consent. I have to do it.
No, it's not.
I have
from
a
the Bible.
question.
But it is in the Bible, though. Give
that
unto
is just
Caesar
wrong.
what is
Hasn't
Caesar's.
answered the first question. To be clear, he still
That's
not has
not-
actually described the process. He
man
just
speak.
says that there is a process.
I just
That's
I
what
think
he
he
said.
has
That there
concepts of a
is
plan.
a
Hold on.
process.
Let me
Private
try to steal, man.
Do
I think what he
like-
said is if you own the property, you can defend the property, essentially, right? Like,
If you have if you have private property rights, then that means an individual has exclusive domain or exclusive rights to utilize that property as they see fit, so long as it's not aggressing upon another
Wait,
person.
You're
That
talking about
is-
How
land,
the
right?
does
conflict.
anarcho-capitalism
enforcement mechanism-
resolve?
I'm talking about
The
material,
problem.
right? So like it doesn't necessarily need to be land, but it would not be intellectual property.
Yeah.
But is
So
there an
who
enforcement
decides who
mechanism?
owns
It's
what?
not an
How does
answer.
that work? How do you
Is there
resolve
none of
This
Enforcement
conflicts?
is
mechanism.
absolute.
Hold on.
You
Go ahead,
not
Flo.
Let me
understanding
let
the
Dusty go.
philosophy
No,
is not
describing
You
meaning-
the
are not
idealization
describing
is
a
not
process.
saying how
You're
it
just
actually
saying that
resolves.
one
Please,
exists.
please allow
Hold
Dusty.
on. Go ahead, Flo.
But we've already.
she's asking about the enforcement I believe she's asking about what the enforcement mechanism is underlying supporting the philosophy.
I don't. She
No,
didn't say
we
anything
have.
about an
Hold on,
enforcement
Fabian. Hold on,
mechanism.
Fabian.
Well,
We have
interpret-
explained this. We have explained this. Fabian's
what-
explained.
you have
Hold on,
a-
I'm going to. Fabian's explained it in depth in a philosophical way. I've explained it several times in a much simpler way.
Not a
which is,
philosophical question.
Hold on. I've explained it through 1. He's arguing self-defense is not going to be the non-aggression principle violation. 2. I've explained how contracts that you've agreed on with enforcement mechanisms written into the contracts
You're
is a
dancing.
way. Hold on, no. Hold
No,
on.
they're asking how it gets
If-
resolved, and you're saying
Can
this
I
would
finish?
happen
Hold
through
on,
this
let me just
method. But
finish.
like,
In the contract-
Hold
in the-
on.
in the
Hold on. Go ahead, Gibbs.
In the contract, there are enforcement stipulations that are agreed upon beforehand, such as we can forcibly remove you if necessary, right? That is something that's agreed upon. It's in there. And then there's a provided way to do that, whether it's through physically throwing them out, whether it's however that's agreed upon
okay,
beforehand.
wait, Gibbs.
which is not violent
now
because
one
it's
party
all-
says, actually, this is not the real contract that I signed.
Who
How do you
enforces
resolve
the
that
motherfucker?
dispute?
Social
Probably also agreed upon.
contract,
You have a third party.
social-
That,
A third party?
doctrine.
None of this is actually describing the process. Like, how do you explain if
This is exactly
three people
how-
if 3 people all want different things and they won't be violent towards one another? Like,
call that
how does
social
this become
doctrine.
anarcho-capitalism? Do they just agree not to be violent? Is that it? That's the whole
Contract
process through which
law.
it is
It's like
reinforced?
voluntary
I'm not.
association.
I'm not
All right.
gonna like
So
try
there's
and
no
let me
walk
enforcement.
you through
So when they
this.
say
moment
enforcement
to reset.
mechanism,
I'll put
what
them
they
back on
mean is
in
agreement.
a couple
And when
minutes.
they say there is a
Stop.
resolution,
Stop.
Well,
what they
it-
mean
okay,
is
in
there's
West-
an
Listen,
agreement.
you
Can I try to
clearly
say
don't
something?
understand
Oh, love
this
Christ.
philosophy,
Okay.
and that's okay.
You keep
But
accusing
like
me
you
of not
aggressively
understanding, but
telling
you are
me that I'm
not
wrong,
actually
but not
answering
understanding
the
what I'm saying is just
question.
not
Not a
helpful.
philosophical.
You fuckers, you got what you wanted. I'm so happy. I'm so happy for you.
This message is sponsored in part by.
Okay,
Wow, that was
shout
a
out.
great change of pace. You should put that back
Thank
on.
you. Yeah. So
You wanna see
listen,
mine?
I know everybody would like to talk and interact and engage, but we can't do it all at the same time. So please, I'm going to kindly remind you to keep your interruptions to a minimum. Let somebody finish their fucking thought before you actually try to interrupt and get to your point. We'll all have the talking stick, I promise. Okay, and I want to kindly remind the chat you have only 30 minutes to finish that goal. You still have 13 more to go, and I have no issue with shutting this shit down and going home or to bed or whatever you want to say and however you want to say it. Kazoom says both ANCAPs and communists believe in things that only work on paper. Neither can work in reality. Anybody want to add a thought to that?
Communism works really well in China.
It's pretty good.
It
I mean,
actually
it
didn't
does.
work that well.
Can I
That's
say
what they-
something about?
they
Yeah,
had
well, it's
to
working pretty good
increasingly
now.
capitalize.
But wait, can I say something
more that
about the
society-
whole ANCAP thing quick?
Yeah.
Like, so just to clear it up for Buckaroo or try to. So, and Fabian, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's all sort of based on like voluntary association. So, like, that's kind of the principle of anarchism, right? Like,
Right.
people
I
voluntarily engage in this.
understand
There's
that
no
part,
enforcement in that sense. But wait, let me just make a point. A good way to push back on that might be, why do people not voluntarily choose to associate in such an organized model? And it's because doing so limits you really to possessing just really your own, at most, I would say, property, which in theoretically is somehow evenly distributed, like land, which is somehow evenly distributed. And then everybody would produce only commodities that they make on their own, or commodities that they could trade with someone else in some sort of perfectly equal bartering system. It's just not something that really can exist in reality
Right,
in
this
this
was what I
perfect
was trying
and
to
civil
ask.
way. I
This
know, but a
was
lot of it was like yelling, and it just sounded like a little like
yelling. Well,
some
most
weird-
of it was yelling over me.
And
I
you
was
wore a lot of
literally just
sunglasses.
explicitly
name
asking the
calling's
question
really not
while people
super
spoke
helpful
over
either.
me until they couldn't hear me anymore. And
I
then
don't
they
know,
all
Fabian,
said
what
that
do
I
you
didn't
think?
understand philosophy.
You know, I
So,
think that's a.
really,
I think
can I
that's.
ask a question, please?
I think that's a straw man of my position, right? I don't think that anarchism requires.
I got a drink for every time he
in-
said that.
I don't think that. Well, I mean, there's a lot of straw mans of my positions. That's not really my fault.
I want to hear it.
I don't think it I don't think that there is this. I don't understand where I'm just curious, so I'll turn it into a question. Where are you getting the belief that individuals have to like produce commodities on their own as opposed to collectively for some reason?
Well, so I guess in a strict Marxian sense, like, I'm going on the assumption that what you're saying is commodities, commodities contain exploitation. That's like sort of one of the main thrusts of Marxism, right?
All right, guys,
Is
I'm gonna let him
Right,
finish.
right, but, like,
and ask
set that
one last
assuming that
question,
the
trying
and
to set
then
my
we'll
shit
still
as
the
good as
Q&A. Because
Well, I'm just saying, I'm coming from that lens. That's probably why it's appearing that way. It's like,
Well, I mean,
so
you can moralize it all you want, right? Like, I don't care if you moralize it right now. I just want to know why you believe, from an internal critique perspective, why ANCAPs believe or would agree with the concept that commodities need to be made at an individual level as opposed to in any other form of communal level or in a co-op or any of these other systems that we believe are commiserate with.
No, to be fair, I
anarcho-capitalism.
probably overlooked that, honestly. I mean, because I'm coming from a Marxian perspective.
Right.
I sort of just baked that into my analysis. But no, I'm sure an ANCAP would say, well,
Don't
if
worry,
there's
Scott, I'm not
voluntary,
gonna
I guess
feed
what
you
you're
ego.
trying to say is, ANCAPs would argue, so all commodities could be voluntarily produced in some sort of collective ownership model. And again, I would argue that, okay, that would require like a voluntary agreement and association at a level of such sophistication that it could be mutually self-sustaining, like in a way that I just would argue is not practical or possible.
Well, no. So I'll give you an example, right? We don't believe in communal property, but that doesn't mean that an ANCAP society couldn't have an ESOP, right? Like, there's no reason that you couldn't have an employee that is given dividends or stock options or voting options on the direction of a company, and then that, you know, bakery or that, you know, factory or whatever that could be an ESOP. It's just, we believe in the liberty of the capitalist owner to own a factory A, and factory B might be unionized and be an ESOP model or whatever. And we'll see who produces the, you know, the widgets at a faster, cheaper, higher quality rate.
I love playing pretend.
Like,
I mean, I would
want to do.
I know this is very Marxian, but I would say like commodities are produced for two reasons. It's for use and exchange, right? To just put it really simply. So if someone is going to produce a commodity, they're going to go through the effort of making something. It's because they either can use it or they can trade it. And so in your model, from my perspective, which you don't have to agree to, I'm just saying this is my view. From my perspective, I would say that you can't you can't have some scenario where all commodities are exchanged on an equal basis such that someone's labor power isn't exploited to some extent. Someone isn't monopolizing trade in some way or dominating trade some way or winning in trade in some way such that they acquire more commodities or more collective labor power than everyone else, because just the incentive to try and I guess succeed or let me I want to be careful in how I say this. The incentive to outproduce your contemporaries in such a society, if there's not a basis of like equivalent communal equality spirit, you know, like there's too much. Do you see what I'm saying? It's not coming out.
Yeah,
right,
like I know them. I know the Marxist position fairly well. I would, if we were just you and me debating, which we're not, and I want to get other people in here, I would reject the theory of exploitation, and I would reject the Marxian analysis that it leads towards a monopolization of the labor market or of that, like economically speaking. But I get what you're saying. I think is that if my system were to come to fruition, that the inevitability economically, like just in a realistic position, eventually leads towards the monopolization of the labor market and things of that nature. I disagree with that just fundamentally, and that's like a separate debate. But I get where you're coming from, but I would just prefer that if you're going to internal critique my system, that it doesn't come with the conclusions of a Marxian analysis, because then that kind of stops being an internal critique.
Yeah, it's hard for me.
Sarah, I gotta head out. Can I just say my last piece and then I gotta skedaddle?
Sure, Soy, go ahead.
Yeah, Fabian, do you think that the state-mandated age of consent is political violence?
I think that the state-mandated age of consent will always be an arbitrary number. So yes, I've always argued for this. I think
Chat, clip this.
What we should have is 2 ages of consent, as far as I'm concerned. I think the age of consent for sex and certain things should be around 25 without parental permission. And I think that what you should have is you should have parents be able to co-sign for their children. I think it's ridiculous that an 18-year-old can go into debt for student loan debt. I think it's ridiculous that I do view 18, 19-year-old girls and boys, for example, as children in many way. And I think it's fucking creepy when 35, 40-year-olds are able to have sex with them and go, oh, they turned 18. Isn't that magic number? I think parental involvement should be involved there as guardians.
That? That's crazy.
Well,
Fabian, you've subverted my expectations. I respect that way more than most libertarians.
We already
I knew you were gonna like his answer, so
we already enforce.
I gotta skedaddle. Bye, everyone. It's been fun.
We already enforce the age of consent.
I'll go with Soy. Thanks for debating.
So,
woo! Are you happy? Are you fucking happy? Did you have a good time, everybody? We're having fun. Don't lose heart, Soy. Not all libertarians are this bad. I don't believe you. Hold on, let me turn off the piss filter. Jesus Christ, it looks awful. Filters, edit filters, color key, bam. Okay. Well, that sure was a debate that I participated in. Two things are going to happen now. I'm going to talk to you guys, and I'm going to try to put on as many of these hats behind me as I can. I hope you guys had fun, because I had a headache, but I had a little fun. Good thing I got all those clips, guys. I clip farmed so well, my channel's going to explode from this debate that totally is the reason I gained subscribers, and not the thing that I actually spend hours of my life on, which is writing and editing and making a long-form video that actually makes me money. But yeah, I'm a clip farmer, as you know. Fabian's sexism derailed everything. I mean, he wasn't explicitly sexist. He just kept saying bitch and being mean to Papa. I'm the clip king. If you were to give the concept of debating a score out of 10, 2. Absolutely. I paid for 2 horses. Thanks, buddy. How many hats do you have? Well, let's see. All right, be right back, guys. I'm going to grab all the hats. All right. Okay. So I'll chat with you while I put these on. I'm not going to make you wait. Oh, I missed one. Oh. This is going to make my head sweaty. How am I going to keep this these headphones on while I do this? This is going to be hard. Let's see. A lot of arguments through contempt, yeah. Do you feel like you need to shower after these debates? Only because my my lights are really sweaty. Oh, I guess I don't have to hear you. I can take these off. Okay, cool. I can just talk. Take it off? Absolutely not. All right. We're starting off with the Tim Pool beanie. Watching from the People's Republic of Australia. Sorry. How the fuck does someone like Fabian form? Just divorce and no hobbies. I guess that's kind of part of it. Can I buy a hat? So Allie, I don't sell. I sell these hats. These hats are for sale. They're on my channel store page. These hats, these spinny ones, I cannot find a wholesaler, but I have bought a bunch of them because if anyone goes to my like mega tier, it's like someone asked me to, because they wanted to give a lot of money to me to make a mega tier, and I said, that's insane. Can I do something for you? And they said, how about a signed hat? So that is something I'll send to people, but this hat is not worth the mega tier. That is an added benefit of I'll sign the hat and send it to you. But I'm not trying to sell those unless I guess I could start buying a bunch and shipping them to people, but that's wild. Also, I guess I should put this on first because it's going to cover a bunch of the other hats. We need a strong base. A strong Mario base. How much is mega tier? It's like 100 a month. Some 2 insane people now have decided they want to pay me a lot of money a month, which I really appreciate. But I've double checked on both. Hey, you guys like can afford this, right? This is fucking wild. Soy, you should do your own. You should make your own protein powder. I'm not gonna do that. There's plenty of good. I don't even like protein powder. If you watch my video, I talk about how I don't even think protein powder is like worth the money, so I absolutely would not sell it to you guys. Soy, I'm gonna have to drop the chair down. Yeah, I saw that. Thank you, Duck. Where's the L brother hat? L brother. Oh, Luigi brother. I don't have that one. Is Luigi not allowed? Is that word censored? Thanks to Mr. Luigi. That's wild. All right, well, hold on. Maybe you guys want to see all of these first. Okay, so we've got Soy Pill merch hat. We've got Make America Healthy Again hat, which I won in my Georgia video. We've got a hat that just says truck, because I thought it was funny. That's a custom one. No one else was making those, so that goes on the Mario. We've got a Bernie hat from the Bernie rally in 2020 in San Francisco. Pink, of course. God, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get these all on, guys. Hell yeah, truck brother! Wow! All right, let's see. Can I get these all on? Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, fuck. Hold on. Before I put on the spinny hats, I just saw one that I missed. My obvious Please Be Patient, I Have Autism hat. That one's lying off to the side. Okay. We can do this. You need a... Oh, my God. I should get a Jeb hat. That's smart. Smart. Good decisions. Okay. How many... Is this stolen valor? I think I technically have autism. All right, here we go. Here we go. All right. All right. They're all on. This really hurts, guys. One that says please clap. Oh, no. Oh, they're falling. Jesus Christ. I don't know if I can get like a side profile here. Oh, my neck is going to get so strong. Ah! Chat, clip that. Clip that, chat. All right, I got to pick one of these to put on. I can't keep these on. Oh, Christ. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I look like a xenomorph a little bit, yeah. Do I have autism? A little? Yeah, my mom took Tylenol. Guys, oh my God, it's so fucking wild. Did you guys see this? this like oh, now I'm a short king down here. Do you guys see the conference today where they're like announcing that Tylenol causes it? I think already some doctors have come out like with this big statement like, no, this isn't true, no, this is ridiculous. But what's funny is that Trump couldn't even like pronounce acetaminophen. He's like, frankly, a lot of this acetasem, I can't even say the thing, but it turns out it's Tylenol. I really hope this, I mean, thank God they didn't say it about vaccines. It just causes like massive anti-vax waves. But I guess like pregnant women are just now going to take ibuprofen. Ibuprofen's not the same as acetaminophen, right? Ibuprofen versus acetaminophen. Ibuprofen is anti-inflammatory. Yeah, okay. So ibuprofen specifically the anti-inflammatory. But yeah, it's just ridiculous. What else is going on? Tomorrow I'm going to call into a show doing a voice. So if you subscribe to Brian Shapiro, he is pushing the limits. I met him at the Unfuck America. I'll be on his show at 12:30, but you know, that's neither here nor there. You'll probably see a clip. What else is going on? Well, we have the visa policy. The H-1B thing is wild to me. I don't know how fast that's going to be implemented. They said it was going to be an annual fee of $100,000, which would just cause so many of these companies to like make all these people self-deport. And then they're like, no, it's a one-time fee. So they also said that there's going to be like exceptions, like the executive branch would be like, oh, we have a deal. So you know how like Microsoft and Zuckerberg are like working their way in to Trump's inner circle with all these deals. Like it's just gonna be like, oh, except for you guys don't have to pay for the H-1B, so you can have all your cheap labor. But it's so fucking ridiculous because you hang out with these people, and like I've been in these circles, and these like some of the hardest working people, like very, very intelligent people who just want to like pathway to citizenship. They make it as hard as possible, and now they're gonna make them all self-deport based on this just bullshit xenophobia garbage. There's an actual legitimate argument that Bernie made about how they're like exploited, but then just fucking just pay them more then. Fuck. Death Awaits, by the way, Death Awaits, met her in person, pleasant gal, but she was the one who got called out by that transphobe in line. I felt really bad. She handled it real well. I'm glad I wasn't near him. I would have like strong-armed it away, but Erudite handled it, and then Destiny actually handled it really well. But my highlights of the Unfuck, just meeting everyone in person. Like these creators are really, really cool people. Like getting to talking to MAGA like they're toddlers and getting them to be quiet was really funny. I was like, you go up and you whisper and you're like, hey, I know you guys are yelling, but like maybe we can just all be very on the same page here, and I'll ask your question. And they're just like, whoa, wow, oh, this guy's listening to me. I got to be quiet. That was fun. But yeah, just the people there were awesome. They all have really, really good beliefs, and I even met some like people that I probably wouldn't agree with on a lot of things, but just the fact that they're anti-MAGA is interesting. So pull out Pickle Rick. Pull him out what? He's right there. You can see him. You don't need to see anything. It's amazing how present they can be if you emotionally appeal to them. Yeah, but the problem is once you like get down to the arguments, like you'll lose them immediately. Like I had the whole video on this where it's like, yeah, I can emotionally appeal to you, but the instant I like mention the word Democrat, you're just brain poison, so it doesn't matter anymore. But yeah, there's lots of ways to reach out to these people. Non-fun, you're not streaming, are you? I wanted to raid into you when we were done here, but it looks like you're not. I see you in chat. Ibuprofen isn't good for you? Is that true? Chat, is this true? I was unironically saying chat, but I was also unironically saying. I was ironically and unironically saying it. I hate saying it, though. Don't actually clip any of that. It was all stupid. Please don't. Tylenol is terrible for your liver. Yeah, if you take like a lot of it. Mildly muscular mom. By the way, I hope your $10 was worth it. The hat stack. I hope you got a good screenshot of that. I'm having a mental health episode, so I'm gonna go play CS. Yeah, that'll calm you down. Counter-Strike, the place where there's not known to be just the most like degenerate, awful people on comms. That'll be fun. I threw up on ibuprofen, so I don't know. Well, you're supposed to eat it, not throw up on it. You can call us chat. Nah, you're my swipers. I'm not gonna call you chat. Clip channel win. Ugh. Someone can make. I think someone's made a clip channel of me or something. I'm just so over all the bullshit. It's insane. Yeah, a lot of stuff's happening. As soon as I get my Democrat video out, now I'm really kind of wanting to talk about political violence. But we'll see. The political zeitgeist might shift so fast I lose my passion immediately. But I'm working on the other one, so that one's getting recorded tomorrow. Soy hosting silly topic panel win. That's every panel, buddy. Sorority. Oh my god. I used to take 4 ibuprofen every night after football practice. What the fuck, Devin? Jesus Christ. You're lucky you're so big, dude. That would have killed a small soccer player. Do you call the money you make from the channel Soylent Green? I will now. I have work early, so I have to go. Good night, Allie. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Yeah, I'm going to take off here. Any last-minute questions? I'll give you guys 4 minutes to ask last-minute questions before I take off for the night. I got to get some rest, maybe watch a show, and I want to record my video tomorrow. And just a reminder for all the people leaving, if you want to see something stupid happen, go watch Pushing the Limits live radio show, 12:30 PST tomorrow. Soy, what do you think America will be like by the time Trump is gone? I'm very optimistic that when Trump dies, they're not going to be able to recover the same populism and charisma, and it's just going to turn into boring neocons again, which are still bad and we need to fight back on. But he will not have the same cult, I don't think. I'm hoping. People are already like anti-JD Vance. Trash Dan, people, why do everyone ask me my favorite dinosaur? It's the Leopleurodon, and you guys say it doesn't count, and I say fuck you, it counts. Death Awaits, what show? Pushing the Limits with Brian. Hold on. Just so you know. I'll bring it up here. Pushing the Limits. Pushing the Limits. This is a Brian Shapiro show. And I'm going to call in tomorrow at 12:30 PST. If you want to have a fun little rompy-roo. Go back to intermission. Bring this back. One sec, guys. Playing around with stuff. Kirk video. I don't know. I guess it would be a Kirk video, but it's my Democrat video. The Kirk video, it's still in the concepts of a plan phase. Kill, Marry, Fuck, Family Guy, Simpsons, South Park? Ooh. Does it involve every season? I think I'd kill South Park because there's most South Park I don't like, even though there's a lot of good South Park. Most of it I don't like. I think I'd marry The Simpsons seasons 1 through 9, and I'd fuck Family Guy. Because even though there's a lot of bad Family Guy, there's a lot of good Family Guy too. Do I think I won my IRL debate with Destiny? No. I don't think anyone won that. I wasn't trying to win. I wasn't trying to convince him. I was trying to like get him to clarify it, like, and not keep dodging to the Trump thing. But it wasn't like I'm trying to beat you and show you that you're wrong. Obviously we disagree on the calculus as to whether or not he's highlighting Trump's hypocrisy better than he's alienating people. But it seemed like he wouldn't definitively say that's what he was trying to do, like what his end goal was. But it doesn't matter at this point. It's not worth talking about anymore. More important bad things to worry about than whether or not this guy's optically bad. I got school early, so I'm heading off. Appreciate the genuine content. See you, Benjamin. JD Vance has no charisma. True. Oh, true. Technically, it doesn't count. Fuck you, Leopleurodon haters. Oh, yeah. You guys got a Big Daddy spam now every time I accidentally tab into my wallpaper, I guess. Soy, have you seen... Yeah, you don't have to catch it live, Death Awaits. Have you seen the supposed Bioshock movie? They've been talking about a Bioshock movie since 2008. It's not happening. And if it does, it'll be bad. I got off work an hour ago, and I'm still wired to hell high. Hell, yeah, I don't know why you would use my debates to wind down. Please don't. Unless you just like... someone told me... I did that debate, not debate, Jesus, see. I'm trying to talk about streams and I just immediately go to debate. I did a stream with Erudite and she said people really liked our chemistry and like, oh, you're like the trolley but still serious. And then she's like the more grounded person. And then she told me, oh, do more chatting streams like this, just like more of this. So I'd totally be open if you guys are interested. I mean, clearly you're still here, doing more like news coverage, talking to you guys. I really do like interacting. This is fine. As soon as it becomes like 500, 1,000, 1,500, I'm just like, fuck, like I don't recognize any of these names. I'm only looking at the super chats and the members, and it just feels so like way more parasocial than it already is. But I'd be willing to do more streams like this. I do like talking to you guys. You do have a job, Death Awaits. Well, you should have said something. Happy Rosh Hashanah. What is that? Some Jew holiday? Kill, marry, fuck dinosaurs. Well, you can't just pick every dinosaur. Do I have a P.O. box? I don't. How do you set up a P.O. box? How do I set up a P.O. box? How to get P.O. box? I don't want anyone to mail me ricin. You apply online at my local post office, pick up your keys, and get mail. Huh. You have to pay for it. I have to pay for your lovely gifts and fan mail? I don't know, guys. I just realized I've been putting my full address on my return for people that I mail the hats to. So please don't dox me, especially because it's not the current address I live at. Maybe someone else I care about lives there. It was putting me to sleep. Well, better than getting you wound up. Was literally about to ask if you do this. I like this more than the yelling, but I'm new to this type of political content. I would want to cover things. So like my Charlie Kirk stream obviously did well because everyone was like, what the fuck's going on? I want to know this guy's opinion on it. But I do like covering like current events and people like, oh shit, like, should I be worried about this? I just don't want to be like a react person, like, what's going on? I like the idea of something happened. Let's talk about what are the implications of this? What's going to happen? And that's how I like keep up to date with the news. So that could be fun. But I also don't want to be like a bad influence as to like maybe I'm not learning the right way and then you guys get misinformed and I'm misinforming you. So it's scary. You're the himbo to Erudite's high IQ. How dare you call me low IQ? Erudite and I have similar amounts of degrees. You go to the post office. Oh, is that why it's called a P.O. box? I feel so fine. Right after that degree comment. I never thought about that. Hold on. Is it really just post office box? Holy shit. It's just post office box. Oh no. But I thought you could have a P.O. box at other places. Like you could just have like a mailbox at like non-US post office affiliated places, which is why I didn't think it was post office box. Wow, I'm stupid. Guess I am a himbo. I already know your name's Soy. It's good, true. Death awaits. You could dox the shit out of me. So many fun things I want to send. You know, now that you say it, okay, hold on. Let me look how much this would cost. Let me just read out my address. Okay. Let me just double check that you guys can't see it. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Premium P.O. Box services. Guys, do I get an XL? Do I get a 11 square inches? Holy shit, guys. Jesus Christ. $568 a year? I can't afford this right now. I can't even get the XL. What's the smallest size? Yeah, $250 a year, guys? Sorry, I really can't. I can't. I mean, I can. But, like, Look, right now I'm not living paycheck to paycheck, but I'm trying to make sure that my finances are in order. And having paid taxes, I'm got to ramp up the production before I start throwing a $1,000, $1,000 at the ability for you to send me fun stuff. As much as that would be fun. Cost depends on size. Yeah, it does. When you send mail to a PO box, you just need the box number. Yep. I have a sunk cost fallacy with these streams, but it's so fun I come back. Well, thank you, Curse Kitty. I'm not ignoring you, Jesse Allen. They have P.O. boxes in areas other than post offices. See? I knew Soy's name when we did a debate about the post office together, but now we all know it, and I'm no longer special. Well, non-fun, maybe I'll tell you a special secret about me, and no one else on stream can know, and it'll be our little secret. That sounds weird and creepy. Enigmas never age, non-fun. You can do it at a tag agency. Yeah, see, it doesn't have to be post office. He lives at Freddy Fazbear Plaza. True. My Magnum P.O. box for my monster fan mail. I lived too close to my post office to even open one. Yeah, I live pretty close to it too. I just don't want to give you guys my real address. I want the secret. Sorry, Danny, you don't know me in real life. I know a special Soy secret. You do? What do you know? Did I tell you something that no one else knows? What the fuck? Just because we met in real life? I don't know what I told you. Now I'm scared. If you can try, I'd go for an Atriotic collab. I've heard of him. That was miserable to watch. Well, thanks for trying. Shit, I missed you saying my name, Jesse Allen. I just mentioned I'd love to hear you talk more about animal suffering. I think I'll make a vegan video at some point. That'll be like, maybe if I do the lab-grown meat video, which I will do at a certain point, I will be talking about animal suffering, and that'll be like my impetus to finally just go full vegan. But maybe that won't happen until the lab-grown meat's commercially available. Cameo mention? Did someone mention my cameo? I do have a cameo. Okay, Death Awaits, give me a hint as to what you think you know about me that I wouldn't have told someone. Someone mentioned post, like postal games? No, post office. Yeah, it'd be a vegan video. I should go vegan. I really should. It's like just hypocritical as fuck. Actually, that's what I would have debated Charlie if he was still alive on. Because that's just like, it's like the easiest debate ever. Like there's no good reason for you to cause extra animal suffering. And then he starts bringing out the, well, don't you know these cows wouldn't be alive if we didn't, you know, eat meat? It's just like, is Soy secretly a costume vigilante? If I was, I wouldn't tell you. The good thing about catching a stream late is that you can skip forward every time Gibbs starts talking. Oh God, I can't because it will give. You can't give me a hint. I need to know what you know. It's actually kind of worrying me. What secret did I tell you? What the fuck? What the fuck is going on? But yeah, guys, when I'm like much more financially comfortable, I'll open a PO box and then you guys can send me stuff. But that's pretty fucking expensive from what I can see. Lab-grown meat and bugs don't weird me out. Is that bad? No, not at all. It's weird that it's like, oh, lobster, that's fine. But once the bugs are tiny, then it's fucked up. It's hard to be a vegetarian in Mongolia. Oh yeah, 100%. It's going to be harder there. It's not. I know it's not a bad secret. Just give me a hint. Like, give me a noun. Just like a noun that would like even be like associate. We're playing word games like taboo. Okay. You and your financial responsibility. Well, hey, I didn't say that I was financially responsible. I bought a. Oh, guys, here's a secret. I was at the Ren Fair. Here's a treat for you guys. I'm gonna show you my Ren Fair outfit, which was not financially responsible, which was enough to buy a year's worth of PO box altogether. Give me 1 sec. All right, so I'm not gonna show you the holster because it's not that big a deal. I don't want to put like the whole costume on. I got my Duelerino piratey pistols. Okay, they're very weighty and fun. I don't know if you can show that on stream, but then you can guess what's coming with this hat. All right, because you're like, what is the soy pill at the Ren Fair? Is he a knight? Is he a wizard? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The soy pill at the Ren Fair is for sure a bard. He's a bard and he plays bard music. I would follow people around with this melodica and I'd do the how's it go? Fuck. All right, it's hard to do while I'm distracted, but yeah, I love doing that shit. All right, so anyway, someone was asking a real question. Victoria's Secret, Secret Service. Oh, okay. It pertains to my identity. There's a secret that pertains to your identity. What the fuck? Oh my god, just DM me on fucking Patreon and tell me what the fuck this is. Anyway, had a great time. But yeah, so once I'm more financially stable, I'll set up a PO box. But for now, that's a lot of money to throw at. It would otherwise be lots of love that I would assume I could get from you. But performance anxiety, yeah, definitely. What color Magic the Gathering deck do I play? I've got a bunch. I've got a red, blue, coin flip deck. That's the heads I win, tails you lose. I've got an all black sack deck with I don't know, one of those Phyrexian Dominuses. I've got an all red Solthim double non-combat damage deck, and then I have. There's one more. Oh, Mr. House, duh, from Fallout. Coin dice roll deck. Melodica is objectively the best. It's so annoying, but it's very like all the songs sound like you know, medievally when you play it on the Melodica. So I can DM you on Blue Sky or Insta. Yeah, do that, Deathweights. Good protein with less immediate ethical concerns. What? The best middle ground is bugs? That's not middle ground if you believe in animal suffering. They're still suffering. Come on. I'm Batman? Of course I'm not Batman. Hawaii is dope. They're doing good until we brought them problems. Yeah, I heard that rich people are just buying up all the island crap and doing awful things to it, so not a big fan. Can bugs suffer? Can't they? Don't they literally feel pain? I'm assuming they writhe around wildly when you like rip their legs off, but you know, it depends on which one. Yeah, just eat lentils. I know. All right, guys. I'm gonna skedaddle. So like I said, I'm gonna record the new video tomorrow, so that'll be edited and hopefully out with like in 7 days. And it looks like oh my god, if it was 5,000 views a day every day until day 30, I would reach the 200,000 threshold on my workout video. But it looks like it's not gonna make it, so I'll probably have to throw another Surfshark ad in my next video. Sorry if you don't like those, but I try to make them entertaining. Gonna call into Pushing the Limits tomorrow at 12:30 PST, and I should text him, see if everything's all good for that. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just gonna keep working. And I think there's a debate on Thursday. What is the WIC debate on Thursday? Something hopefully better. Let me double check this real quick. Right-wing cancel culture. Okay, yeah, that's fun. So we're going to be talking about the idea of like these right-wingers, like making an equivalence between Jimmy Fallon being pressured by federal organizations and, you know, like saying, I don't want to buy your stuff, which is so stupid. But that'll be fun. And let's see, we understand soy, get that bag so that you can open the P.O. box. Yeah, that's my next goal. Like usually I look forward to a thing I'll buy. Right now it's like a better car, and that'll happen in a long time. Then it'll be a house, but before both of those now is going to be P.O. box. I'm really excited. Okay, anyway, have a great night, guys. Look out for me on that show. I'll maybe see you Thursday. Type 1 to end the deep state, and have a wonderful